Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sunday Premier Series at the UKSimRacing community. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's back for its 12th season to kick off 2024. It is none other than the GT3 League, brought to you by UKSimRacing and hosted on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. We are back for another 8-round season, and with things having recently cooled from the inaugural Championship League season of what was the GT3 GTP Championship, well, we're back to just focusing on the GT3s, and it could not be closer. Over 60 drivers have signed up for this season. We've got 4 driver classes. That's right, the introduction of an all-new class on the grid, which you're going to be seeing, known as the Pro-Am class, sandwiching its way in between the Am and the Pro classes. And on top of that as well, a calendar now that consists of 3 endurance race rounds and 5 sprint race rounds. And we begin it all today here in the US of A at the one and only Daytona International Speedway. Located in the Sunshine State of Florida, this circuit brings together the best of both worlds of road racing in the USA circuit, in the fact that you've got the infamous infield section absolutely packed with low speed corners, particularly hairpins, and also one rather tricky kink as well between the 2 major hairpins. And we've also got over 80% of the oval being run, only interrupted by a rather tricky bus stop chicane. But in all, it means that our drivers will be put to the test with regards to both their technical ability in the infield, their ability to set up the car to balance out straight line speed versus cornering capability, and of course their strategic ability with this opening round of the season being the endurance race round. And we've got plenty of race in store for you as our drivers get set, and we are only approximately 17 minutes away from going to our qualifying session. We're welcoming you all to this live broadcast brought to you from Circuit Side, available on 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you could be tuning in right now via the official UKSimRacing YouTube channel, and that would be youtube.com and search for UKSR, alternatively UKSimRacing. And we say hello and welcome to you all tuning in via the YouTube, which does include, of course, Stargore Living, also Nikolai Argard. And also say hello there to Thomas Asphaug, and I do believe that's everyone, and also Anders Meyer, who we could forget, our Norwegian contingent there in the YouTube chat, cheering on RacingLab Esports, no doubt about it. But if you're not a YouTube user, perhaps you're more Twitch inclined, you could also be tuning in right now via the official Twitch media platform, as hosted by UKSimRacing. That's at twitch.tv/UKSR or UKSimRacing, and that is where we're bringing you all the race action as well. And hello to you guys and girls on Twitch, including GZen High, who's been remarking on, of course, the wonderful intro video put together by none other than Matt Edmondson, who you're going to be seeing on the grid today, racing in the Am class, or Medma as he's known in the YouTube chat. And he does say hello there, and give a round of applause to Matt Edmondson, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Without him, we couldn't have those absolutely stellar intro videos. Indeed, he teases up for what a season we have got ahead. For all of the racing over the course of this season, it's going to be brought to you by myself in the commentary booth. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action starting today, and let's take you through that calendar season. And as we can see here, we start off today on the 7th of January with our endurance race at Daytona. After today, we make our way to Europe for the one and only time this season. Now we're to take on the Hockenheiming Baden-Württemberg Grand Prix circuit in our first sprint race round on the 14th of January. And then we do have our mid-season break week, which will run onto the 21st of January, and that is to respect the fact we have the upcoming 24 hours of Daytona as hosted on the iRacing official events. But we'll return for round number 3 at the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit on the 28th of January. Another sprint. It's definitely going to be a super sprint, there's no doubt about it, with 60 minutes of race in Japan, where we make our way back to United States of America, indeed going to and fro across the Pacific Ocean for the Sebring International Raceway. Now be on the 4th of February, the bumpy surface of the circuit definitely trying to upset our drivers, but they're not upset by that. It may be the sweeping corners and the curves of Road Atlanta, the roller coaster ride of road racing in the US of A and the state of Georgia. That will see our drivers take to the circuit for our second endurance race round of the season on the 11th of February. And we'll make our way back to Japan for the Okayama circuit, our second and final visit to Japan. And indeed, recently revamped on iRacing, having a whole overhaul of its graphics, and we'll get to see the circuit in its full splendour of all drives for around 6 of 8 on the 18th of February in what will be our penultimate sprint race round of the season, before we make our way down under to neighbouring Australia for the Mount Panorama Raceway. But you all know and love it and refer to it as Bathurst in reference to the local township, and that'll be round 7 and 8 in our final endurance race round of the season on the 25th of February. We bring it all to a close with a quick sprint at the Circuit of the Americas, or COTA as it's known, as our drivers will make their way to the US state of Texas to do the Texas two-step, but who's going to dance their way to success on the 3rd of March to complete the season and come away our crowned champions. Well, it's a quick, it's a hard and fast season. We've got plenty of racing ahead, and we get it all underway today. And well, let's introduce our host circuit, of course, and here it is, Circuit Map provided by iRacing.com, of course, and thank you to iRacing for their brilliant simulator and the track maps that come with it. Our circuit, Daytona International Speedway, the road course of which, the modernised road course, located near the city of Daytona, Daytona Beach in Volusia County of Florida in the US of A, spanning the best part of 12 corners of 3.56 miles. This is a circuit, as we said earlier, that brings together the best elements of oval racing and infield road racing as well. And as our drivers make the way around here, it's all going to be about setting up the car in order to maximise the top end speed around the oval, but also giving yourself enough control through the corners to be able to get through them unscathed when it comes to instance and getting it wrong. As our drivers charged away across the start finish line and into turn number 1, it's the long trail braking zone, which will see our drivers going to the extended left-hander, trail braking all the way to a very late apex before they power their way out through the kinks to turns 2 and 3. There we could see plenty of 2-1 as they barrel their way down towards the horseshoe hairpin at turn number 4, and hard and fast on the brakes they'll go before making their way out of the corner and up through the kink of 5. The King of 5, a corner can very easily upset mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars such as the Audi R8 or 30, the Porsche 992, but those who get it right will make the way towards the second hairpin at turn number 6, a very late apex there, and looking to brake as late as possible once again as our drivers then make the trip up towards turn number 7. 90 left, you could argue it is, where it is a right-angle corner. It's a left-hander as well as they make the way out the corner and onto the oval. There's going to be a gap getting the best possible exit and getting to the draft of your rivals as you make the way through the banking of turn number 8 and up towards the bus stop chicane of turns 9, 10 and 11, when it's the left-right, right-left combination, which is all about carrying the speed through and making sure to get that throttle fully down and charge out to turn number 11 as our drivers barrel their way onto the second oval bank into turn number 12 to complete lap and do it all over again. Indeed, we have seen that season after season. It has come down to fine margins in both qualifying the races, and we have had multiple photo finishes here at Daytona. Could we see another one of those today? Indeed, perhaps the one that always stands in memory is the photo finish between the Protec Motorsport team, which in the end saw some surprises in amongst the team and indeed the elite field all the way back in season 8, if my memory serves me correctly, and I do believe that was between Sam Sherwood and Ryan Moles, but I may be challenged on that. But let's give you a quick reminder of our rules, and we do have some rule changes in effect this season. And as we can see, starting off today, car setup wise, as per usual, drivers are not permitted to change their car during the season. So whichever car you see them take to the grid today, that will be the car they're locked into for the entirety of the season, with 8 manufacturers available, ranging from Audi all the way to Ford. There's certainly going to be variety. We've got the new kid on the block, the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2. It's replaced at long last the old 2015 Audi R8 LMS, and a number of drivers are going to feature in it, and indeed it's the ultimate evolution of the German Marks machine, which will be retired from GT3 racing by the sounds of things in the coming years, with Audi focusing their attention more towards Formula 1. We'll have to wait and see whether that truly prevails. Indeed, we're going to be seeing the car honoured in iRacing in memory forever. Indeed, our drivers are going to be using it today. In terms of car fuel loads, they shall be restricted to 70% for all races. Indeed, we've seen the fuel load go up slightly from the original 50% to 70%, and that gives our drivers a little bit more strategic versatility when it comes to the races, whether they be the sprints or the endurance races. We should also point out this is an open setup series, and therefore our drivers bring setups to their choosing to each and every racing session. And in qualifying for our endurance race rounds, we'll see an open qualifying format being used lasting 30 minutes as split into 2 equal halves. The first 15 minutes shall be for the Am and Prime classes, and it's going to get busy on the circuit there, and they're going to be laying down the rubber for the second half of the qualifying session, which shall see in the second 15 minutes, or what is the 16th minute through to the 30th minute, the Pro and Elite classes going out there and looking to set down the best times. Now, drivers may not reset to the pits outside of the pit lane. Doing so shall end their qualifying session. It means if our drivers do want to come into the pits to change the setup, put a new set of tyres on and put some more fuel in the car, they've got to come into the pit lane and be within the pit limiter lines before they're allowed to reset to their pit box. We're trying to make the pit stops as realistic as possible, and therefore our drivers do have that risk versus reward, of course, which is they make contact with a wall out on circuit and potentially damage the suspension of the car. If they can't limp the car home, they have to be towed, then that's their qualifying session done and dusted, and will go their best possible time previously set. Now, we should also point out, race-wise in general, the races shall commence via a double-file rolling start, which is the tradition, of course, of the UKSimRacing GT3 League. There are no mandatory pit stop requirements. Indeed, our drivers choose when to pit, but we're expecting at least 1, if not 2 pit stops today, given this is a 90-minute endurance race round. And each driver has 1 fast repair available, and all race journeys shall be conducted post-race. And we should point out as well that in terms of instant points, a maximum of 23 may be accrued before our drivers receive a drive-through penalty for misdemeanours. So everybody absolutely set and ready to go. And as we look back to our live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, well, the circuit right now falling quiet. All the drivers in the pit lane, it should be pointed out, and they're currently going through the driver briefing, and that gives us a perfect time to take you through the schedule for tonight, timed in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time at UTC. And as we can see, it will be in just under 9 minutes time. We go into our first qualifying session of the season, 30 minutes in duration, as split into 2 equal halves, and we look forward to seeing who is going to be the one with the 1 lap pace in their choice of machine, and who can potentially take that through to victory, because afterwards we go straight to the grid for our 90-minute endurance race at half-past 8. And well, whilst it's cool in here at Daytona, I can tell you one thing, it's going to be boiling hot by the time we go green flag racing. And with the best part of 59 drivers currently in attendance, we are expecting perhaps one or two more to creep on in before all is said and done. It does mean we've got an absolutely packed out grid here, and I do believe 60 out of 60 slots have been filled by participating drivers for this season, so it means there is no corner that's going to be left unturned in terms of battling, and we have got a thriller here today. But as we do say hello there to Haggis Hunter and UKSimRacing Chris Eddersford in the Twitch chat. Haggis Hunter saying, good evening all, looking forward to some good race. Indeed, we are as well, Haggis, and I hope you're doing well. Indeed, to all you guys and girls tuning in, I hope you've had a fantastic Christmas, and you had a great start to 2024, and if you haven't had a great start, well, this is definitely going to turn that frown upside down and into a smile, and let's get our sim race experience at UKSimRacing off to a thriller here in our opening round of the 12th season of the GT3 League. Now, as all of our drivers sit currently in the pit lane, we've got an absolutely crowded pits, it must be said, albeit we are just waiting to see who will leave the pit lane very shortly. And well, as our drivers do sit there right now going through the briefing, most of the drivers in the cars, some deciding to get out of their cars, we have got plenty of drivers to introduce to you. Indeed, we have a number of big returning names. We've got some regulars, but we've also got some newcomers. And well, to take you through as well, car class classifications. You'll notice on the left-hand side there, as we look to David Sobrero, the Portuguese driver for our large competition pink, and newcomer to the grid for this season, and a very highly rated driver, it must be said, and we're looking forward to how he and his teammates at our large competition do this season. Well, if you are looking to the classes down the timing tower, you'll notice that our elite drivers have the yellow door cards and door boards, and also the window banners, so that represents them. Meanwhile, if you're looking for the pros out there, we're going to be finding them wearing blue banners, albeit you can't quite see that here for the Sloshy Motorsports driver of Met Hisley, as we do look to try and find a better angle of the Turkish driver, but we can't quite do something. That's the best we can do. Our cameraman not in the right position, but right now parked up there, and we'll have the blue door cards, and that represents the pro class and also the blue window banners. Meanwhile, in our prime class, the newly introduced class, they've taken over the green mark, and well, to give you an example of one of our prime drivers, none other than Stefan Albanese, currently parked up there. The DRS Esports driver just waited to go, and we can't quite get the best image, although I think we can potentially try and do a little bit better than that. And there we go, but you can see the green door cards there, and we're looking forward to Stefan Albanese for DRS Esport, a very strong driver in its own right, and running once again the Porsche 992, which we've seen him cover a number of times in past seasons, and we look forward to seeing how the number 25 driver gets on. And the Italian Stallion, as we like to refer to him, a very strong defensive driver, but also not afraid to go on the attack when he needs to do so. And then lastly, but by no means least, we have our AMs, who will be showing the red colour door cards, and well, we do look in particular to a returning driver in the form of what is Frankie Klein, and as he sits there currently in the pit lane, you can't quite see him closely enough at the moment, but the American towards the end of the pit stalls, down the end of the pit lane, and they will have the red door cards. But as everyone gets set here, they're being given the rights and whatnot by our administrators at the moment in the pre-race drivers briefing. And whilst we are waiting to go, we do have plenty of returning names, as we said earlier, and we also have plenty more new names on the grid, and let's try and walk you through some of them. And well, I'm already predated there by GZen High in the Twitch chat saying that world champion John Eddowes is back, and well, no doubt about it, because if we do try and find John Eddowes currently parked up, albeit it's going to be a bit of a challenge again, we've got so many drivers and our cameramen are frantically trying to find Eddowes at the moment, but here he is, I do believe. In fact, he's not quite in the car at the moment, so we're not going to quite get a picture of John, but we will do in due course. You've got John Eddowes returning, and John Eddowes, of course, being the Season 8 Pro Champion. And well, if we've got the return of John for Tiki Sim Sport Tower, some of you who are historical archivists in the UK sim racing world may be thinking, does that mean we're going to be seeing one Peter Cox also racing in the pro class? Well, I'm very pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, you can see on the timing tower there between P18 and P19, behind Eddowes is none other than Peter Cox. And why is this significant? Well, you may remember that the runner-up in the Season 8 Pro Championship was none other than Peter Cox in that brilliant battle back and forth between them all season. It left both drivers absolutely drained. But meanwhile, we've also got the return of what is Casper Tunstead in the pro class, albeit we are just trying to find Casper Tunstead at the moment. In fact, he's parked up here, and as he does sit there at the moment, our cameramen doing everything they can to try and see him, but he's a bit camera shy. Indeed, all the drivers seem to be a little bit camera shy at the moment. But Casper Tunstead is back in all of his glory, and do remember that he was your Season 11 Pro Champion the previous season, and he was on the thumbnail for this broadcast as well. And who could forget the Peak Sim Racing driver, the Dane, who absolutely delivered in the pro class, and he's got plenty to do today. But also in the AM class, we do have the return of some big names, including what was well, I do believe in the M class you've got the return of, well, the big names, albeit big for a number of reasons, and not necessarily for winning championships, but more so, as we'll see him on the grid shortly, the privateer of Jack Barker, because he's normally the one who goes for the wildcard investments in the AM class, and the privateer is bringing the Ford GT. I believe the sole Ford GT we're going to see on the grid this season, where he's gambling it all in, and we look forward to seeing how that gamble will work out for him. But meanwhile, as our drivers do get set, let's look to a driver right now currently parked in the pit lane, and that is Yannis Albert, the German driver for Arnold Competition Pink in number 21, and he's all set and ready to go. But as our drivers get all set and go, indeed there, Jason Hysane, who is the camera director, putting all these guys in the worst spots, and indeed it does seem that it's the camera angles we're limited to at the moment, but hopefully we will see our drivers out there in due course and all ready to go. But speaking of other newcomers, as we do, I believe, try and get a better view from the helicam, and that might be the better one, as it's just sat over drivers right now, and yeah, it's all bare their parts. As we do see one of the drivers leaving the pit lane, I believe that is none other than Jack Taylor, the elite driver there, making his way on through. And we do say hello there to Connor DM Craven in the Twitch chat, who's on the grid as well, and you'll look forward to seeing Connor Craven in what is the Prime class going racing, and well, he'll be in the Audi R8, and as he gets set and ready to go, all drives absolutely set and itching here, as we do have Jack Taylor leaving the pit lane, albeit I think he's been told to stop and not go out on circuit, so he's a bit eager on the trigger, is the Tiki Simsport Tower driver, and well, as he gets set there and ready to go in the 115, just parked up at the moment, I think decided to leave the pit lane. Was it a bit too crowded? Was it a bit too hot? Or was he just simply trying to give our cameramen an opportunity to see the car? And you can see that inching the car forward little by little. He's absolutely eager to go racing. And well, ladies and gentlemen, we are already moments away from going into qualifying. Only a couple of minutes. And well, all the drivers, of course, being given an extended driver's briefing today, given this is the season opener. And we do apologise for the poor position of our cameramen and women. But at the same time as well, didn't expect perhaps necessarily the driver's briefing to go as long as possible. But I do believe it is just to give everybody the lowdown on how the rolling start procedure works, how qualifying works as well, so there is no confusion whatsoever. But from Jack Taylor being back on the grid, we also have a stalwart of the elite class, Team Year One's Rhys Saunders, the Briton, making his way on around here. And why is Rhys Saunders considered to be one of the greats of the elite class? Well, he has had his fair share of incidents in the past, and he did pick up a little bit of reputation in previous seasons, albeit some drivers do have those difficult seasons, of course, when they end up in an incident or two. But the thing about Rhys as well is, and on a more positive outlook, you've got to be looking at perhaps one of the most intelligent strategic drivers we have seen at the UKSimRacing Community for the GT3 League, for the simple reason he's had some races where he's put a lot less fuel in the car compared to most, but still snuck the car to the finish line and taken wins and podiums, bringing surprises on everyone. So when you see Saunders coming to the pit, if you suddenly see him coming out very quickly, it's not because they didn't put enough fuel in the car, it's because Rhys feels as though he doesn't need that much fuel to get to the end of the race. And well, when he does it right, I can tell you one thing, he can spring some absolute surprises. But as we do say hello there to Mystic Turtles at TV, also Iron Aces in the Twitch chat, also Budget Racing Noob, also there I do believe what is none other than Suicidal Sloth 87, and we're cheering on the Attractics Racing boys, and well, we'll definitely introduce them and introduce as many newcomers as we possibly can, ladies and gentlemen. Our drivers make the way out of the pit lane. And speaking of a newcomer here, racing in the elite class in the number 93, that's the Ferrari 296 GT3 from Next Gen Racing on Gavin Gardner, and I had the opportunity to see him race in other GT3 leagues, including Next Gen Racing's own leagues, and I can tell you one thing, what Gavin doesn't have in terms of top speed, in terms of one lap pace, he makes up for in strategy, and he normally is the brains behind strategy who makes things work as well. So I think Rhys Saunders is going to have his match in Gardner, there's no question about it, because they're two very strategic focused drivers, and can Gavin bring some surprises here? Well, we look forward to seeing what he's able to do, and he makes his way onwards towards the timeline. But as he does so, well, we are now only seconds away from going into qualifying, ladies and gentlemen, and that'll be the first test for our drivers, of course, to lay down the pace markers and see who is the #1 driver in terms of pace here at Daytona in the classes. And well, this circuit, we'll talk a bit more about what types of cars and setup is going to favour when we go into qualifying. But here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, first qualifying session of the season. Who's going to be on pole? Let's find out. So as our drivers make the way out of the pit lane, of course, it's going to be the opportunity, firstly, for what will be the Pro and Pro-Am classes to head out onto circuit. And as they do, well, we do happen to find where's Matt Edmondson charging his way out. And as he makes his way on through and out towards what will be a turn number 3, will be the second kink, if you will, before making his way out towards the horseshoe hairpin. We do now have, of course, that Prime and qualifying session in effect. And it's going to be one of those sessions whereby all the drivers right now will be thinking to themselves, okay, what can I exactly do in terms of pace, and who is going to be my main rival when we do go racing? And we can see there the indicator at the top. We'll keep that on screen for you all the way through to indicate which type of qualifying session it is, and of course we'll update it when we've got our pros and elites out there. So what exactly do you need to be able to do here at Daytona to be able to put the car on pole? Well, as we refresh our overlay to provide the circuit map there, albeit it does look as though we've had a little bit of an issue with our overlay. It does seem to avoid to creep over to the right. We do apologise for that. Hopefully we're going to get it to move itself back over to the right position very shortly. Well, not quite sure what's happened there, ladies and gentlemen, but it does. It was our overlay deciding to play a bit of silly games at the moment, and well, with that in mind, we may have to drop the overlay off screen very shortly, but as we do and try to get things amended, well, we can provide your commentary still, and this is Matt Edison right now, making his way on through, and what you need to be able to put the car on pole here at Daytona is you need to be able to focus on top end speed. Whilst you do have a rather tremendous infield section, and it is a very challenging one at that, and at the same time for our drivers, it's going to be the big challenge here, which is with regards to what will be being able to carry as much speed on from each corner and all the way up towards the timeline, and particularly over those banks. So the miles an hour you gain from the infield hairpins, where it be 2 to 3 miles an hour, it's not going to be worth anywhere near as much if you are going to be lagging down the straights by the best part of 2 to 3 miles an hour, because you're going to be spending the best part of what will be approximately a minute of the lap going flat out full throttle, and therefore that is where the challenge is going to be, and that's where you want all the speed to be. The driver makes his way on around there, indeed all set and ready to go. Well, as he heads on through here, and we do apologise for the ongoing error that we seem to have with regards to the broadcast and overlay, but we assure you that is going to be resolved very shortly, and if not, well, we'll have to look into a plan B, but hopefully it won't come to that, and indeed we should have our overlay back, and there it is in its full splendour. It's decided to return to us, and a brilliant time as well. There's always a technical hitch or two on the night, but it's never going to stop us from going racing. Therefore, you want that car that's got the top end speed, but you also need a car that you've got the confidence to be able to hammer it out the corners, particularly that bus stop chicane where you can lose 2 to 3 miles an hour with a little bit of snap oversteer on the corner exit, and that could cost you and be the difference between you leading into turn 1 on that fine line, you taking the checker flag, versus you fall into P2 behind your rivals by a sliver or a hair, if you will, come the very end. As he makes the way on through, and we do apologise there for what was the little bit of box on the screen, but again, we don't quite have the opportunity to step away, so we want to focus here on the driving, there's no doubt about it. But we do also look to Frankie Climbs. He makes his way on through what is their turn number 5, and then we're turn number 4, in fact, as he heads his way up towards turn number 5, and as he does so, charges his way on through. And well, as he comes through the left hand there, always turn number 6 now, getting himself all set up and ready to go. Well, he's raced previously for UKSimRacing, and now he's racing as an independent, I do believe, and well, definitely a force to be reckoned with. And he's won here previously at Daytona in what was previously the AM class, and continues to be the AM class, if you will. The Prowess being introduced, and it'll be interesting to see how he mixes things up in the BMW M4. And in terms of car choice, what cars could go potentially quite well here? We are expecting what will be the, as we see in the elite class, Reece Saunders setting a lap time, and I do believe he'll be called back into the pits very shortly, as our elites are not meant to be out there putting qualifying laps in. And well, as we continue to see our Prime and AM drivers out there, well, the car choice here definitely is going to be centred around top end speed, and you're looking at perhaps the ultimate car for that top end speed in the form of the BMW M4. And as he heads on through and up towards what will be turn number 1 here, the M4, a very fast car. We also do have the Mercedes-AMG, which is a very fast machine as well, and we are expecting these two cars to be the straight line beasts and the cars that are going to lead the way at Daytona. Albeit the Mercedes-AMG has proven not to be the most popular car in recent seasons of the GT3 League, being a car that's very easy to step out under turning at low speed, particularly in second gear. And that makes it a very difficult car to drive in the infield section of this circuit with 2 second or perhaps third gear hairpins if you're not feeling confident with that second gear. But could we see Rob Armstrong try to spring some surprises here with that beautiful roar of the guttural V8 6.3 litre engine, no supercharger, no turbo, doing it all through natural aspiration. When he makes his way on through there for UKSimRacing, the number 45 driver is going to prove a point, which is the Mercedes is here to stay. But the one odd element and the one straight line speed machine, which perhaps many wouldn't talk about because there's only one on the grid, and here is the privateer of Jack Barkett in the Ford GT, a car which many wonder when is it going to be replaced by the upcoming Ford Mustang GT3. Well, we've got no information on that, but what we can tell you is that he's going to be giving the old school Ford GT a run for its money, and as he makes his way on out there, giving it everything he can in order to try and show the pace of the car. And as he heads in towards turn number 7 now, and into that left hand, completely infield now, could we see Barker spring some surprises on drivers. But meanwhile, the cars that may struggle here by comparison, well, we are expecting the Porsche 992, such as that being piloted by Neil Jack, to have a difficult time today, just because the Porsche is more of a cornering machine rather than a straight line speed machine. You've got to take a lot of rear wing off this car if you want to be the one to try and get it to go fast, but in turn you lose all that cornering stability. What of the rear engine rear wheel drive machine, albeit many would say it's mid-engine rear wheel drive, just to simplify the classification, that engine being as far as possible over the rear axle and traditional Porsche style in order to be able to give it the best possible cornering capability. So we are expecting the Porsche perhaps to not be on the pace today, but they'll definitely be strong later on in the season at circuits such as Suzuka and also Okayama, where cornering and average apex speed have a much higher presence. And here we're seeing the difference at top speed in the draft as well, as the Ford GT of Barker uses the toe off of the back of Neil Jack there in order to gain some lap time as they charge away on through. I do believe that Barker sent his first lap of the day, albeit it's out lap, so therefore it's not going to mean anything, but now he'll go on the attack, and I think Jack meanwhile is going to tuck in behind and just simply use the toe. But as they head on through, we look from them to current provisional pole sitter of the Brown class, and this is Marvin Cruz for Old Duty Cars Blue as he makes way through an ODC Old Duty Cars, 2 teams this season as they make the way on around. And as he heads on through here, Cruz getting himself set up and ready to go. And as he does so, roaring his way on through, making his way over the bank in there of what is turn number 8, and down to the bus stop chicane he goes. Winston Drove's very firmly acquainted with the Old Duty Cars outfit, having joined them a couple of seasons ago and raced in the Porsche 992. And well, this car's not going to go astray for him, but he does have Stefan Albanese currently not too far behind as Albanese makes his way on through. And we have had confirmation that Reece Saunders has been called back into the pits, will be let back out there again. And we are just going to double check our driver information to make sure that Saunders has been correctly appropriated to the elite class. We do believe that's accurate. We're going to do that off screen. Whilst we do have all of our data available to us, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe Saunders being a lead driver there, so I think he might be the first driver of the season to pick up a slight penalty, or at least a reprimand. Indeed, he's come into the pit lane. We have confirmation that Saunders is an elite, so therefore I think he's going to be staying in the pit lane for good now for the remainder of this session. Perhaps a bit of miscommunication, indeed, of our drivers. Definitely eager to go out there, and some a bit more eager than others. But meanwhile, in the AM class, we can see a Frank Klein here, which is way around. He's currently your AM pole sitter on what is quite the lap time of 44.59, previously set on his past lap. And as he makes his way around there, you'll notice that with regards to our positions on the left-hand side of your screen, you're always going to see as a minimum the top 7 drivers in each of the classes. We're going to be showing you their overall positions in relation to the very front of the field, so that way it gives you a sense of direction, exactly where everyone is placed in amongst one another. As Klein taking it nice and easy here, cooling down on through when it's around the bus stop chicane, in fact coming into the pits, and I think deciding, well, I wonder if there's not enough fuel in the car, and if so, that will be his qualifying session complete as he reverses the car out the way. But meanwhile, we then come to John Davis, another driver picking one of the more challenging cars on the machine, and it is the McLaren MP4 12C, and many are eagerly awaiting the day that we potentially see the McLaren 720 Evo arrive on the iRacing simulator platform. But instead, for now, we're witnessing the old school V8 bi-turbo machine, dating a long way back, predating the 650 SGT3. Indeed, this car now, the best part of my memory serves me correctly, practically 13 years old. Perhaps a little bit younger than that, to be found, perhaps being unfair on the car, but the point being, it may be a bit of an artifact of the GT3 world in real life, but it's still a car which goes well on the iRacing simulator. But it is one of those cars you have to drive to the absolute limit, and in doing so, well, that's where all the pace comes. And John Davis right now showing that exactly for the wrong stuff, and that's the team name. They can see at TW on the side, but he's doing the right stuff here to be P2 in the AM class as he powers his way on the banking, as he charges his way on through and roaring his way all the way up towards what will be the bus stop chicane, getting himself set and ready. We do say hello there to RSR Racing 91, who says looked at stream and saw the Pro Am quality title and gone, oh no. And well, indeed, there it's the first half of our qualifying session. We've still got what is the second half coming up soon, which will be our pros and our elite drivers out there, and we look forward to seeing how they get on. But right now, it is the 2 slower classes on the field, and for those of you wondering how exactly our points accrue between drivers, are there any overall position points? No, this is entirely a class-based championship. In terms of, we have 4 drivers championships up for grabs, ranging from elite all the way down to AM timing. They'll score points based on their finishing position, plus also 1 bonus point for pole position, which of course Davis, much like many of his roles in the AM class, are going for. 1 point for pole position and 1 point for the fastest lap in the race. There's also a team's championship, and teams may be made up to 3 drivers across classes, or indeed all in the same class, but they will gain points based on their finishing position in the class. Therefore there's a lot to play for here. But meanwhile, let's get back on to the racing around here, or the qualifying we should really say. And I think we need an on-board lap with one of our drivers, and in perfect timing we jump on board with Chris Constable in the new Audi R8 Evo 2 as he takes us around for a lap of Daytona. He makes his way down into the turn 1 braking zone, trail braking at 200 metres to corner apex, all the way down from top gear to second gear. And as he makes his way out the left-hander, lets the car run out wide, powering up the gearbox here, roaring up that beautiful V10 engine as he now makes his way into turn number 4. Charlie brings the car over to the left-hand side, braking about 130 metres to corner apex, down to second gear, clips the apex curve, and now sends the car out a bit of an early apex there, compromises his line. He can't get on the throttle as soon as he'd like to and go to full throttle, but now it's a full throttle blast through the King of 5 here, turning nice and gently, keep that rear planted. He keeps the car to the left-hand side and braking on the escape road there for turn number 6. Where's the apex? There it is, suddenly. It takes an eternity to arrive at the apex of turn number 6, but he finds it from second gear, now up towards third gear. Will he reach full third time he goes on the brakes? Yes, he will for turn number 7, and braking at the end of the escape road there, down to second gear, about 75 minutes to corner apex, now coming out the corner, flat out in the run, as you can see they're battling with oversteer on power as he transitions from the infield to the oval surface, and that transition can upset even the most stable cars, as now Chris Constable makes his way all the way through for Destino Motorsports as he makes his way all the way up towards the bus stop chicane, heading upwards of 160 miles an hour. We're going to be seeing upwards of 180 miles an hour in the toe in the racing as he makes his way into the braking zone here, looking for his mark on the right side, braking 150 metres, trail braking down to 4th gear. Now just hold the throttle, and now blast it out from turn number 11, bouncing his way over the curbs, cutting as much of the rejoin up towards the bank into turn number 12, and that is a full lap of the Daytona International Speedway road course as he makes his way around through the left-hander, and as he does so here, Constable right now keeping the speed all the way up to the line, gets the car on the low side as well, shortens the run to time line, hitting 100 and what will be 74 miles an hour at the time line, almost 173 in the end. It's a smart lap from Chris Constable. Where's it going to put him? He's currently created prime. He stays there. He improves in always the last 2 sectors, but the first sector not to shout home about. So Constable got some more work to do as he makes his way on through. That was a lap in the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2, and what a lap it was from Chris Constable as he makes his way on through turn number 4 once again. But as we've only got 2 minutes left in this qualifying session for what is our primes and dams right now, well, let's introduce a couple more new drivers to the grid. And well, we do have the wrong stuff in full force, including John Davis, but we also have the arrival on the scene, what is teammate Guy Kai Liao, who currently on the ground circuit. I do believe that Guy may not be here today, the Luxembourg driver, or if he is, we can't quite see him on our time machines at the moment. We also do have in the prime class, newcomer here in the Ferrari, and this is Noyus Sabas as he makes his way on around there. And we do welcome the Ferrari 296 driver to the grid, absolutely eager to go racing today, and well, in a bit of a tribute livery there, I do believe, running the full colours of Scuderia Ferrari. The Formula 1 team as he makes his way on through and looking very good in doing so. We look forward to how Sabas gets on as he makes his way on through, and currently one is P17 in the prime class, an absolute stacked class in the prime class, the biggest class on the grid for this season. Almost 20 drivers in the class, and out of a grid of 60, well, that goes to show how crammed the prime class is. We may see some class divisions after today, of course. We've done our very best at UKSimRacing to make sure we put the right drivers in at the right spots, but as he makes his way on through the left-hander of turn number 7 and onwards here, all right, now Samus getting himself all ready and set and making his way on around the left-hander of turn number 8, but as he does so, well, meanwhile, we also do have James Bostock, and well, where is James? I hear you ask. Well, here he is in the AM class, and well, the Petec GP2 driver, well, giving it his first run of an open setup series in his iRacing career. He only started iRacing a year ago, so January 2023. Excited for today, a little bit nervous when I caught up with him in the build-up to tonight, but he's saying he's just looking forward to learning from the experience, and right now, running in what is P27 overall of all the drives in this qualifying session. Remember, those places are going to change once the elite and the pros are out there doing their qualifying laps, but more importantly for Bostock, it's P8 in the AM class right now, firmly putting himself just inside the top 10. what is a relatively good lap on the best part of a 45.55 to the nearest 100th. And as the clock strikes 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, we can now see a lot of our drivers starting to leave the pit lane, and that will be your elites and pros making their way out for qualifying as Bostock parks up the car and steps aside, lets everyone else go through. But Simon Andre Livingston comes to a halt as well. The Racing Lab eSports driver returns to the grid. He's P3 prime, not going to go any further. Alan Lever out there as well, and as he makes his way on around, getting himself all set up and ready to complete this final lap as he makes his way to the timeline in the Lamborghini Huracan Evo. And well, we look forward to seeing exactly what he's able to do with the car here, and indeed a staunch believer in the Italian machine, albeit powered by the Audi R8 V10 engine. And as he makes his way onwards towards the bus stop chicane, well, he's coming towards the end of this lap now as he heads on through in the UKSimRacing official colours there. UKSimRacing with 2 teams for this season, Mansell and Stewart, in reference of course to Nigel Mansell and Jackie Stewart. And he makes his way to a line. Meanwhile, Andy Skinner, look out my eye from the commentary booth, goes into his P4 in the AM class just behind Matt Edmondson. And we can see how close it is between Edmondson and Barker. Only what is 1,000 separating them for P2 in the AM class. But it looks like it's going the way of Frankie Klein. And meanwhile, as we do see Alan Lever coming into the pits, he releases one of the drivers there. And that's Rob Armstrong he released, giving a bit of a tow to Armstrong. Do we see Armstrong jump up the standings at all? No, we do not. And Simon Oldfield is the last driver out there, but he comes into the pits. And with that, it means, ladies and gentlemen, we are now into the territory of the elite and pro qualifying session for the second half here at Daytona. And well, as we do see the Arnage competition, pink drivers making the way on through it. This is David Sabrera, and ahead of him there, I do believe, is Yanis Albert. They're taking the early stages of this qualifying session, trying to get around there as soon as possible. And well, meanwhile, whilst they're making the way on through, we need to introduce somebody who we did get a shout out from Paul Busby in the Twitch chat. And well, Paul Busby, of course, one of the big drivers in the world of sim racing, particularly on iRacing, no doubt about it, and having competed with the very best. And he's welcomed them through into Effect Simulations through the shout out, this man Alex Millward, who's new to the Effect Simulations retinue, I do believe, and he's going to be doing everything he can in order to try and impress on his debut in the UKSimRacing GT3 League as well. And as he makes his way on through, getting his way out of what is turn number 1 now, and we look forward to seeing what Millward can do in the Porsche 992, opting to go for the corner car. But can he bring some surprises here in this qualifying session and put it right up towards the field? And we do know that the Effect Simulations team, they do a lot of research when it comes to picking their cars, and they put in the outs, the all the drivers do. I think right now it's going to be an interesting day to see how he gets on. His car going slowly there, and that's Gavin Gardner, who's had a bit of a nasty moment as the bumper's going along the road. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Gardner, but I can tell you one thing, he's going to have to limp that car home. Otherwise, this qualifying session is going to be done and dusted before Gardner's even turned a lap and put one on the board. What exactly happened? Will we take a look back and try to find out? Oh, goodness me, there was contact there with one of the other drivers, and well, we're not quite sure. That looks to be an old Duty Cars blue car, albeit they were able to push on, but Gardner, meanwhile, limping. And well, there's been some contact between the two of them at the horseshoe hairpin. We're not quite sure what predated that or triggered it off, but you can see the aftermath, and it's not welcome in terms of the damage picked up, albeit Gardner now trying to bring the car on home. He's got a way to go still, and well, that's going to cost him a lot of time. But meanwhile, we do look to one is our live pictures once again, and we choose a couple more drivers who are new to the grid, including none other than very shortly as the lap times come on through. It will be our driver from what is Prismatic Motorsport, and it will be Rachel Conkley, albeit we're currently looking at Casper Brotner as the lap times are coming in. Indeed, our time town now being updated left, right, and centre. But here is our Prismatic eSports driver on Conkley as she makes her way up towards what will be, the bus stop chicane, coming on through the left into right here. That infamous livery, of course, standing true with its colours. Indeed, the team pushing their vision forward as we do see Rachel charging her way on through the banking here at turn number 12. And as we see them making their way on through, we're going up towards what will be turn number 1 very shortly, and looking to get the first lap on the board in the Audi R8 Evo 2. We're going all the way on around here, and as our drivers do, of course, time is running out, and I think a few drivers will be looking for a slipstream or two in order perhaps to leapfrog their way up through the field. For those first times on the board now, and probably going to P4 there in the Pro class on what was, a lap of 144.07 to the nearest 100th, and that does place them in what will be P4 in the Pro class, and only what is 400ths of another newcomer of Lee King McGee, as we do see the BMW M4 driver UKSimRacing making his way on through the bus stop chicane here in the BMW M4. And as he does come on through and up towards turn number 1, well, right now McGee feeling confident indeed, was absolutely buzzing to be on the grid tonight from what I gathered down in the paddock. And well, can the BMW M4 driver put the car on pole, much like Frank Klein has in the AM class? But notice how so far we've had 2 different machines on pole in the Prime and AM classes, an Audi for pole in Pro Am and a BMW for pole in the AM. And well, right now it's a Porsche on the provisional pole for the Pro class, albeit leaking. McGee says no, it's not, as he goes deep there. But remember, if he does park up and reset to the pit, that is going to be the end of his qualifying session. He won't be allowed to go out again, or if he does so, he'll be subject to a stern penalty. He is going to reset, and I think a number of drivers not remembering that rule, and that could cost him significantly. And Will McGee will definitely pick up a penalty as a result, because he is expected to come through to the pits. But indeed, I think a lot of the drivers will fall foul of that. But meanwhile, as we do look to what is Eric Rosev here, and Eric Rosev, a returning driver for this season, of course, and well, your season 11 elite champion, and looking forward to today. And the reason we're particularly looking forward to Rosev racing today is we're going to see the continuation of a rivalry between the Norwegian and one Lithuanian driver, who many of you will be wondering, is it our oldest Jatatas? And yes, it is. And here he is, over limit racing, the GT3 GTP Elite GT3 champion in that series. And well, what a driver he was, Jatatas, no doubt about it. With all the pressure on, he didn't wilt under any pressure at any point, and all that pressure coming from the likes of Anders Murray and also Eric Rosev, just named 2 of his rivals. And indeed, we have got 2 GT3 champions going toe-to-toe in the elite class, and right now they're both trying to find their pace versus their rivals. And speaking of your elite provisional pole sitter, it is none other than what is Daniel Schilcock, as we do see the newcomer to the series making his way out of turn number 4 and up towards 5 very shortly. In fact, coming out of 6 in towards 7 there, as Knight does descend on the Daytona circuit. And well, as he makes his way through the left-hander, we look forward to seeing what the Britons are able to do a bit further. He is currently 100 faster than James Armstrong, and it does look as though our drivers in the Porsche, in the elite class in particular, are trying to buck the trend here, which is that the Porsche is not a straight-line speed machine, and demonstrating the nuance of the car. And on a 43.469, will definitely getting a lot of pace out of the car, there's no question about it. As he makes his way onwards towards the bus stop chicane and charging on through. Well, right now only what is 100 faster than this man, and James Armstrong, a very fast driver in his own right for Arnold's competition pink. And as he heads across the line, well, there bringing on through will be Jonas Orbert behind, and as they make their way under the braking zone here, I think Orbert's a little bit further behind as they make their way through the 2 Audi drivers here. But meanwhile, Jonas Orbert just crossing the timeline in Lamborghini Huracan Evo, and meanwhile, Jack Taylor just leaving the pit lane, Eric Rosen leaving the pit lane, also Jatatas leaving the pit lane. So it's a bit busy in the pits just as much as it is out of the circuit. And well, one driver right now who'll be feeling just how busy it is, he leaves the pit lane and makes way onto the circuit. It's none other than the newcomer of Krista Halsoy, as we do see the Porsche driver in the 247 just gradually trying to steer clear of everybody around him, and now bringing the car up to speed. And well, he's going to take some time here. Indeed, I think right now the tyres will be feeling a little bit cooler compared to when they left the pit lane and came off of the blankets and onto the car. But you'll very quickly get them up to temperature. He's got 7 minutes to go, so he'll have plenty of time. And as he makes his way on through turn number 6 and up towards 7 right now, and we do have some thoughts of you from all you guys and girls in the YouTube and Twitch chat with regards to this qualifying session. And G Zenhai team principal, of course, or what is Greg Zenhai at Tiki Simsport, provide us updates in the Twitch chat where he can, and saying that Tiki Simsport are not too happy they're qualifying right now. And we look to one of the members here, John Eddowes, the man we told you about earlier, season 8 pro champion, and taking the low road below the yellow line there. And do keep in mind, our drivers are allowed to go below the yellow line for the purposes of qualifying to steer away from other drivers and off the racing line. But in the racing, we are expecting the battles to stay above the yellow line as far as I'm aware. Albeit there might be an exception to that on the final lap if things get a bit frantic in our drivers' minds, but we'll have to see how that's dealt with after the racing. But right now, as we do see Eddowes making his way on down and just taking it nice and easy, well, he's currently in what is P7 in the pro class, and I think Finn has a lot of time to be gained with the best part of what is 8 attempts to Lee King McGee's whole time there. And well, right now Eddowes is going to have to go again, but how soon will he be able to? That'll be the change, as we also look to Ryan Davies here, another member of the Tiki Simsport family, currently in P3 in the pro class, P10 overall. So we are definitely going to see a bit of a flavour in terms of mixing up the classes towards the front of the field. And to show you the top 35 overall standings on the left-hand side of your screen, well, there you can see right now our top 5 led by elite drivers, and then we do have the 2 pros of King McGee and also Halsoy, then the elites of Albert and Jotatas, and meanwhile, Concoli says, well, I'm going to also get in amongst those pros leading at the front of the field, and goes P2 in the pro class, P7 overall, and a 43.705. That's not far off a pole, in fact, and that's only the best part of 200th off a pole, so with 5 minutes remaining, could we see King McGee's pole lap destroyed by Concoli's rise in pace? We'll have to see, but meanwhile, King McGee, of course, in the pit lane after that reset, so can't go out again, and meanwhile, new pole sitter for where is Alex Millward with a 43.123, picking up the toughs of some rivals, it looks like, but also making the flat 6 that Porsche scream out loud, and as he makes his way on down towards turn number 4, well, they have to have a restrict on these cars, given the fact it is GT3 racing, and it's not the pure model that can push to upwards of what is the best part of 9,500 RPM, but it'll come close to the Porsche, and as he makes his way through here, I think he's going to be very pleased. I think Fix Simulations are going to be jumping up and down in the garage with the fact that Millward there definitely delivering a phenomenal lap, and now Daniel Shilcott will need to respond. And as they make their way on through, and we do see a message there from UKSimRacing Chris Edisford to say in the Twitch chat that I do believe Alex will be sent to the back in reference to Alex Millward, although we'll have to wait for confirmation of that, but might be sent to the back as a result of reset to the pits. So I think that a lot of drivers will be experiencing penalties before they go racing, but that's only going to serve to what is enrage the tempers of a few drivers in terms of they'll know they've got to do it the hard way, and well, that's going to lead to only more overtaking on the circuit, and that's what we're all here to see. Brilliant battle in action. But David Sobrero, meanwhile, going into P2 in the McLaren MP4 12C, and they're in the tow of what was teammate Yannis Aubert as they make their way on through, and meanwhile now Jack Taylor moves up to P3 in a 43.262, so those lap times are coming in hard and fast here in the closing stage of this qualifying session. It does seem as though this track really coming alive now in these late stages, and therefore we haven't got too long to see who's going to be on pole in the Pro and Elite classes. Of course, Panorama locks in now, as we do see what is Sobrero making his way up towards turn number 6. Meanwhile, we do need to introduce another new driver to the elite class of this season, and that is Helder Gonçalves, as we do see here the Portuguese driver making his way on through turn number 1 in the Porsche 992 GT3, and as he does so currently in what is P10 of the elite class, P14 overall, and Finn deserves a bit more time out there as he does follow a fellow Porsche on around the circuit, charging on through, and both drivers here. And where's Gonçalves, and we're trying to discern who that is just in front. You know, I do believe the 247, as they make their way on through here 9, there's still lap time to be gained. But meanwhile, there are some surprises in store, and here's perhaps the biggest surprise of them all. Your reigning pro champion of Casper Tunstead for UKSimRacing in the number 84, only at P47 overall, what is P16 in the pro class currently, and therefore Tunstead 9, there's a lot more time to be found out there and trying to find that time late in the day, but I do believe that Tunstead perhaps not being able to get as much practice as he would like him for this round, and therefore it's going to be a big learning experience from the start, but as he makes his way on through, will mean, while we do look from what is Casper Tunstead, so some more drivers are putting in laps, and another newcomer to the grid, Aidan Nee, another member of the Arnage competition pink team. We're right now moving up to P2 there, a 10th of a Millward's pole time, and will the Audi R8 Evo 2 driver definitely shown the Audi's got what it takes to potentially be on that front row, if not pole position, but again it's very close right now, and well, is to come within the next 2 minutes as our drivers head on around, and as they do so, will we see any more late surprises here, as meanwhile in the pro class it does look as though that it's King McGee. Well, he's out the car, of course. Concoli's in the pit lane and running out of time to get the car back out there for one last run. Meanwhile, Ryan Davies is trying to bring some surprises, and we jump on board here with the Porsche 902 driver as he goes around for what could be his penultimate qualifying lap. A lot of power oversteer there coming out of 1, and I think trying to use the tyre of teammate, and immediately Davies backing off there as he comes through 3 into 4 and 9, that I think this lap now is going to be a warm-up for the final lap. So we're going to jump off of Davies' car, so we can see there the brief slowdown coming out the corner, not pushing it at all. We're going to try and come back for that final lap, but Ryan Davies, I think with that slight wayward touch of the rear end, coming through turn 1, immediately aborting the lap, and 9, there's more to come. So we do say hello in the Twitch chat to Zeros, also there to Lars Devan, and well, it's good to see so many of you tuning in and also giving your thoughts on how things are going so far in the Twitch chat and also the YouTube chat as well. Albeit YouTube's gone a little bit quiet recently from what we can see, and as we do see what is here, Ryan Davies making his way back up to speed very shortly. We also do look to the Turkish driver of Met Hisley running there, and I do believe a car which is in tribute, or a livery that's in tribute, I should say, to Iron Dames, the pink machine, as part of the Iron Lynx crew. And of course, the Iron Dames having an absolute breakthrough year in 2023, pushing forwards to 2024. And right now, Hisley, the Turkish driver here, currently P8 in the Pro class. Being so perhaps a bit more time out there in the Lamborghini Huracan Evo. We don't quite have the Evo 2 on iRacing yet, but we can still dream. But one thing he'll be dreaming for will be a bit further up the order come the end of this session, albeit with only 20 seconds left on the clock. Will he be able to squeeze in one more lap? It's going to be close. I don't think he's going to have enough time here, and I think Hisley is going to have to side with whatever this lap turns out to be as he roars his way on through. And as he does so, all the way out towards turn number 1, albeit he won't be allowed to go into another qualifying lap. What's it going to be here? As he heads to the timeline, past the pit entry, staying as low as possible to the yellow line. In fact, defects the yellow line, and that is going to be into the pits in the end of his qualifying session. But this will be the end of qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Helder Gonçalves comes in to what will be the run down into turn number 1, in fact coming into the pits as well, so feeling as though there's no more time out there. What about Aiden Neat? He decides to cool down as well on the bank into turn number 12, so everyone calling it quits here in qualifying, it would seem. Can anybody get a faster lap right at the end? Well, we do have Khalid Ramadan out there at the moment, just getting onto his final lap right at the end. That has the driver who I do believe here are running in what is, we've got prime colours on the car, but I do believe racing in the Pro class, unless I'm very much mistaken. We will get that double check for you very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, and just in case there we do have a little bit of an error. And no, racing in Pro we can confirm, so that's something we might have to adjust after today's racing, or he'll have to adjust on the car. But meanwhile, as John Eddowes improves the P26 in what is overall, and what counts for P12 in Pro on a 44.455, it's not enough to demote Khalid Ramadan behind him. And well, with that, Ramadan being one of the last drivers out there on a lap, we've also got Daz Sharples here, the man who slid sideways through turn number 3, many of you will remember on the intro video as well, the infamous moment at the Red Bull Ring. But right now he's not sliding, instead he's pushing hard, and as he makes his way on the banking here, coming towards the end of his final qualifying lap. What's this going to be? It is going to be a lap which is going to be registered, but how high can he go with it? He's improved in what is the middle sector, but has he improved on the final sectors? That's where it's most important to improve. Well, he's coming on in towards the bus stop chicane very shortly as he does so, left into right here. Sharple's giving it everything, going on through and up towards what will be, in fact, this is going to be a valid lap, with the laps being at 1 minute 44. I don't think this is going to stand. I think this is going to be an in lap now that we get our times adjusted, but we do have Khalid Ramadan coming into the pits, and the Sharples will be the last driver out there, but this lap will not stand as a result, and therefore he's going to be coming on down into the pit lane there. So that's qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and in the end it is going to be overall pole position for Alex Millward, or at least on track, but I do believe there might be a penalty applied as a result of a reset to the pits, albeit we're waiting for confirmation on that, and if so it will go the way of Aiden Neat on pole in elite and overall. Meanwhile in Pro class it's Lee King McGee who's held onto pole in the end by 200ths versus Rachel Conkley. In the Pro Am class P15 overall, but on pole will be Chris Constable, and in the Am class P31 overall will be Frank Klein, who has taken a maiden pole position. He's always gone strong at Daytona, and well, once again Klein demonstrates just how well he knows Daytona. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, qualifying is complete, and now, well, we get set to go racing, and the grid is being set. This is how they'll line up for the season opening round of the GT3 League Season 12, brought to you by UKSimRacing and hosted on iRacing. As listed there, Alex Millward taking pole position in qualifying for Effect Simulations, joined on the front row by Aiden Neat for Arnage Competition. David Sabrera for Arnage Competition Pink lines up on row number 2 with TE Sport Tyres Jack Taylor alongside him. James Armstrong starts P5 for Arnage Competition, joined by Daniel Shilcock for Tractix Racing. And then we have Haroldus Jatatas for Over Limit Racing and Eric Rosa for Racing Lab Esports on row number 4. It's a top 8 all of elites, and then you have what is your pro pole sitter in the form of Lee King McGee for AKM Racing UK starting P9, and the top 10 can be completed by Prismatic Motorsports Rachel Conkley. Behind them on row number 6 is Ryan Davis for TE Sport Carl Marte and Arnage Competition Pink's Yanis Aubert. We then have on row number 7 Krista Holsoy for Tractix Racing and his teammate Helder Gonçalves completing row number 7. We now have Chris Constable, what is your pro and pole sitter for Destino Motorsport starting P15, joined on row number 8 by Daniel Pace for Old Dudes in Cars Black. And then we do have on row number 9 Gavin Garner for Next Gen Racing, after that difficult start to qualifying, getting things amended in the end, and he'll be joined on the row by what is the prime driver of Marvin Cruz at Old Dudes in Cars Blue. We then have Old Dudes in Cars Black's Casper Rotner starting P19, and the top 20 being completed by Pete Cox at Destino Motorsports. He did find a bit of time in the end in the qualifying session. And it'll be on row at number 11, the pair of Matt Hisley for Sloshy Motorsports and Racing Lab Esports is Seaman Andre Livingston. Josh Pratt and Alex Hill line up together TC Corpa and Kimmy on row number 12. And then we have on row number 13 Khalid Ramadan for Somsport and TC Sport Tyres John Eddowes. Alan Lever starts P27 for UKSR Stewart and is joined there by Reece Saunders, the team at year 1. After that error in qualifying, he'll start P28, then completing the top 30 Nicholas Rice for Destino Motorsports and Stefan Albanese for DRS Esports. Frankie Klein starts P31, the privateer, and he is your Ampol sitter ahead of Ed Frazina. And then we do have behind the car for the drive team at Badgersteel Simon Oldfield and UKSR Stewart's Rob Selby, with Daz Sharples P35 ahead of Chris Brown. We then have on row at number 19 Casper Tunstead and Jack Barker, followed up by Matt Edmondson and Andy Skinner to complete your top 40. Behind them will be what is Noya Sabas and Connor Craven, with Mark Collicott and Jeff Griffiths on row at number 22. Row 23 goes to Matt Whitefoot and John Davies ahead of Satinder Deansat and Neil Smith. Row 25 goes to Joel Duton and John Doble, with James Collins starting our Sunny on row 26. Then it's P53 to Rob Armstrong, P54 to Steve Hughes, James Bostock and Cy Hartley on what is row number 23, Guy Kiley out and Neil Jack on row number 24, and in fact then it will be in row number 29 I should say, and then on row at number 30 it's going to be Chris Bates and Ollie Pimley, who didn't put a lap time in qualifying, and the Symphony Esports trial will be starting from the back of the grid, but it is going to be a 60 car grid, ladies and gentlemen. We're all set and ready to go racing here, and as all of our drivers get themselves set and ready to go, we can see already Millwood and Neat, they're on the front row. And will they be staying together all the way through? And as they get ready to go racing, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a charge in towards turn number 1. But who is going to be leading come the end of it as the pace car continues on its way? We refresh our timing lines there so you can see the track map in the top right corner of your screen. But the GT3 League's about to get underway, and it's going to be Alex Millwood who takes us to the green flag for the first race of the season. It's 90 minutes of Daytona, and it's lights out, and away we go as Millwood and Neat immediately on the battle in towards turn number 1. They charge away down into the braking zone here, and as they come on through hard on the anchors, Neat looking around the outside. Meanwhile, it's going to be Will who defends hard on the inside, and that's where he's going to stay. All the field comes on through, Leaking McGee and Rachel Conklin as well, side by side as they make their way through the opening 2 corners, through the 3 as well. And as they come towards 4, you see Conklin there, have a little bit of power over still cold tyres, and they go defensive versus Janice Albert. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Neat holding off Millwood, and on the inside there as they make the way up towards turn number 5. It's going to be a switch back to a left hand now as they roar their way on through, but as they do so, still side by side all the way into the next braking zone, with Neat having to hold the outside line, hold the inside now into the hairpin, and as they come on down, meanwhile we look a bit further back here to Marvin Cruz, still leading in the AM class after gaining the lead off Chris Constable on the run towards turn number 1, and as they make the way up to power, Frankie Klein meanwhile still on the AM lead, Matt Edmondson meanwhile charging on through, looking around the outside of Jack Barker, the P2 in AM as they roar their way up towards turn number 7, absolutely packed wherever you look at this field right now, but as Edmondson has to back off there, Barker going defensive, Matt Edmondson is around the outside. There's been a bit of an incident in front there, I believe a car pointing the wrong way, that was Frazina having to stop the car and have to go off track, and I believe another driver perhaps with him there, and it's going to give Edmondson the ability to make his way past Barker, who was compromised, but as they power the way on through, we look back towards the front of the field, and Neat is confirmed now to be your race leader as they make the way through the bus stop chicane, charging their way up towards what will be turn number 12. They make the way on through, and as we ride on board and look back here from the race leader, looking over the rear wing, well, right now Neat having a great start, really battling between these two, but they know it's a 90-minute race, it's not one on the first lap, but Neat very eager to lead. As you can see, they're going high in the rear of the picture, James Armstrong to get himself out the toe tracks for a brief moment as they make the way up towards turn number 1. Well, here comes Millwood immediately back on the offensive they go, charging in towards lap number 2, and as they roar on through, well, is it going to be a move here all the way around the outside? Millwood thinks he can make it happen, he's going to go win here as everyone stacks their way down to the braking zone, and Neat looking to defend hard and fast as they roar their way in towards turn number 4. Onto the brakes they go, but notice here David Sabero looking up the inside, trying to help Neat out, and the Arnold Competition pick team all working together right now to try and help their leader, and as they make the way out to turn number 4, Sabero exactly makes the move count, but what Millwood's got to do here is just keep his cool and carry on, and meanwhile we carry on a little bit further down the field, because whilst it's all great racing at the front, let's not forget we've got 60 cars here, and this is Linda Deanser battling with Whitefoot. Whitefoot diving to the inside there. This is the fight for P11 in what is the prime class as they make the way in towards the right-hander hairpin, and out they go, and right now Deanser falling back there, and Whitefoot going on the attack as they roar their way through the left and in towards the next hairpin. But as they come on down, you can see the flank spitting out of John Davis's and McLaren just behind there. Mill car off on the side of the pitch, and I believe that's Nuya Sabas, who's had a bit of an error going into the second hairpin. He's gone deep, has the Libranian driver, and brings it back together, but it's going to be costly here. He's got to drop a long way down the field, in fact losing the best part of 2 places in with the prime class compared to the 3 he gained at the start, as he makes his way all the way up towards what will be the next Banks corner right now. Number 72 driver under some pressure from James Conley, but as he powers his way on through, we can confirm Ollie Pinningham's car still in the pit lane, not able to get prepared. So we've got 59 cars out of the circuit right now, down to 60 potential starters. But as Sebas makes his way into the next braking zone, he's got James Conley on his inside, but the driver he'll be worried about will be Ed Frazina, who looks behind as they make into the braking zone. Side by side they go. It's very brave here from both drivers. Conley just about squeezed around the outside to the inside of 11, and right now here comes Frazina as we ride on board with the Carfellas driver, and we're in at the toe here. He's going to be feeling confident. He's got on his right hand side, tucking in behind. You can see there in the television camera that is going to be Sabas not in the toe, and the Carfellas driver being the opportunist here in the 369 and making it count. But it's not over yet. He's in the overspeed now. He's going to have another move versus Conley here, and this is the overall position. It could be an important one at that if he can put himself ahead of Conley and stay firmly there. But Conley right now onto the brakes. There's Neil on the rear of the picture. We've got 3-4 wide starting to play out. Conley goes deep in defence versus Frazina. Meanwhile, it's 2 by 2 they go. This isn't Noah's Ark. Indeed, this is Daytona as they make the through. Car pointing the wrong way, and that's Yanis Aubert, who's just parked there on the inside. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Aubert, but what I can tell you is he's had a nightmare moment at turn 1, and we can immediately give you a replay of what exactly's happened. Now this was coming down into the braking zone here in the number 21 Lamborghini. Onto the brakes he went, battling there with Conley coming up through the left hand, and the rear of the car just stepping loose. Front left tyre goes onto the grass, and then just reversing the car off the racing line and just waiting to go. And to be fair, the German driver showing absolutely brilliant patience, but I can imagine the itch to go racing once again, it would have been absolutely unbearable there, and well, in the end doing well not to scratch it. But meanwhile, as we return to your live pictures, and one driver's fallen away from the elite leaders, we look back to your elite leaders right now, and goodness me, my eyes do not deceive me there, and indeed they don't deceive you on the television, ladies and gentlemen. That's your top 8 all elite drivers together right now, and well, behind them you've also got P9, P10, Lee King McGee and Rachel Conkley, who all give us a top 10 separated by only 2 seconds in totality as they make the way on through the bank in a turn number 12 and roar their way up towards the timeline. And as they do, Millwood under attack again. This time it's Armstrong looking to go high, tucking in behind his teammates there, but Millwood says no you don't. And right now, not quite sure what Effect Simulations have done with that Porsche, but they've definitely made it an absolute monster on the straights, and Millwood's going to go in. He's going to look up the inside. That's very brave. As you can see there, will meet, I think, on the radio of his teammates saying to him, watch how Millwood's coming in like a missile. Well, to be fair, he had a target which was take the lead, and Millwood didn't just take 1, 2 and 3, but he went for it. Meanwhile, here comes Neat back again, and as Neat looks up the inside, 2 by 2 Sabero and Armstrong behind, and these two are going to be side by side all the way up towards turn number 6 right now, and it's a repeat of the opening lap of the race. These two are not giving each other any breathing room as they make the way up towards the braking zone here, and behind Jack Taylor and Holden Shatartas are just watching, I think, with popcorn on the laps right now, as the top 4 he just continues to go side by side. And don't be confused, this isn't the formation lap right now. They're fighting hard and they're pushing it, everything they've got, but so much respect being shown, and Neat holding the inside line. But again, Millwood showing the Porsche's got so much speed in the corners, and as they make the way on through, Neat takes the lead back, but right now he's got Millwood right behind. Meanwhile, looking from them to a little bit further down the order, we do look to Casper Brotner, who's made some early gains, despite the fact losing places overall at the start of the race. He's now back on the charge. He's chasing after Simon Andre Livingston for V19, but behind him are John Eddowes and Josh Pratt, and Eddowes, one of the biggest gainers in class since the start in the Pro class, gaining 3 places, well, in fact in the Pro class we should say, gaining 3 places at the start, 5 overall, P21 right now, and being chased by what is Joshua Pratt, teammate from TE Sim Sport, and I think they'll try and work together to make a little bit more ground before this race is said and done. But as they make the way on through right now, we'll just simply stand in the toe, and it's interesting to see as well how in the class a bit further down the field, we definitely do have a bit of prioritisation of strategy early on here, and everyone trying to run in the toe of one another. Meanwhile, further up the field, we're seeing some major battling. It seems those strategy's gone out the window, or at least for the initial part it definitely has. But meanwhile, the wrong stuff jolted on here, chasing after with Rob Armstrong. They're fighting for P15 in the Prime class as they make the way around. And if you're wondering why the Primes have just jumped back ahead of the Yams on your time to tell, that's because the Primes have now set a fastest lap in class, which is faster than that of the Yams. You'll see that every so often. The class listing will change order there, but don't be confused if you've got your television set. But as they make the way on through towards turn number 1, meanwhile we do look back up through the field, and this is Joshua Pratt, who right now chasing after Eddowes, and Eddowes there having to muscle his way past Simon Andre Livingston and the Prime driver. They're fighting the Pro, making his way on through, and well for Eddowes, that's another place gain. That's going to be P20 as they make the way up towards what will be turn number 6. But as they do, well, from them, we do now bring you back up to what will be the very front of the field. And this is Millward, after being passed by Neat, and Sparrow's found his way forward. Now we've got Armstrong looking at the inside, and well, we're having a repeat of what was the previous lap, but this time Millward being made to go backwards. And you can see how right now, what is Arnold's Competition Pink working together hard here. They're trying to compromise Millward's run on the lead group, and already now you can see how close he's glued to the back of his rival. We jump on board here looking from what's the dashboard of what is the Effect Simulations driver's car, and you can see there just how close he is going into the bus stop chicane. Doesn't want to get any closer than that, as otherwise it's going to be very tricky to get the braking right going into the corner. But a little bit of a lift and coast there, that's what saves you the fuel, that's what prevents you from rear-ending your rival. And well, right now Millward at the very best of this game, as is Armstrong, as is Sobrero and Neat. All these drivers in the lead for a reason, and as they charge around here, right now Millward back in the tow once again. We're only 9 minutes into this 90-minute race. We're a tenth of the way there. We've got a long way to go, and it seems though right now this battle for the elite win definitely has got a lot of mileage left in it, and I think this is now going to be a bit of a calm before the next proverbial storm. As they make the way in towards turn number 1 once again, onto the brakes they go, and behind what you can see, that is none other than Jack Taylor, who's on the charge here for P4 as they make the way out of the corner. As they do, weaving the way on through the kinks and the curvature. Well, Taylor's got Chitasa's brother and Shilcock right behind. There's a long line of cars as Millward having to go slightly defensive there to Horseshoe Head in a very aggressive approach. If it wasn't an intentional defence, then he's just got a very different racing line there, and meanwhile Taylor being much more conservative in the run through the corner. As they make the way on through, Jason Hyatt saying in the Twitch that Taylor would be very smart to do some fuel saving here, and I think right now all the drivers behind watching this, well, they've been enjoying the spectacle, but at the same time as well they will have probably had their team principals on the radio saying save fuel, don't get involved in what's playing out in front. You could leapfrog all this by simply saving the fuel to the end of the race. As they make the way on through and charging around, meanwhile we do say hello to Joshua G. Wilson, a bit of a Hall of Famer in the UKSimRacing community, in the Twitch chat for his efforts in the GTP class last season of racing. But meanwhile, coming back to the here and now, we do look to John Davis in P4 in the AM class. They're currently P42, battling with James Conley, the wrong stuff driver, having a great start to his day in qualifying in McLaren MP4 12C. Going to start P5 on the AM grid, and right now pushing onwards here. And Conley, who's no slouch, as you pointed out, James Conley, a race winner, a multi-time race winner in the AM class in previous seasons. Well, right now the Ferrari driver right there behind Davis, and it looks like the McLaren driver just able to break away in the TWS machine as he makes his way onwards towards the bus stop chicane here. We do have these little pockets of battling that are starting to build in what is our other classes. We had all the fame and fortune at the very front of the field, but let's give you another example, and this is Daniel Payes, always old duty cars black. He's under attack from Hal Sawyer as the Track 6 Racing driver, looking around the outside here as they drag race away. It's Porsche as they come down towards turn number 1. Onto the brakes they go. Hal Sawyer on the left, Payes on the right as the camera then turns around and changes their relative order, but Payes taking the defensive line on the inside. Behind him Gavin Gardner, who's trying to carve his way out from the field after a disappointing qualifying session compared to perhaps where he could have been if it weren't for that instant coming through turn number 4 at the start of the qualifying session, but still having to do things the hard way. And as they make their way through turn number 4 right now, Daniel Payes holding firm, but Hal Sawyer definitely putting as much pressure on as he can and trying to get Payes to make an error. But the one thing that we have to say about Daniel Payes is he's a driver who, when he's on form, he doesn't make mistakes, and I think today he might be feeling as though that form is here with him to stay. But meanwhile, a little bit further back, this is John Eddowes right now trying to find his way past Casper Brockner, and these two, well acquainted with one another, have a little bit of a rivalry in history in terms of battling, albeit all fair and keeping it calm and clean on the circuit. You can see Joshua Pratt right behind Eddowes, and I wonder here whether Pratt just putting it onto the racing line immediately to signal to John, look, I'm not going to do anything drastic here, but I think right now some drastic measures are going to be needed. It does seem as though Eddowes there with a little bit of a poor run coming out of turn number 7. You can see how much speed Pratt took off the apex. I said he letting the car run out wide, but the problem is in the Audi, do you overtake and then cost your teammate and also yourself the run on what is up the road there? Hill, alternatively, do you let it go? And in the end, well, it does look as though he's going to just take it calm and carry on as they make the way on through onto the braking zone here. But right now, Eddowes definitely giving it everything he can in order to push after Casper Brockner. He's just not able to find a way to get close enough, and indeed that error at turn number 7 cost himself and Pratt dear. If that opens the gap up to them to 1.2 seconds, it's still gaining because of the fact that Brockner's in the tow of Alex Hill just up the road. But meanwhile, also up the road, Houseway now under pressure, Norwegian for Track 6 Racing from Gavin Gardner here, but still trying to find his way past Payes. Now Gardner's going high here, trying to bleed off some of the speed, but also feeding back the outside if he can. He's going to go for it is gone here. This is going to be brave. It's going to be one for the next gen racing driver. Can he get the other? He can't at the moment, but they're showing his elite status and experience of being able to make the move. And I think Halsoy not trying to defend it too hard, knowing they're not racing one another. But meanwhile, looking a bit further back here. Here comes a move in the amp cars. Oh, goodness, there's contact there. And that is Neil Smith and Matt Edmondson. Well, some paint's definitely been left on the side of the Ferrari from the BMW M4. But Neil Smith right now, the priority in the 304, who the last time we saw him out of the circuit in the GT3, they're having a nightmare day. He goes straight on. Oh, goodness me. And I think something's wrong with the brakes on that BMW M4. Because we're about to say he was having a nightmare the last time we saw him on circuit, and he was having a better day today. But commentators cursed him so straight, and right now the 304 driver really struggling with the car, and I think that car's got a huge problem even before the contact with the wall, because right now it's been making a lot of progress. It's up to P2 in the AM class for a brief moment, but now it's going to be falling down the order, no rear wing, and also it looks like the brakes on that car are definitely not in working order. But meanwhile, as he tries to bring it back together and bring it into the pit, it's a bit further behind. This is Red Mist Racing's Steve Hughes. And as we can see here, running the UKSimRacing, the British colours on the car, but the Welshman here pushing on the BMW M4. When he comes in towards left-hander here, we can see that is Neil Smith just getting the car off the road. There is something really not working on the privateers machine, and therefore doing everything he can in order to avoid any further contact. And as they make their way on towards what will be the bus stop chicane, well, right now Hughes falling back behind Armstrong. I think all of them showing a bit of caution there and waiting to build up the racing once again. But meanwhile, looking from them, we go all the way back up to what is the front of your field, ladies and gentlemen, and here is the top three. It's our large competition leading the way. Neat ahead of Sparrow versus Armstrong, and as they all make the way onto the race here, well, right now the 157 driver continues to lead here, a lead that he's definitely earned the hard way, and I think right now he'll just want to walk away with this lead all the way to the checkered flag, albeit I think his teammates may have something to say about that, and they'll want to all finish together here, and we'll definitely a photo opportunity for our large competition if they can make this work all the way to the checkered flag. But I think the man who's going to try and put a spanner in the works here will be Effect Simulation's Alex Millward, as they come in towards turn number 5 through the left hander they go, and right now all still together, and those 70% fuel tanks they start off with definitely do give them a lot of life going into this race. And indeed, when we did see the previous season, the 90-minute races, we normally saw a lot of drivers start their pit stops around the 30-minute marks, but will we see some drivers going much longer on the opening stint and potentially push the distance in order to give themselves every opportunity in order to try and do a bit of an overcut? Alternatively, will we see some drivers pit early and go for a major undercut? Well, that's all to be thought about by the drivers, but of course they're the ones who choose their destiny as they make their way on through. They come out of turn number 7 and on towards turn number 8, and well, very shortly down towards the bus stop chicane. We have had an instant further down the field for Scintillating, and we'll have a replay to explain what exactly happens. We see him here limping the car down to the second infield hairpin, brings it on through. In fact, that does look to be, yes, that's the run up towards turn number 7. He drops in behind Know Your Sabas, but as he tucks in behind the Lithuanian driver, the American really struggling right now, the TV6 Whopper BMW M4, and what exactly happened to cause him to be in this situation? Here's the replay, let's find out. Making his way in towards the horseshoe hairpin behind, a bit of battle going on, car snaking behind there, and well, Dean's a bit of contact at the rear of the 104, and that would have been Matt Whitefoot, and well, in the end, Dean's with that tiny tap on the rear of Whitefoot's car. I would imagine that Whitefoot perhaps didn't even feel that, but enough to cause the front end of Dean's car to let go, and the rear to go around as a result, recovering in the end, but definitely not the way he wants it. Some front end damage as well, and that fast repair will most likely go on when we do see him come into the pits for the first time, because that will cost him a little bit of speed. It'll be 1-2 miles an hour, which doesn't sound like much, but when you consider the fact that our drivers are pushing upwards of what is 170 miles around here without the tow, well, 1-2 miles an hour could be the difference between you leading or you being P4 in a pack of cars come at the end of a given lap. And you're seeing that exactly for Dienza here, as he right now leads a long line of cars, always himself, Sabas, Armstrong, Hughes, Sharples, Touton and Bates. Best part of 7 cars all together into the opening corner, and as they all come sharply down on the anchors here, well, Dienza goes a bit deep, Sabas looking up the inside, can't quite find it. Meanwhile, Steve Hughes here battling side by side with what is none other than Darren Sharples. Sharples gets on through for Old Duty Cars, and the Audi driver making some more progress. Meanwhile, we've got a car off the road just coming out of horseshoe hairpin. That's James Conley, who's taking a little bit of an inventive trip to the grass, and I'm not quite sure what's happened there. We've got a car pointing the wrong way, and that is, I believe, Casper Turnstep for Peak Sim Racing. So I think there might have been a little bit of coming together between the two of them, and well, as a result of that, both drivers lose out, considering Casper Turnstep drops all the way down to P55 in what has definitely been a difficult start to his season for the Danishman, as he brings it back together and pushes the car onwards once again, and with Darren Sharples getting on past him. Well, meanwhile, we do have a replay of what exactly happened, and well, here it is. So side by side there between Conley and what was Tunstead, and as they made out the corner, Tunstead there, you'll notice the car getting unsettled on power, and that led to the car spearing to the left as we saw Tunstead trying to correct it, and Conley in the end being in the wrong place at the right time to be guided to the grass. There was a separate incident for James Bostock, meanwhile, for Petec GP2 that happened at the same time, and this was in the run down towards Horseshoe onto the brakes. He went, oh goodness me, a contact with the rear of the 82, and that would have been the car of what is, I do believe, we're just trying to discern as we look back to live pictures, but for James Bostock there, just a small error under braking, getting a bit too close to his rival, but the 82 feeling the effects of it as a result. And well, as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and our drivers continue to push on here, we haven't had any major shunts to note so far. Indeed, at the start of this race, we had some brilliant battling and no major incidents to report. Indeed, we still do have, out of what is our 59 cars to make it to the grid, only one driver who's won a sizable way off the order, and that is Neil Smith after that incident into turn number 4. But meanwhile, James Bostock makes his way into the pit lane, and that car coming on in here, I think, with some damage, and deciding to go for an undercut. He's the first driver to pit in this race, and he's within the pit window for his first pit stop. We'll have to see what this means in terms of how he refines his strategy later on when we look back up further the field. And it is going to be one is here, none other than Joshua Pratt as he gets on the power coming on through turn number 7. And right now the Audi driver chasing after an Audi powered machine in front of his Audi, not Audi, I should say Lamborghini there, as we get the two manufacturers mixed up and did a bit of a tongue twister, but as they power the way on through. Behind him is Kelly Ramadan, we haven't talked about too much, and Kelly Ramadan in fact staying in the same position since the start in the Pro class, which is P11, and chasing after Pratt's getting 3 places overall. So he's had a solid race so far, has the Sport driver and from Somalia, but as he makes his way through what is turns 9 and 10 for the first part of the bus stop chicane, and we think as though that Ferrari 296 can extend its speed a little bit, and indeed this 296 we have seen it to be a bit of a jack of all trades car with a bit of a hidden top speed element to it, particularly when it's in the tow, and well, much like its predecessor the 488 Evo, when it is in the draft of another car that hasn't got the draft in turn in front of it, this Ferrari can absolutely fly. But as they make the way up towards what is turn number 1, going on to their 12th lap of racing here at the Daytona International Speedway. Well, just in front, John Eddowes has to defend here versus Hisley as they go onto the brakes. Hisley goes around the outside. Eddowes loses the rid of the car, and Hisley is knocked wide as a result there. Both drivers battling hard, and there's further contact. Everyone comes into the scene of the incident, trying to scatter around. They mostly miss further contact, but there was some contact with Stefan Albanese, your P3 prime driver, finding the side of John Eddowes' car down. I think everyone just trying to react to the incident to a heavy braking zone, and well, goodness me for Eddowes there, that could have been far, far worse. But he's going to lose another place. Or is he? Is the old duty cars driver, Casper Brunner, will battle him side by side now as they make the way up towards what with the second hairpin through the King of 5 they go, and what you can see there, Brotner's not going to let this go immediately as they fight for P12 in what is the Pro class. They come to the brakes, but in the end Brotner will get it done. He'll go hard on the brakes and fast with it and get the move for the position. But now does Eddowes fight it back coming out of 7 onto the banking, or does he just tuck in, pick up the toe, save some fuel, and know that more fighting is only going to push the two of them further away from the likes of Rob Selby and Alan Lever, who are 1.5 seconds up the road and just gradually pulling away? Well, that's for them to decide. But meanwhile, whilst they're pushing on, we look back to your leaders here, ladies and gentlemen. It's gone a bit quiet on the elite front at the moment, particularly if you're inside that top 8, as we all the drivers now, after what was an absolutely fantastic 15 minutes to start off the race, they've all settled down. I think all their team strategists have said to them, right, enough playing around, you've got to get on with the main thing. This is an endurance race, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and they're doing exactly that as they make the way on through turn number 1 very shortly. But as they come down into the aforementioned braking zone for second corner, well, right now Neat, Severa, Armstrong and Milde is your top 4 ahead of Taylor, followed by Jotatas, then Rosev, then Shilcock, and then we do have your leading pro driver of Lee King McGee ahead of Rachel Conklin to complete your top 10, and Pete Cox a further 3 seconds behind for Destino Motorsports. A very lonely P11 overall or P3 in pro class right now. He's 3 seconds off of the top 10. And he's 3 seconds clear of Ryan Davies behind, and Davies right now being the cork in the proverbial bottle that is trying to drag its way up towards Peter Cox. And I would imagine that Davies Hill feels though the race is going well, but he wants to be a little bit closer to that podium, with the fact behind him he's got Pace, Gardner, Halsoy and also Constable, and well, Chris Constable as well, a very lonely Pro-Am leader at the moment. He's got plenty of company in front of him, but it's not Pro-Am company, and indeed he's pulled away and gives himself quite the gap of what is 4 seconds to Marvin Cruz, second place Pro-Am driver, as he makes his way up towards turn number 7. But as he does so, meanwhile, we've had a bit of drama, I believe, a bit further down in what is the AM class. I believe there's been an incident for Matt Edmondson and also Andrew Skinner. Well, we have a replay to say what exactly happened very shortly. We will try and find out for you, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, we do have the replay coming up, but before we do that, we we do have this battle here between what is Daniel Payne and Gavin Gardner. Gardner going low, Payne going high, and I think this may be the next gen racing Ferrari driver's attempt to get through and clear this group. He wants to go further up the field. He's got the pace in the car he built. Payne's there, just backs out on the outside into the bus stop chicane, so that way he doesn't lose the momentum and he maintains the position over Houseoy. But now he'll be hoping that Gardner's got the run and the top speed in that Ferrari just to enable him to steer clear of his fellow Porsche drivers. We know that Payne and Houseoy have been battling hard for what is this P5 Pro position for quite some time, and Gardner was essentially the fly in the ointment that prevented them from battling further. But now that they've both been released onto each other, well, as you can see, they're closing up rapidly here in the run to the start line, and as they come in towards the proverbial banking, where it's going to be Payne, who goes very low. Well, that's pushing it to the yellow line, there's no doubt about it. Gardner then holds on, but Payne's going low, thinking he might be able to sneak up the inside of Gardner, but in the end it also uses it as a bit of a defensive measure versus Houseoy, and Houseoy there just going to watch from behind and wait for his opportunity. But from there, meanwhile, we look to Lamborghini driver here who continues to push on. This is Matt Hisley, the Turkish driver, looking up the inside of what will be Joshua Pratt there as the Tiki Supersport Audi tries to hold on, but meanwhile the G Motorsports driver here, we ride on board the nose, the front bumper specifically, as they make their way up towards turn number 6, and as they do so here, Hisley definitely proving to be brave and going all in on the moves here, and sometimes that's what you've got to do in order to gain the places. You've just got to throw caution to the wind, and well, the Turkish driver will pay for it in the pits, no doubt about it. With this V10 engine, a very thirsty engine compared to some of its rivals, but the thing is, when he's got the weapon in his hand, in terms of the speed at his disposal, he'll want to try and deploy it as much as he can and gain places, and then see where he comes out of the pits afterwards. As they make their way out of turn 7 onto the bank, and 8, you can see that Pratt getting the better run onto the bank, and that causes the gap to open up. It will now start to rescind back down as it goes to sub 3 temps, and as they continue to power their way on through, well, Hisley I think a bit too far back here, but Pratt taking his time before letting the car roll out there. I think conscious of the fact that Hisley could get close, and as he moves closer and closer, now just only 1.5 temps, winning a lift off there for the Turkishman and deciding not to go for the move. As they power their way onwards then, meanwhile we do look a little bit further up the order, and well, it is a battle time once again inside the top 10 here, as we see Eric Rosa for Race Lab Esports. He does have Daniel Shilcock quite close behind. We also started to see the leaders come up behind some of the AM drivers who've fallen found the early stage of the race, but Rosa, I think, now starting to cause a little bit of a split inside the top 10. You can see at the top of your camera for a brief moment there, that is going to be Jotatas, who's looking for a potential move, versus Wes Taylor as they make their way around the blue flag car of Neil Smith in the AM class. So Smith, after that instant, has fallen a long way down the order, and we see a question there from Solos1450 in the Twitch chat, which is anyone driving the Mercedes this season? We do have a couple of Mercedes drivers on the grid, and to give you an idea, Rob Armstrong in particular is racing the Mercedes in the Prime Plus. He's the only Mercedes on the grid here today, but we do have one member of the 6.3 litre V8 family racing for you there, Solos, and hopefully that does answer your question. But as the drivers make their way on through here on a live pitch, as right now Jotatas really at the bottom end of that top 6, it's gradually splitting away from the rest of the field here, and I think it's going to be much like if you look at, say, the Tour de France or any major marathon event, whereby we'll gradually see this group splinter off more and more, and in the end it'll be only those drivers who are able to maintain the pace at the very front, and well, that's sometimes what it's all about here. But of course, one small mistake, or indeed coming up behind a back marker at the wrong time, could completely bring this field back together. And again, we do not know the relative fuel levels of our drivers here. We've got no indication of exactly what strategy they're going for in terms of a major undercut, whether they're doing a lot of fuel saving behind their rivals. Though you can see Leaking McGee here really not comfortable right now in the fact that he's got completely behind, trying to drag race his way past Smith, and in terms got a distant tar for Shilcock in front, so this is going to be a bit painful to the number 9 driver, albeit in 9th place at the moment, leading the Pro Class, but you can see he's just not got the speed to make his way past Smith. Smith right now is out dragging King McGee, despite the fact that he's been in the tow, and well, Smith's car is definitely set up for a straight line speed, there's no question about it. On the brakes they go, McGee's going to have to go all the way around the outside here to make this happen, so it's Conkley, and in the end they'll both make the way through. Smith just holding his line, respecting the blue flags, and as they make their way through turns 2 and 3, they'll come on through. But I wouldn't be surprised, there's a little bit of a surprise there for what was King McGee, and I think Rachel Conkley will take that information and now recognise that BMW is running more rear wing compared to some of its rivals, just for the simple reason it seemed to take an eternity for King McGee to be in the place to make the move, and in the end have to throw everything in to make the overtake happen. But meanwhile, as they come down to the braking zone here for the hairpin, we look a bit further down the order, and we look to John Davis, who's being passed here up high on the outside by Yannis Albert, the elite driver, who's got to carve his way through the field after that spin on what was the open laps here at turn number 1. An unfortunate spin, but for all Bear, it was one of those ones where he's just got to green at Bear and get back into the race as soon as possible. But Davis won't mind that too much. He'll have a driver to follow for a brief moment and see if he can potentially find a little bit more speed. As we say hello then to Captain Caveman 33 in the Twitch chat as well. And as the driver's made away from us to say hello there to J Wings in the Twitch chat. And indeed, so many of you tuning in via Twitch or YouTube is great to see. And well, as we look to John Davis here right now, I do know there's a number of Norwegian fans in the YouTube chat, and well, let's look at a Norwegian driver for a brief moment here in the form of the Steinar Sunny Race Lab Esports. He's currently running P13 in the Crown class, and well, yet to take a pit stop indeed. The majority of our building yet to pit as well. We have had another recent pit stop from Daz Sharples. He's another driver who's taking his first stop of the day, which is the best part of 60 minutes in the Audi R8 Evo 2, and he's down to P15 in the Pro class. I think some Pro drivers might use him as an indicator, but right now, given the disposition of cars out on circuit, there's no real window for drivers to come out in, and well, to be fair, do you want to come out in a clear window of track on this circuit, given the fact the tow's so powerful around here, not just for fuel saving, but also for lap time. If you can gain 2 to 3 miles an hour in the tow, making your way around on the banking, it's going to be worth all the lap time you need. And that was something that caught out many a driver last time we raced here at Daytona in the GT3 class, was the fact if you come out of the pit in clear air, it's great at first, but I tell you what's also great, this is Hisley battling here with none other than Marvin Cruz, the Pro driver who just made his way up the inside of the Pro. And Cruz right now, he's taking names left, right and centre as he pushes on in P2 in the Pro class. And well, meanwhile, Hisley having a look behind him, he's got Khalid Ramadan for company, as Joshua Pratt is being a way to run away as they make the way in to what is a turn number 6 very shortly. The drivers pushing on as much as they possibly can here and doing everything they can in terms of the fact they've got the pace, but have they got the fuel now to take this where they want to go on strategy? Well, the change will be Hisley is keeping Ramadan behind, but also keeping to Cruz, so he can look to go after Pratt very shortly. From then we look back to Matt Whitefoot here, a driver who's on a move as he looks to go on the hunt versus Chris Round, the Audi driver just in front in the very colourful Audi R8, but to be fair, Whitefoot's car was very colourful in its own right. As he makes his way out to turn number 6 in towards 7, we jump aboard here with the 104 driver into the braking zone for it's turn number 7. As he comes on through, we can see the drivers in front get the better exit. Whitefoot had a fight with some oversteer there, we should say, as he made his way out the corner. That's cost him a lot of speed. In fact, that's given him a loss of about half a second there, just trying to get the car pointed before squatting the throttle fully down. As he makes his way on the bank near a turn at number 8 right now, definitely losing at the run on his rivals, but then this is where the BMW makes out their delta, which is being in the tow. As meanwhile, off camera, new fastest lap of the race, a 43.577, going to none other than Alex Millard, who's in P4 in the elite class and overall. The Effect Simulations Porsche driver definitely showing there's a lot more pace in this race. And our drivers come on through and up towards what is turn at number 12. We did talk about a little bit earlier with regards to an incident between Andrew Skinner and Matt Edmondson, and here's a replay from lap number 13. This was Skinner making his way through turn at number 1. A bit of damage on the rear car. Oh my good lord, and that, I believe that is Frankie Klein, who was already involved in an incident there, and with him, I believe that might have been Matt Edmondson. We take a look back a little bit earlier on. Klein at the time was leading in the AMP class, it should be pointed out. Through turn 1 they went, and Klein here have a very slow run. Edmondson, I think, having a very fast run by comparison, and in the end, under anticipating how slow Klein was on the corner. You can see Klein with a small wobble, and that's what led to the contact between the two of them, and then everyone having to go through the scene of the incident. But Frank Klein's lead now in the dust, it was saying, and a bit of a further contact there with one of the TE Simsport cars. And well, as we return to the racing, ladies and gentlemen, that definitely a surprise there, and that explains why you do have James Conley now leading the AM cast there. A key piece in the jigsaw puzzle has been answered in terms of what happened to change the lead of the AM class off camera, and there we have the explanation, as now Conley pushing on here, and right now he's got John Davis only 1 second behind. And as they make the way out of the corner, rolling on through the right and up towards turn number 6, we can see John Davis staying very, very close, only 1.2 seconds off. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in these deltas, particularly when the AM class has got other classes intersecting with it, both on the lead lap, but also coming up to them in terms of battling laps, it does mean that for these guys right now, the pressure is firmly on to try and maintain what is it, an advantage or that close proximity to one another, as Tim the Diesel will be all too aware the Crown driver right now has got AM company behind him. The TE Sim Sport Corporate driver pushing onwards here in the BMW M4, and very pleased to say we will, I do believe, be seeing his brother Shaminder Deanster on the grid later on this season as well. So we good to see the two brothers racing once again. But right now, Deanster in the number 10 BMW, definitely acting as a little bit of a towboat. It will be James Connie here to build up speed for him, and Connie in the tow. I think he'll be more than happy to sit there and just save the fuel, with a gap that's opened up more and more versus John Davies as he makes his way up towards the timeline here. You just see the overspeed building it in that Ferrari as a result of finding all the time in the world. But meanwhile, as we do have more drivers out there who are currently into the pits, including what is, I do believe, Eric Rosev, Connie up the inside there as Dieter gives him the space, recognising the two. And meanwhile, Rosev coming out the pits now. This is going to be a bit awkward. The Racing Lab esports driver in the number 1 car. Of course, he's entitled to the door number 1, given the fact he was our previous elite champion. But he makes his way in towards what will be turn number 4. He's come out in amongst quite a battling pack of amps and primes. Will this cost them some time, or will they calm their battling down? Will they have some pit stops coming up? That is going to be on Rosev's mind. But definitely he's come out in a bit of an awkward situation, and this may cost him the right to race back into the top 10, depending on where his rivals come out and how they work it all in between. But still, he's got just under an hour worth of racing left to go here at Daytona, and all the drivers right now, if they haven't pitted, will be thinking about a pit stop soon. And meanwhile, at the front of the field, this is all the way back to your leader of Aidan Neat in 157, the Britain for Arnold competition, being followed by David Sparrow in the McLaren MP4 12C. And while they're still staying nose to tail together here, as it's the top 3 of Arnold, then it's Alex Millward who follows them on through with Jack Taylor and Holders Jatartas together. A top 6 separated by only 1.5 seconds as they make their way on through the kinks and curves and turns 2 and 3, and almost towards 4 here. But again, now it really is a game of stamina between these guys, because of the fact they're running at such a pace. They've got 2.4 seconds over Daniel Shilcock in P7, and there he is in the rear. Your picture of reference, we focus on him now. But the Track 6 Racing driver here, well, he's not got any toe to work with, so for him it's a losing battle in terms of trying to chase that top 6, and instead he's trying to push on as he makes his way into the braking zone for turn number 6, and out of the right hander will Track 6 Racing driver. No, that lead battle is just off at the distance, but he hasn't really got any means of fuel saving while staying with it. Instead, he's got to go all in here or try and make some magical strategy work, and to do so, he's going to need to come into the pits and try and find someone to work with who can give him a tow for a couple of laps before his rivals pit. But that is going to be a question of whether he can find space in the circuit and the right drivers to do it with, given that we are in pit stop territory. And speaking of pit stops, we do have Joel Douton and Stefan Albanese in the pits. But Albanese leaving the pits. He was one of the first pro-amps to recently pit, coming in all the way from what was at the time, I believe, P3 in the class. He's going to rejoin down in P17 in the class as he makes his way out there for the Aero Esports, and the Italian right now in a solid race so far in the Porsche 992, but he'll know there's some distance to go before all is said and done. He brings himself up to speed. He comes out in P49. He's got some clear track, and his nearest driver will be this man, Connor Craven, in the PXL Sim Racing machine. And as he makes his way out to turn 4 and up towards turn number 6, right now Craven in turn has taken 1 pit stop already, a very short pit stop for Craven, in fact only 5 seconds. So was it some quick repair work and perhaps a quick splash and dash of fuel? Or it's going to be intriguing, given the fact the number 19 driver, if that's so, then perhaps he's all banking on what will be his second stop, in a very long stop by comparison. We'll have to wait and see what Craven's strategy will be, or whether he's got a third mandate pit stop on the cards now. But either way, definitely something we can't answer here unless anyone's got any information on the ground they can feed to us in any of the YouTube or Twitch chats, of course. If you've got any information that we might be missing or might be important, do pass it on to us. We'll try and relay that onwards on the broadcast here. But meanwhile, speaking of key information, well, here's a fact for you, and that's that Simon Andre Livingston is under attack from Alan Lever as they made their way through turn number 1. And right now, the Racing Lab Esports driver currently in P2 in the Pro-Am class. He was 17 overall. He has got the pressure on Alan Lever, albeit Reece Saunders just in front there. And Saunders as well trying to cut his way up the order after what has been a haphazardous qualifying session. He's doing so gradually, but Livingston looking more and more in his rear picture. And as we ride aboard the rear bump here of the Norwegian 23 Ferrari, we see a Lever at a distance, only 4 tenths behind, but that Lamborghini is much bigger than it seems on our camera pictures right now in terms of the threat it poses. And as they come out of the right hand and onwards towards turn number 7, Lever, Selby and also John Eddowes behind. We just simply trying to draft of a Livingston, as Livingston is of a Saunders, and waiting for that opportunity to pounce should it come before or after the pits. And they make the way onto the bank here. The reason, of course, why the racing is now slowing down to a degree and we're not seeing as many battles is because that big strategic element. It always happens at Daytona, as you point out, ladies and gentlemen. But the big what-if question, the excitement factor now is where do we see drivers fitting together once they leave the bits? And here's a prime example. We've got a splitting strategy here as Jotatis goes high past Jack Taylor for the lead this race. And how's he taken the lead? Well, that is because right now we've got Arnold Competition calling their drivers in. Neat, Serrero and Armstrong are in. Millward as well. So they've all decided to pit early here. Meanwhile, Jotatis and Taylor go on. And this is what we're talking about in terms of the fuel life in the cars. In the fact that Jotatis right now might be able to push on a little bit further in order to be able to retake the lead this race, or jump into lead, we should say. Hasn't led this race so far, but over limit racing job, we've done a lot of fuel saving those opening 15 minutes when all the fighting was happening. And now this is Jotatis' time. He's got Taylor 6 tenths behind, and Taylor's trying to stay with him here, but they've swapped places, and I think right now Taylor might just be trying to slip a little bit more fuel off his rival before they come into the pits themselves, trying to go at least one lap longer, if not two, and that may change the pit strategy for pit stop number 2 of the day. Because it does seem as though that 70% starting fuel tank is going to take our drivers the best part of 40 minutes into this race, so it means a longer opening stint, but then again it could also mean that drivers will need to mix things up. And will we see some long final stints from some drivers and some short ones by comparison? Well, they're coming up a little bit short in terms of miles per hour, and I believe that's an automated slowdown being served. Simon Andre Livingston, the Racing Lab eSports driver, letting Alan Lever go, and Lever taking what is currently the lead of the Pro-Am class all the way up to P6. There were so many pit stops playing out in quick succession, and therefore it does. I mean, right now the field is going to be constantly chopping and changing, but meanwhile, one thing that is certain is that James Conley here still trying to stay away from John Davies. Both drivers have pitted it once already, running by Tinder Dinsa, and well, as these drivers make the way on through what is the banking there of turn number 12, well, Conley right now keeping the power high, keeping the revs, manages, he makes his way to the timeline into the pits, does come Jotatis, and well, from the rear of the picture, that is your race leader, who now decides to take his first pit stop ahead of Taylor, and also Daniel Shilcock comes in a bit further behind, as does Rachel Conkley. And well, right now we will see that splitting strategy and see where it positions everyone, as meanwhile here is the driver who was leading before he came into the pits and really has triggered off the big wave of pit stops, and that is Aidan Neat as the Arnold Competition driver makes his way on through the bus stop chicane here, charging on around. And as he does so, we say hello there to Sarah Armstrong in the YouTube chat, also to Racing the Void in the Twitch chat. And other drivers come on through and around. Well, we can see Neat right now making his way up towards what will be the timeline. Taylor, Shilcock, Jotatis and Saunders, I can tell you, are still in the pit lane. And well, Jotatis is leaving his pit box now, but where is he? Makes his way towards the pit limiter line, but already Neat is through into the apex of turn number 1. So Jotatis has not gained as much as perhaps he would have liked here. Does it put him onto the back of this battle? It doesn't look like it. Meanwhile, as Alex Millward comes out of the pits, Millward's really had a poor pit stop by comparison, or at least had to put a lot more fuel in the car, because the effect simulation drive drops down to P5, and he's been separated from the top 3 for the first time today, albeit a stationary time of 28.3 seconds versus what was 22.8 and 22.5 for Neat and Armstrong, and then 24.4 for David Sobrero. So it does seem as though Millward's either had to put more fuel in the car in order to offset the fuel he burnt at the start of the race. Alternatively, perhaps he's put more fuel in to give him a longer middle stint here. But either way right now, our Arnold Competition do seem to be in control. It's a track position, but are they controlling the strategy? That will be the question. But meanwhile, from them, we have had some information to say that what is Simon Andre Livingston has been towed to the pits, and that is due to running out of fuel. In fact, as I look at my contact with window, he is currently parked in the pit lane, and that is a surprise and not a welcome one to be sure for the Racing Lab eSports driver. So it's gone very wrong for him, and well, it's very easy to make a mistake here trying to push the car a bit too much further. But meanwhile, as we do look from them, we do look to Jack Barker here right now in the Ford GT, the one and only American machine of this grid, and right now flying the flag high as he makes his way on towards what is lap number, I do believe, at 23 for himself, running P4 in the AM class, and after what was a P2 in qualifying, losing a couple of places at the start after a bit of a misfortunate position going into turn number 7, and quite the what was the concertina effect. Right now still holding on, and behind him James Bostock as well, after a small incident early on in this race we saw him lose the car to a degree in terms of that rear end coming on loose from the Petec GP2 driver, now back into P5 in the AM class and lapping quite rapidly. In fact, he's not quite matching the top 4's pace, but he's outrunning the pace of the likes of Andy Skinner and John Doble behind. The Bostock could be on course for a top 5 here, which would be one great debut for the number 66 driver. There's no doubt about it, as he drifts a little bit deep down to braking into turn number 6. He won't want to make that mistake again for the simple reason that is going to overheat the tyres and cause a lot of pain in terms of this stint, in the fact that once these tyres do start to get very hot, it's very hard to cool them down, and that can lead to what is excess wear, and particularly what will be some rather nasty degradation on the rear tyres of the Audi, and that's where it goes wrong for the Audi. Once those rears start to go, in terms of how hot they get, they're very difficult to bring back under control. But meanwhile, what we can see being controlled here is a bit of exchange of position. It's always P51 between Connor Craven, who's on the low line, versus Edmondson, who's gone high, and Edmondson right now, the Am tucking in behind the Pro-Am, and he's got Simon Hightley and Guy the Al, the driver, who we couldn't quite see early on, but the Luxembourgish driver for the wrong stuff here, staying in the tow, and currently P10 in the Am class, and just trying to run close in the Porsche 992, as the number 17 driver follows Hartley on through here, and Edmondson right now, the leader of this trio of Am drivers, all trying to pick up the speed of Connor Craven as they power their way on for the left-hander right now for them. It is going to be one of those situations whereby, just by carrying up the speed as much as possible, they'll be hoping that Craven can just keep the running along, albeit I see Craven there pulling off the racing line. I think right now he's a bit worried that he could be passed, alternatively trying to break the time, but the UKSimRacing driver doing so, while he cost himself a little bit of time on the straight, and Edmondson, I think that's going to be a signal to the UKSimRacing driver that he's going to need to pass the Englishman, for the simple reason that right now Craven may not feel as though he's got the pace to chase after Sabas in front, and instead it really is going to be a fight now for which track position is down in P51. But meanwhile, looking from them, we have had some changes in positions further up the order. Eric Rosev here, P6, and just ahead of Jack Taylor as they make the way on through what is turn number 1. And we have had confirmation of what has been a slowdown the bus stop chicane exit for what was, I do believe, at Jack Taylor, and therefore that's why he's dropped down to P7, and in fact tucked in behind Rosev here, and that's the exchange of position. Rosev has gained a place on Taylor, and Taylor losing out on the run through the bank in the turn number 12, and losing out as a result as well, position inside the top 5. So that's going to release Hollis Jatatus, albeit 2.5 seconds up the road, to be in a bit of a lonely P5 at the moment, unless he can close up to the back of Millwood, which in fact he has done so. So therefore we are starting to see little pairings and triplets of drivers inside the elite top 10, all trying to stay together and work together now in this second stage of the race. But meanwhile, you can see two drivers who are not working together here, Joshua Pratt versus Rachel Conkley, and Conkley under pressure as they made the way up towards turn number 6, via the kink of course coming into left-hander. As they make the way through turn number 5, going on the offensive as they charge into the next braking zone, and looking to do everything in his power in order to go on the offensive here. I think Conkley right now restabilising the situation. Rachel Conkley, of course, P2 before the pit stops in the pro class, albeit all of our pros have now pitted, it should be pointed out. So therefore, the fact we're seeing Peter Cox leading here, could he have a surprise up his sleeve by comparison, because Cox has jumped into the lead of the class. Meanwhile, Lee King McGee is right behind here, and all the Destino Motorsports driver to be leading. You can never count anybody out in these races, of course, but then again, is there going to be a bit of a different strategy? And also, Pete Cox's pit stop was 22.3 seconds to Lee King McGee's 29.3, so therefore a 7-second delta, and that might be what is the difference of a tyre change. And remember, our drivers have no mandatory requirement in terms of their pit stop. If they want to run a single set of tyres all the way to the end, or try and run some tyres all the way to the end, so say the fronts but not the rears, which they may change, with fuel added into the car and also tyre changes occurring simultaneously. Well, the key point being here is you might be able to just take track position by simply not changing tyres, alternatively only changing a couple over the race, where so your rivals may change all of them, and therefore that could be some of the big surprises. But right now, to see these two fighting for the Pro League, P9, P10, where it's Cox who leads ahead of King McGee. But again, we do have another pit stop most likely to come. We suspect that will be in the closing 15 minutes, if not sooner, given the fact we saw our main 4 pit stops occur around the 40-minute mark, and who has got the fuel in the car to go all the way as far as they can this second stint, and who's going for a quick and dirty stint to try and leapfrog their way through the field. It's all to play for here between our drivers as we move into the second half of this race. As we do, meanwhile, we look from the two pro leaders to what is a little bit further back, and indeed back to what is held up Gonzalez. As we can see here, the Track 6 Racing driver trying to fight his way for overall position past what is John Edos. They make the way in towards the horseshoe hairpin, and well, the Portuguese here staying close but not quite able to find a way through at the moment as they power their way up towards turn number 6. And again, I think now the Porsche driver is going to be about hoping that Edos can maintain a similar pace to him and just give him the slipstream draft as a result, and enable the pair of them to close up to Oldfield, who's the next driver, Simon Oldfield in P28. Albeit as they come through the corners, you can see that mastery of the corners that the Porsche has, but ability when it's being wielded by the UKSimRacing driver. Meanwhile, the BMW may not be as strong in the corners. Indeed, it has a tendency to understeer on corner entry, but as they make the way now onto the bank, this is where the BMW with its 6-cylinder engine and its turbo will just be able to open up the taps and breakaway. You can already see the 3/10 gap, and Gonzalez in the toe there will close back up, but again, it will be a very gradual gain, and now he's got to make that tactical decision as they come onto the flat for the bus stop chicane. Does he go ahead, or does he just tuck on him? I think you're looking up the inside. I think feeling as though it might be his time to jump on through, and he does so indeed. Moves ahead of John Eddowes there into what will be P29 overall, and now Eddowes will have to make the decision in turn. Does he stay behind, or does he also make a move for himself? Well, as they come on through, meanwhile we look back here to what is the battle for P5 in the Pro class, and this is Hill versus Conkly versus Pratt as they all go around the outside. And really Saunders, this is going to be a very tasty as they come through turn number 1. They all negotiate it. Saunders in the end tucks back in, but right now Pratt's not done as he makes his way on the chase to his fellow Audi driver, looking up the inside, but Conkly immediately dives to the inside of Saunders, saying this will not do, and wants to go hunting as a result after what will be Hill once again. And Pratt right now will be hoping he can do something similar at the second hairpin. But it's going to be the question, or the Saunders question, you will, which is can you find your way past the Team U1 driver in enough time in order to be able to hunt after your rivals? Because the longer Pratt stays behind Saunders right now, this may just cost him some time as they're all pushing on here for what is a P5 route P7 in the Pro class, with the elite driver being the speed bump in the road, it would seem, for their little battle as they make the way in towards turn number 7. Khalid Ramadan and Met Hisley are also both closing up here. The Somalian and the Turkish drivers staying together, and I think they can see the trio in front of thinking about getting involved as well, so they're gaining some race time as a result of what's playing out in front of them, and they'll want to try and close up to that to a further degree. But meanwhile, speaking of staying close to one another, here's two Porsche drivers who are getting very close to the Itzbert on the run on towards what will be at turn number 1, and this is Alex Millward versus Aldous Jatatas as they make the way in towards the timing line onto lap number 28 they go. And right now you can see Jatatas there just staying in the turn. Millward not trying to fight it, just wanting to stay close, gain the top end speed in the draft, and also save some fuel as a result. But the top 3 right now is already 7 seconds clear, and the on-arch competition trio at the front of Neil Armstrong and Sabero have just pulled away gradually. And again, we do have the big question mark of strategy which is playing out here, but right now it looks like on-arch competition may be in control, albeit that second pit stop will be the defining moment which confirms our suspicions of whether that's true or not. Meanwhile, as we come back to some further battling, as Josh Pratt has made his way around the outside there of Saunders into turn 1, and he's going to release Pratt, and in time as well, because Conkly right now all over the back of Hill as they race their way in towards what we turn number 4. We jump on board here with the Prismatic Motorsports driver from Hungary as they come in towards turn number 4, and when equal machinery, it's going to come down to setup and driver approach as they charge their way in towards turn number 6. On the run they go, and as they do here, Hill right now, we do know that Alex Hill, a very consistent, a very calm driver, and knows when he hasn't got the pace to necessarily chase down the drivers in front, he'll play it smart and instead opt to either defend, or be playing it fairly. Alternatively, he may let it go if it's for the greater good of his race in the long term. But right now, I think Hill's going to be putting up the defensive guard as he made a slight mistake into turn 6. Doesn't quite have the same error into 7. Conkly gets a very strong run coming on through 7, however, really chopping the apex curve off perfectly. But as they make the way onto the banking of 8, we can see here 1.5 tenths is the gap, but Hill maintains the advantage initially. Conkly now starting to get the overspeed here as they made the way on through, but it's very gradual, and this might be a sign there's more rear wing being run on Conkly's car. But the Prismatic Motorsports drivers thinking about it. Can they look up the inside? No, they can't, and Hill simply holding the position here. Will Conkly now go all in on the second part of the run round the oval? This is going to be, well, if you're going to do it, you want to do it here because it'll be the run to turn 1, and Conkly right now very gradually gaining little by little, metre over metre, and as they get within under a tenth, they're still building the speed, pushing upward as we do show the dashboard in the bottom right corner of your screen. 167 miles an hour, the car struggling to get beyond 170, and Conkly here, there's just so much rear wing on the car, but it's a look at Hill right now, just holding firm. Conkly looking up the inside, they're going to have to go all in on the brakes as they make their way into turn 1. Side by side they go, and as they do, it's going to be Conkly looking for the move as they come through. Hill gives the space, and Rachel Conkly makes what could be a very important move. Count there as they come into turn 1. And as they make the way on through and in towards turn number 4, right now the Prismatic Motorsports driver will, with that, will Hill and Pratt decide to swap places in turn. The Tiki Supersport drivers may have an idea of how they can get back, or will they carry on as they are, and will Hill be able to stay with Conkly, who I think really wants to try and run on through. But as they make the way up towards turn number 6, well, that will be proven come the run on round towards the timeline next time around, as Hill right now just taking it carefully through turn number 6 once again, and they've got more company coming up behind as Khalid Ramadan and Met Hisley are both both caught up with Reece Saunders, and soon they'll be looking to pass the elite driver. But from them, we look back down the order, and in particular, we do look to none other than Jack Barker, who right now in the Ford GT that's just gradually trying to cut down the distance between itself and Christopher Bates in the very colourful RGV racing machine. Bates just in front there in with the privateer machine, but I believe previously racing under the banner of RGV Racing, unless I'm mistaken. And the 35 right now in P16 in prime, P45 overall, with Jason after Armstrong. But right now Bates is sandwiched between Smith and Barker, and Neil Smith, of course, with that early damage and an early pit stop to go with it. The 14.5 second pit stop is out of sorts on strategy. But can Smith find a way to recover from this? Meanwhile, Barker having a 26 second pit stop. He's dropped down to with P4 in the class, but still the AMP car knows he's got some mileage to go and really fighting for a podium spot right now in the AMP class. Can he make it come on through with the Ford GT? And when I spoke to him in the build-up to tonight, and definitely tell you, Jack Barker was saying to me, just keep your eyes on me on the straight. I may not be the fastest in the corners, but I'm going to show everyone just how fast this thing can be on the banking. And well, he's definitely proven that so far as he makes his way on towards turn at number 8 as he charges his way on through. Will mean while we do look from him a little bit further back up the order, and this is Simon Oldfield in the Team Danielson machine. The pink machine right now being passed there by Gonsalves, who looks on the low line, and I believe that's going to be the lead driver moving on through to what will be a P27 overall. And meanwhile, we have had a jump to the pits for Khalid Ramadan just moments ago. Something's gone very wrong for the Somsport driver. We're going to try and find out what's happened, but Ramadan's had to be towed to the pits for an instant. And well, here's the replay to explain the story. Oh, goodness me, and well, this was the aftermath of the instance of Ramadan there. A slow run through turn number 1 and a bit of contact with Matt Hisley, but I think there was more to that than meets the eye. And let's see if we can find out the true story here, as here's a further replay. Oh, goodness me, and already there was some contact there between Ramadan and what was Saunders. We saw at the corner of the camera. Hisley in the end coming into the scene of incident, picking up some damage. I think that further contact, which Hisley would not have been able to do anything about, the yellow flags would not have been waving in time. That's what's led to Ramadan having to be towed to the pit. So contact between Saunders and the Somsport driver, and it's gone the wrong way for Somsport as a result. But meanwhile, as we return to your racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to see so many of you tuning in, whether on YouTube or Twitch, and we'll glad to see so many of you enjoying the racing so far. And if you haven't already, do let us know who you're cheering on today and what your predictions are for this second half of the race. We've still got a good way to go. All going to be a bit of drama to go, as well as that pointing the wrong way for a brief moment was the car, I do believe, was Noya Sabas, and well, for Sabas, it was contact there and being turned around at the P52 driver overall, P18 in the prime class, definitely having a nightmare moment, and well, on large competition having to worry about what's in front of us. They try to carve their way between some back markers now, flashing their lights, and well, understandably trying to say to them, look, we've got a race to win here, and we've got a 1, 2, 3 to try and make happen, don't get in our way. But these are the moments, of course, where little mistakes can be absolutely costly as they come on through and around the banking of turn number 8 as they draw their way up to speed. Meanwhile, this is also the opportunity for likes of Tartas and Alex Millwood. If they can find their way through the traffic much more gradually, but also more efficiently, they may be able to gain some time back on the leaders in the strategy stakes. But again, we're wondering whether the tyres have gone on the cards for both Millwood and Tartas. And meanwhile, for the Armstrong Sparrow, whether the tyres will go on in the next pit stop, and therefore we'll see a reversal of the pit times, and that could be an opportunity. But as they get caught up behind Cy Hartley, we'll let them go understandably on the run out of the bus stop chicane. I think right now the two Porsche drivers will be very grateful for how close they've got, but Tartas there goes extremely high immediately. I think trying to say to me, look, I don't want the speed off you, I don't want the place off you, I want you to get past Hartley. But there's just one problem when you've got Cy Hartley and the BMW M4 in front of you, and that is that BMW is not slow. And I think in the end, Hartley is going to pull the car high and actually lift off the throttle there in order to let the Porsche drivers make their way through. Well, Hartley giving himself what is a major slowdown effect, with blue flags being respected by the gentleman racer, and as Jatarta tucks by Millwood, well, there they resolve it. But that goes to show you again how these Porsche 992s, they just do not have that top end compared to say the BMW, particularly when the rear wing has been set the right way. And that is going to be one of the changes they'll face coming through traffic, is if their rivals, who they're trying to make their way through, we should say, have got what is less rear wing and a lot more top speed, then they're relying on those drivers just simply lifting off on the straight, because that is going to be the only way they'll find their way through unless they muscle into the infield section. But meanwhile, looking from them for Stefan Albanese, a driver who continues to carve his way overall. He's currently P23 and trying to look around the outside of Casper Botner here for P22. He's P3 in the prime class is Albanese as he comes down to the braking zone for turn number 1. And through at the left-hander he goes. Right now his next target will be Marvin Cruz, and Marvin Cruz is 3 seconds up the road, and Albanese's pace not quite on the march of what is Marvin Cruz's by comparison. A tenth a lap Cruz is gaining to Albanese right now. I think having to play the long game here and hope the pace does come through in the long term, but we'll have to see what comes for him. But meanwhile, as we look back here to Alex Mills from Effect Simulations, Andrew Tartar chased him in the battle for what is P4. Will's been respected behind Eric Rosev right now, 2.5 seconds, and he's got Jack Taylor who's following them on around as they make their way up towards the banking of turn number 12 once again. And Rosev right now in the Tersai Harding will be BMW and BMW here. I think Rosev will have an easier time finding his way past the Tiki SimSport driver, and as they power their way onwards towards what we turn number 1. I think we're confident. As meanwhile, look at my Conte roof window. James Bostock is into the pit lane for his second and final pit stop. And well, that's an early pit stop from Bostock. I do wonder whether the Petec GP2 driver might trigger off away with pit stops in the AM class in particular. But definitely he's going in nice and early to give himself what will be roughly a 32-minute final stint. As we wonder about that, we do also wonder about what's happening between these two at the front of the Pro Class field. Peter Cox versus Lee King McGee. And will King McGee just staying behind Cox here as they make their way onto lap number 33. They're fighting for P9 overall, but the leader of their class, more importantly for them, but they're not showing any signs here. But King McGee are trying to fight his way through. I think right now these two just trying to extend the stint as much as possible, work together, given the fact they've got a 12.3 second gap to Ryan Davies, who's in P3 in the class, P11 overall. And then you do have the whole question of Krista Halsoy and Rachel Conklin and Alex Hill, P4 through to P6. They're much closer together, very closely matched on strategy, but they've had a bit of a different race, and therefore the traffic they're trying to intercept their way through is not necessarily going to be obliging to their strategies. As meanwhile, these two pro leaders definitely right now just gradually eking out what could be a strategic advantage that will definitely be felt when they come on to the final stint of the race. As they make their way on around from them, we look back to Alan Lever and Rob Selby, and well, these two, they've been together for quite some time. The two UKSimRacing and drivers from UKSimRacing stewards, and well, they've been following Nicholas Rice, the Destino Motorsport driver, and Rice here looking up the inside of Bostock, who's a lap down on there, have recently left the pit lane, so therefore the sign of respect blue flags have immediately shown good awareness of that. Rice here trying to chase after Casper Potter for P9 in the Pro Class, P23 overall, and as he does so with the Destino Motorsports driver in the previous GT3 league, the driver had the worst luck of anybody when it came to the GT3 AM class in the title fight between himself and what was Mark Collicott, and in the end it went Collicott's way. Rice did have the pace to match Collicott, but all the major incidents found Rice over Collicott for most regards, and Rice right now in the Pro Class keeping his head down and carrying on. And well, he'll know that Casper Potter is not too far away, but 2 seconds is a long way to go when this race is just about being in the slipstream train as it is about being faster than 1 lap pace. As we look from here to what is Alex Hill, well, here comes Joshua Pratt in the battle for P1 is P5, in fact P6 we should say, in the Pro Class, and there goes Pratt down the inside in towards turn number 1. I think he'll let this one go obligingly, and he doesn't need to fight with his fellow TE SimSport driver, and more importantly they've got bigger targets to take on, and that's Rachel Conklin and the rest of the top 5 in the Pro Class. So therefore he'll right now just simply tuck it in and carrying on the momentum as they make their way in towards the horseshoe hairpin. Come on through the right hand and around from there. A little bit of information, of course, with regards to the Daytona circuit for those who are curious. The thing about this circuit as well, some of you may know of the Rolex Daytona 20,000 Daytona, as sponsored by Rolex, the title sponsor year in and year out. Now this circuit does have a full set of illumination lights which are currently in use at the circuit here today on the simulator, but a little lesser known fact perhaps is the fact that the illumination that's currently being put onto the circuit is actually having to be dimmed down quite significantly by the best part of approximately 60% of the maximum illumination the lights can provide, and that is to provide what is nighttime and racing conditions. With the lights with maximum illumination, it would feel like it's daytime to our drivers. That's how strong the flood lighting is at Daytona. But to ensure the racing essentially has a nighttime period, the organisers at the circuit do have to run those floodlights on a much lower intensity compared to how they would for perhaps some other series that race particularly in the evening going into the night and conclude in nighttime hours. So a little bit of trivia there for the Daytona circuit if you didn't know here, and the fact that this circuit is definitely one of the premier 24-hour racing circuits of the world. The 24 Hours of Daytona normally occurring in the first half of the year, if my calendar does serve me correctly, but it's one of those circuits as well whereby to go racing here for 24 hours, they do have to artificially tweak the conditions slightly in order to give off the night time. As we look to Neat and Armstrong continue to make the way on through. James Bostock has been involved in an incident which I think we're going to get a replay of very shortly off camera, but meanwhile staying with what's on camera right now, and will these two continue to gradually pull away in the trio of Audi, the the duo of Audis, we should say, as meanwhile the last member of the trio, well, previously part of the trio, but now has lost out, is David Sobrero, as the Arnold competition pink McLaren MP4 12C has fallen away from the top two quite recently. 3 seconds is the delta now, and I wonder if there was perhaps a bit of a mistake for Sobrero, but the key thing being, well, he's got some way to go, and as he does so, is he now just back in the car, perhaps saving some fuel to get to his next delta as well, in terms of when that pit stop's due to occur. So we're only now 29 minutes remaining in this race. There's still a way to go here at Daytona, and I think we are going to see plenty more pit stops starting to play out. And well, speaking of pit stops, we have got Casper Brotner and Nicholas Rice both coming in quite recently. Brotner's already leaving the pit lane, so therefore he's done his final pit stop of the day. Stefan Albanese is also leaving the pits here, and Albanese is one of our podium contenders in the Prime class here, so he makes his way through. He drops down to what will be P14 in the Prime class. I think he'll be now looking for what is an empty road for the remainder, but here comes the Mercedes AMG Evo of Rob Armstrong, the UKSimRacing Mansell, and how can he get involved in this fight? Well, he can't really at the moment. He's too far back from Albanese, and Armstrong's got another pit stop to serve, so therefore Armstrong not in the same race as Albanese, which is going to feel a little bit punishing and a bit frustrating, but he'll keep his head down. Meanwhile, another two-stopper so far is Matt Edmondson, the UKSimRacing Stewart, and he's come back out in the AM class in what is P9 class, right behind Neil Smith, who's recently pitted as well. So Smith, by taking a pit stop a bit earlier, has in fact put himself ahead of Edmondson, a driver who's competing for the top 5. And Smith right now may have, despite what was a bit of a calamitous situation at the Horseshoe Hairpin in the early stages of this race, he may have jumped himself right back into top 5 contention here, as we've got a lot of pit stops still to come. And as Edmondson gives chase after Smith, we'll have to see how much fighting occurs between these two, or whether they're both cognizant of the fact that if they fight now, they're going to cost each other the opportunity to finish inside the top 5 of the AM class, and they may be battling for as far down as what is P8 in the class in the end as they come into turn 1. Smith goes very deep, and I wonder if Smith's changed the tyres on that BMW, or if he has, where it's only perhaps one of the rear tyres, because right now that car definitely does not look too well seated. We ride on board and look back over what is the rear of the car from inside, and as they make the way out of turn number 4, well, Matt Edmondson here staying close, and the Ferrari driver definitely shine. That Ferrari is in a much happier place when it comes to corners compared to the BMW M4, but then again you can see the speed here of the 6-cylinder machine from Germany as they make the way under, braking into the second hairpin. That's defensive driving from Smith. He doesn't want to let Edmondson go, so Neil Smith right now I think opting here to fight for wherever he plays his game, and well, hoping that he can tell Edmondson, look, just stay behind me in the infield section and on the banking, I'll pull you all the way to victory. I think Edmondson here feels like he's got a bit more pace in that Ferrari. He just needs to find a way to deliver it, but as they make the way on around it, coming through the left-hander of turn number 8 and roaring the way on through, Edmondson tucked in behind, and you see the BMW opening up the gap, really now building up that horsepower as they make the way on towards the bus stop chicane, and just no change here between them as they head in towards aforementioned chicane, and indeed the BMW firmly affixed to what could be what is P8 in the AM class, and wherever else it gains after strategy is taken into account. But meanwhile from them, in terms of changing positions, we have recently had a change for position between Rob Zelby and Lever just behind as they make the way onto the turn 12 bank, and Zelby of UKSimRacing should be released by Alan Lever into what is P3 in the Prime class. Remember, these guys have got to take one more pit stop before it's said and done, and I think right now Lever wants to tuck in and get some fuel saving, but also perhaps feels as though Zelby's the faster driver of the two of them and doesn't want to hold him back. And well, the two teammates will work together on this. They'll be on the radio to each other and deciding what's the best course of action here, because they'll want a major result for the team before the day is done. As they come in towards turn number 1, through the left-hander they go. They'll be right now. Definitely you see that gap opens up by 2 tenths out of turn 1. We'd expect it perhaps a little bit given the capabilities of the car, but then again the Lamborghini has no slouch in the corners. It's a very dancey car on that rear end, and until we're inventing words in the dictionary, well, Lever definitely wanting to dance the rear end of that Lamborghini around as much as possible. Now this way in towards turn number 6. Still waiting for pit stops to come, and well, with those pit stops in mind, we do have a bit of a change of position here for what is Alex Hill. He gets past Joshua Pratt, but Joshua Pratt's nowhere to be seen. What on earth has happened to Joshua Pratt? He rejoins, although that's not a conventional line to rejoin, and that's cutting across the yellow mandatory line. And what exactly happened to Joshua Pratt? Well, here's a quick replay. Making his way up towards what was at the time turn number 7. So this was an original incident before what then has happened a bit later on, losing the rear end of the car, and it's gone all the way around the T-Sims Corpa, and in the end the 88 driver losing the rear of the car and having to bring it back together. And well, we saw him at the bus stop chicane, we did get it right, but there's a rejoin when he got it wrong. In fact, he gets it wrong there at turn number 7, and we did catch him coming out of turn number 7, so therefore we were right the first time I rejoined. But as we return to your live pictures, right now, the T-Sim Sport Corporate driver, as G's and High said there in the Twitch chat, Audi doing Audi things, and then definitely the rear end of that Audi being sensitive and on one rear tyres letting go. But meanwhile, letting go at the lead of this race and coming out of the pits now after his second stop is Aidan Neate, large competition. Where does he come out? He comes out right into the thick of a battle here between Wes Houston and Conkley. Looks up the inside maybe, and Aidan Neate knows he's got to go. Right now, he's not going to wait for a bus here unless it's at the bus stop chicane. Instead, he's got to gain places, and he's got to calm through the field quickly, because if he's held up behind drivers, he's going to lose what is potential positional advantage in strategy. And well, the pit stop being 21.1 seconds there for Neate. It was a relatively short stop, and in the end going all in now, all the way in. But how far can Neate go? In the fact that he feels like he's earned the right to win this race as he makes his way in towards what will be turn number 7 here, but with Armstrong, with Sobrero, also Millwood and Jotata still staying out for at least another lap. Has Neate gone too soon? Could this strategy cost him, and could this be a race win that's going to leave him alone? But as he makes his way up towards the bus stop chicane, we're going to find out soon, because Armstrong's down into the pits as the second member of our large competition comes in rear of the picture. That was Jack Barker coming in, and was all the drivers all make the way on down the pit lane. Also David Sobrero is in. What about Millwood? What about Jotatas? Well, here they come, and well, Millwood jumps ahead of Jotatas and stays ahead for now. But as they come down in towards turn, what is number 1 here, you can see that Jotatas is starting to put a bit more pressure on, because they know they've got to go now. Strategy is going to become more and more important as they make the way on through. But meanwhile, Shaz Bear coming out the pits behind, albeit a lap down, so he can't really get involved in this battle. And as they make the way through the right hand at turn number 4, well, these guys carry on. But what about Armstrong? Leaves the pit lane. Where is Aidan Millwood? Not Aidan Millwood, we should say Aidan Neate. And well, where is Neate is the big question that we're still asking. And there he is, as the Arnold competition driver makes his way out of turn number 1. And as he does so, well, the lead, the effective lead on strategy is going to James Armstrong. And Neate has lost out here. As you can see, Armstrong has just jumped ahead of Davies with Gardner behind. And Armstrong could not have asked for a more perfect pit stop. 19.47 seconds stationary compared to Neate's what was 21.15. And that is the difference. 2 seconds on a pit stop has left him ahead of a line of 3 cars that have all got to pit, and Aidan Neate right now has got to try and carve his way through, or pray may pit soon, because he is losing time very quickly as Neate goes up the inside of Cameron Gardner. Well, looks like the inside of Cameron Gardner very shortly. That's like the inside of Rachel Conkley. And as they make their way up towards turn number 7, well, right now the Prismatic Motorsport driver is going to be more focused on chasing after Ryan Davies and dealing with Krista Halsoy behind. So this pro battle is just important to the drivers within it, as with the elite battle around them. And the elite drivers right now have got to be careful and play their cards right. It's going high. That's Skinner, Andy Skinner there in the AMP class, who decides being a lap down to take the high line, just steer clear of all the lead action that's going on in front of him. But as they make the way on down towards the bus stop chicane, well, Aaron Rosev's now into the pits from P3 at the time in the elite class, or was effectively previously P6 in the elite class. But he'll be wondering if he's been able to jump his way back into this lead battle. Meanwhile, Millwood and Jotatas go around for another lap. It's a personal best from Millwood off camera, 43.503. So lap times continue to come down for some drivers, and as they do, we're staying firmly affixed right now to the battle for the lead of what is the elite class, with a bit of a battle for the lead of the pro class flying into the picture as well. And these two elite battles crossing over, albeit on strategies. Into the pits comes what is Ryan Davies there from the lead of the pro class. That releases confidence, that releases Halsoy as well. But meanwhile, Neate looking at the inside here to Gardner, goes in very late. Gardner's going to see it coming, leaves the door open, and Gardner will know that he's not really battling with Neate here. There's no point fighting with him, given the fact they're on different strategies. But Neate's having to do this the hard way. He's come from very far back. He's still there, Gardner on the inside now. And as they break their way into the horseshoe hairpin, well, Gardner, I think at this point, just thinking about what's the right thing to do here. Does he fight it? Does he let it go? Because he's not reading the fight of anyone around him. And right now, Neate just cannot find a way to accelerate the Ferrari as they make the way into the kink of 5. Up towards 6 they go, and he's got a nose ahead now. The inside of 5 into 6. He has to go all the way around. Gardner's still there, so Gardner's here to play. He's not here just to give way. And as they do, Neate is losing about time. There's contact between the two. Gardner goes round. Neate takes to the grass, rejoins safely just about there. And meanwhile, behind Rachel Conkley, who leads in the pro class. Well, right now, they've got the consideration of the fact that with Ryan Davies recently coming into the pit, Conkley's time may have now started to be dwindle in the lead. We've still got 20 minutes of this race to go, but the tempo could not be higher, as we're still waiting to see where the rest of the leaders do come on in. As they make the way on around here, and night continues to descend in the US state of Florida, where it's definitely the Sunshine State for whoever wins today. But otherwise, it could be a dramatic turn of events for those who don't take victory at last. Simone on strategy, Rosev has come back out in what is here P11 overall, P8 in the elite class, and he's now ahead of Gavin Gardner, of course, rejoined after the contact with Neate. and with the two fighting there, it looks like both the cars rubbing together, and as they made the way on through here, right now Rosev out of sorts on strategy, it would seem, falling a long way back, albeit I think Rosev now just keeping his head down and seeing where the places come in here. I don't think he's going to be a player in terms of that top 5 battle, but I could be severely mistaken on that. But from then, we do look a little bit further down the order. We have got some more pit stops going. This is John Davis in the AM class leaving the pits. He rejoins in what is P3 in the AM class with John Doble in front, who's yet to take his second pit stop, and the same for James Conley, who's up in P25. So John Davis right now is your effective, I do believe, AM leader for the wrong stuff, ahead of what is none other than, I believe, it's Jack Barker, who's recently taken a third pit stop. So Barker, I think, has had to make an extra pit stop for an instant of some description, and what exactly has happened to Jack Barker, we're not exactly sure, but we are sure of at the moment is in the fact that John Davis, we believe, is your effective AM leader and is in a comfortable AM lead by a sizable gap, but more on that to be discerned when we get some further information. But meanwhile, just in front, this is Steve Hughes and Chris Brown. They've both taken their final pit stops of the day, and they're now fighting for what is P15 in the Prime class. Side by side they go on the bank in here on what is turn number 8. It's going to be a drag race, a battle of Audi versus BMW, the battle of two German marques, and well, on paper we would say that BMW being piloted by Hughes will be the faster car. It's on the outside here in the all black as they make their way onto the brakes, but meanwhile that's going to be Round, who says no you don't, goes all in on the brakes. Round there for Leroy Jenkins, and we'll definitely challenge this in a Leroy Jenkins, no doubts about that. If those of you are wise, the old World of Warcraft meme, but making a bit of a dice roll there and going all in and making it land. And as they make their way through turn at number 12, well, we've still got more laps to come, and we're still waiting on lead pit stops in the elite and also, well, in fact, in all 4 classes. But as they make their way through, and indeed their G's and high channeling is what is his inner Leroy Jenkins in the Twitch chat as they charge on their way through. You can see once again now, here comes Hughes looking around the outside. Meanwhile, Davis tucked in behind here. Remember, he's losing time now, being caught in this fight as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the Leroy Jenkins Audi Sport machine. Well, Davis picks his way on past Hughes there. 9, it's an important pass, but now he's got to do it again versus Round, and Round is not going to make it easy. He'll want Davis there as a little bit of a stopgap between the two of them as they make the way on through. And for Chris Round, it's all now going to be about simply maintaining the pace and demonstrating just how much he can get out of the Audi versus the McLaren behind him. But Davis, meanwhile, has got to make this pass count. The longer he waits behind, I think this is going to be more costing. Could we see John Doble or alternatively James Conley get in? Well, in fact, James Conley has already made a pit stop, ladies and gentlemen. His second pit stop done, and James Conley, for perspective, is back out in the lead of the AM class here in what is P36 overall, and the gap between himself and what is John Davis is the best part, I do believe, of 10 seconds. So Conley has made the jump. John Doble has yet to take his second pit stop. So James Conley, I think, is your effective AM leader, and I think could be your winner, presuming there's nothing that happens to Conley between now and then. But then again, we've said that many a time before, and what's happened in terms of the commentator's curse, we're not going to dwell on it here as the 46 driver makes his way on through, and we may have changed up the colours from the Valentino Rossi inspired Ferrari colours of the previous season, but flying the banner high for UKSimRacing Manson, keeping his head down. But meanwhile, we have into the pits. Orders Jatatas comes on through from what was Peter at the time behind Alex Millward, and well, the effect simulation try has been left to lead this race by his lonesome. Jatatas comes to the pit stall, and this could be a very important pit stop given what's happened for Need and also for Armstrong. Could Jatatas jump ahead of Need? Well, here comes James Armstrong, and to put you in the frame of perspective, Armstrong right now making his way on the bank of what is, I do believe, turn 12 up towards 1 he goes. It's a long run here for the Arnage competition driver, but Jatatas is leaving his pit box already, and as he does so, Armstrong comes on through. Jatatas in the rear of the picture there. Armstrong has cleared Jatatas. That's a key move. What about Neat? Now Neat with that instant with Gardner earlier on at turn number 6. This is going to be very close. They're going to be side by side effectively, albeit there's the limitation, the pit limiters in it. It's not quite as much, but look at the damage that incident with Gardner has done to Neat's race, in the fact it has dropped him the best part of 3 seconds of Armstrong, and Jatatas now is only 2 seconds off the Neat, and we're probably yet to take their final pit stop. Will you put that into the mix right now? If Jatatas can find some time on Neat, he could be in attack mode versus Neat at the very end of this race with 15 minutes left on the clock. As they head in towards turn number 6, and we're right now Lithuanian driving for Over Limit Racing, keeping his head down. There's still plenty of racing to come. David Sobrero has come out in P9 a bit further behind. You can see him down the rear of the picture for a brief moment, and as he makes his way out of the right-hander up towards turn number 7 he goes. Well, the Portuguese here in the 59 getting himself all set and ready to go on the charge, and with the Arnage competition, that pink driver pushing on at 9 now. He's got to do some hard work here on track if he wants to try and get back in the hunt. But again, we're waiting to see what Alex Mills and Jack Taylor come on through. Well, as soon as we say that, here comes your race leader into the pits. Now the Effect Simulations driver, you'll remember at the start of this race, after putting it on pole, absolutely went all in to defend the lead, lost it to Aidan Neat in the end, and then Millwood, after his first pit stop, dropped back towards P4. Or as he comes to his pit stall here, how long will he need? Jack Taylor goes on to lead this race for one more lap at least for TE Sim Sport Tower, and right now just showing that fuel saving can work to your advantage. And could Taylor factor into this? Well, we'll have to see, as meanwhile Millwood's still stationary. Meanwhile, where is Armstrong? Here comes Armstrong, making his way on past where's the start finish line, in towards turn number 1 he goes. Millwood leaving the pit lane, the rear view picture. Armstrong is clear of Millwood, but he's got a lot of traffic. There's a car off the road. That's John Davis, and Davis has been in contact with another driver and will come to that very shortly, and one that's important. But meanwhile, James Armstrong has cleared. Where's Alex Millwood? Aidan Neat has cleared Alex Millwood as well. So Neat, despite the damage done to his race, he doesn't lose out, and Millwood in the end just literally comes out ahead of Harold Stratatis by a sliver as we ride on board and look back from the rear Effect Simulations driver. And you can see that Stratatis right behind there. They are as they were when we saw Stratatis come into the pits and leave Millwood to his own devices. They haven't really gained as a result in the long term versus Armstrong. They gained versus Neat, but that's due to an extenuating circumstance. And now I think the big question is going to be, where does Taylor fit into this? And if he does, could we have a three-way fight for P3? Or is it a two-way fight for P3 between these two? Well, Millwood right now on paper, you would argue, is the driver who's got the one-lap pace in order to run away. But the problem is, that's in qualifying. We're here in the race, and when you can't break the toe, you need to be at least 1.8 seconds to separate two cars and prevent that toe from starting to have an effect. Well, Alex Millwood right now, the Effect Simulation driver, will know he's going to have to do this the hard way, and it may be just keeping his head down and just trying to be absolutely stubborn until that checker flag. But meanwhile, we do have into the pits Jack Taylor. He comes on through after leading a lap of the race here at Daytona, and TE Sim Sport Tower will be pleased to see that as he makes his way on through. Now, where is James Armstrong? He's already made his way clear of the turn 12 bank. He's on the flat very shortly, and that means that what will be Taylor will drop behind this guy as we see Armstrong charging his way on through. And right now, I think as he makes his way on past the pits, if we look at his left window and see Taylor sat there, well, in fact, he won't be doing that because he's got to try and deal with Chris Round here. I think his concentration will be thrown around. But meanwhile, Taylor leaving the pit lane, a very quick pit stop for Taylor. And there goes Neat, there goes Millwood. Well, Taylor right now has leapfrogged his way into this top 5 fight. That's incredible strategy for Taylor and the team, in the fact that whilst he is going to be about 2 seconds behind Stratatis, coming at the exit of the pit lane and bring himself up to speed, with Armstrong there backing off under blue flag, potential risk. But as they made their way through, Jack Taylor's moved up to P5, jumped to the Sombrero, and in turn has actually pulled himself a ticket to be inside the battle for the final spot on the podium. Should Stratatis and Millwood start to take time off each other? So Taylor really, I think, has found a bit of a surprise here in strategy and made it work. But meanwhile, as we look back to Lee King McGee here, well, he's come out after his second pit stop, leader of the pro class. Meanwhile, what about Rachel Conkley? Conkley coming on through. That's Peter Cox making his way past the Destino Motorsports BMW. This is a P2 in the pro class, and Cox has left ahead. Meanwhile, on the inside looks Edmondson as he dives there, and well, Conkley in the end is not going to be too pleased to have another car on the inside. But Edmondson now backs off, and as they do, well, Rachel Conkley losing what is P2 to Peter Cox, and Cox with a very short count of pit stops. And to be fair, Conkley was a short one as well, but that's the damage that was done to Conkley's race when being caught up in that fighting only 3 or 4 laps to go, in the fact that Peter Scott has leapt his way into P2 after being at one point chasing after Lee King McGee, who's made it work on strategy to take the leader's pro race and just run away with it by 8 seconds. But right now, Peter Scott's in a car that surely hasn't got much life left on the tyres. Well, the Destino Motorsports driver, he can hold on here, and he's got the car to do it in the BMW M4 versus the Audi, but Conkley's not going to let this go down. And then right now, it's going to be a chase from Rachel, there's no doubt about it. Well, if Peter Cox can hold on here, he may just have gifted himself a P2 and a surprise P2 for one that's going to be very well earned. But both of these drivers right now deserve to be P2 finishers, but only one can do that. But which of the two is it going to be? Well, I think we're going to see very shortly a potential opportunity for Conkley as we ride on board and look from the rear of Peter Cox's car. As he builds his way up through the gearbox here. Well, right now the BMW M4 driver, he'll look at his rearview mirror and notice that Conkley's not really closing too much with 10 minutes to go. And this is the time where fuel saving is needed due to putting too little fuel in the car. Then, well, there's going to be signs of the car backing off here. But right now I think both of these drivers will be going all into the very end of this race. And Conkley inching closer and closer as they cross the timeline. Only a 10th in as they make their way into turn 1. Conkley looking around the outside here. Can they find a move? No, they can't. And as they wait behind, coming on through the left-hander and onwards right now, the Prismatic Motorsports car all over the back of its rival Destino Motorsports, up towards the horseshoe hairpin they go. Conkley looking to the outside. It's going to be an attempt at a potential cutback here, but Cox sees it coming. He's got the rule book and all the overtakes, and as they make the way out to turn 4, just simply keeping it nice and tight. Now, whilst all this is playing out, ladies and gents, it's been brought to my attention by Buzz Races, and indeed it's a very accurate point. The battle for P2 in the elite class is now only half a second out between Neat and Millwood, so we're going to see more fireworks between them before this is all over. So there's battles for P2 wherever you look right now. The same in prime between Anne Lev and Rob Zelby, and I do believe between John Davis and Jack Barker there's only 2.5 seconds between them as well in the AM class, so it does seem to be the fight for P2 right now that's raging for our drivers. But meanwhile, while all this is playing out, we do need to take a look back to what happened towards, at the time, leader in the AM class of John Davis, and this was back on lap 43 into turn number 1, a surprise incident. We saw 4 drivers make the way in, on the brakes did Davis go, and in contact there with the number 4 car, who came in a bit late on the brakes, and I believe the number 4 car being of Chris Round, and John Davis losing that bit of rear bumper there, I think a bit of the rear wing piece as well, but in the end bringing it back together. A nightmare moment for John Davis, who was doing very well to be running in the lead of the M class, but James Conley has made it work on strategy. Davis just trying to hold on for P2 now all the way to the finish. But whilst we do return to the live racing pictures here for P10 overall, or P2 in the pro class between Cox and Conkley, as they make the way up towards the time to go on to lap number 47. The laps continue to trickle down here. Time is gradually fading away, and it's in these closing stages right now. The battles that our drivers have worked their way up towards the way to the finish, and well, meanwhile we do have Matt Edmondson versus what is Neil Smith, with Smith just finding his way on through, and this is the battle for what is P5 in the AM class as well. And we said about Smith getting ahead of Edmondson on strategy and proving to be able to find the ointment, and Edmondson right now with John Doe 5 seconds up the road, I think you'll know that P4 is gone, and it is a battle for the final spot inside the top 5 of this AM class, and Smith has brought himself back into a race, and we thought he might have been out of it after the incident at turn number 4 in the early stages. Well, there you go, it's not over until you reach the 90 minutes, and Smith right now, the Briton, the privateer, just keeping his head down, defending as stoically as possible here, and Edmondson right now having to try and unpick the puzzle, which is how do you find your way past the 304 BMW of Neil Smith. And it's not going to happen on the straights, it's going to have to happen in the corners. Where exactly can Edmondson make that Ferrari 296 6-cylinder engine work? That will be the change that confronts him, and he's got to try and unlock it within the next 7 minutes plus that final lap of racing. As they come on through. Meanwhile, we look back here to Cox versus Conkley once again as they make the way onto with the run up towards turn at number 1, and as they come on through once more right now, firstly into the bus stop chicane, of course. Cox being held very closely here by Conkley, and as we're right on board with the Prismatic Motorsports trying to error from Cox, this is Conkley's opportunity, but has it come too soon? That's going to be a question as well, because look at this, Conkley gets the nose alongside, but the BMW now just opens up the taps in terms of its top end speed, and again we know that this Audi from Prismatic Motorsports just doesn't have the top end speed. We've seen it struggle in the draft previously, and as they make the way onwards towards turn number 1 here, right now can the 51 find its way through, or as they charge away in towards turn number 1. Conkley's definitely going to have the wheel, and looking around the outside here, going all in. This is going to be very brave in the Audi draft, but they've got the rotation to do it, but not quite in the end, and Conkley backing off as they make the way all the way on through. But as they do, well, meanwhile we do look all the way out to the front of the field, because indeed the top 3 now coming together in these late stages, and Armstrong, Neat and Millwood all now separated by only 9/10 of a second here in the elite class overall. Well, Armstrong was leading quite comfortably, but it looks as though perhaps there's not enough fuel in the car. Perhaps the strategy now is to just save and siphon to the very end. Neat is closing up, and Alex Millwood back on the charge, and Holders Chatart is also closing up. So many big battles all coming together in these closing stages right now. We're trying to keep our eyes on every single one of them as we can, and we're going to focus a little bit more on this lead battle now, because we reckon that Millwood might be looking to try and come back versus Neat and Armstrong. Indeed, losing the lead of the race early on, but he wasn't out of it, and he's not going to let this go immediately. They charge away up towards what will be the next lap very shortly, going on to lap, what for them is lap number 49, and we jump on board here with the Effect Simulation driver, who right now, look at the inside, goes very late in the day again, and Millwood absolutely going full commitment, full send, and when Neat sees it coming, he picks off one, and right now Aidan Neat will have seen it, he'll open the steering wheel, but my goodness, Alex Millwood, will hands down take a foul, ladies and gentlemen, for the simple reason this man is absolutely committed. And as they make the way almost now into the second half of the infield section, Armstrong's going to look in his mirror, and I think he's going to do a double take and wonder where on earth has Neat just disappeared to, because right now I've got a Porsche 992 in the form of Alex Millward behind me, and he's not showing any signs of laying down. Was they make their way through turn number 6? Can Millward do the same to Armstrong? That'll be the challenge. Was they charged away up towards what is turn at number 7? It's great to see so many of you talking about the moves being made, particularly in the Twitch chat, talking about the send, and was they head onwards towards turn number 8? Well, meanwhile, whilst this is playing out, we can give you an update, say Conks and Conkley still is as it was. Meanwhile, in what is the M class, Davis versus Barker for P2 staying as it is, so therefore we're staying with us battling here for now. We'll give you an update on those where we can, and as they make the way through, Will Millward now, he's got 4 minutes to go, and Will, is the fuel there, is the tyre life there, and the brakes got the pad wear left. I think for Millward the brakes have definitely been tested. We know the brakes on this Porsche are so strong compared to its rivals. That is where a lot of the lap time comes, and that's why you can never count this Porsche out when it goes into a braking zone. But one other thing you can't count out here is the fact that right now Neat is going to be in the striking zone in the toe of that Porsche, and you can see that Armstrong is just pulling away little by little. The 992's just not got enough speed under the hood, and the 53 Effect Simulations car is now under pressure from Neat as Aidan Neat looks to move. This is going to buy Armstrong time. Neat looks the outside here, but immediately Millward goes defensive. He knows he's got to hold that inside. Meanwhile, Armstrong's got a little bit of company in front here. One car that's a lap down. There's a race lap esports car, and he'll be looking his way past it very shortly and hoping he can clear it soon. Whereas they make the way into the braking zone here. Horseshoe here, but he does so that Steinar Sonny lets him go around the outside, and the orange competition driver will be pleased. He'll know he'll have cleared what could have been a little bit of a roadblock to his progress, but now Millward flashed his lights here, the Effect Simulations driver. I do wonder whether it's going to be worth it to pass what we Sonny. Well, he does it, and Sonny just simply backs off completely. And well, as they come through, we briefly looked at Peter Cox versus Rachel Conkley, and as they come down in towards turn number 1, Cox defending, Conkley again trying to look for a way through, and they've been side by side on the run round this time, and you see Cox struggling for grip on the exit of turn 1 through turn 3. Conkley is there or thereabouts in the Audi, but the problem is that car's got all the grip in the world, it's got all the corner speed. Oh goodness me, and there's contact between the two of them as Cox is turned around, and Conkley in the end slows the car down, and we'll bring it back together here. And I think Conkley wondered if they could potentially wait for what's Cox to come on through, but I don't think there's going to be time to do so. Chris Constable makes his way past the prime leader, and as they do, Conkley I think in a bit of an unexpected moment, and that shows you how at risk Cox's car was in terms of oversteer, and Conkley just getting a bit too close for comfort in the end. We take a quick look back at what happened between the two of them. And jumping on board here, Rachel Conkley for the replay as they made the way through it. Watch Cox's rear end as they came through it, and the car just wobbles very slightly. And I think Conkley not expecting Cox to get a poor run off the corner, and to be fair, backing off, but realising that you can't back off forever. You got to go race and potentially take the penalty or let Cox catch up later. And Conkley going high and giving place the way it would seem until Cox catches up. Well, great sportsmanship being shown, but this means right now Ryan Davis is coming on through for P2 in the pro class, and Krista Halsey is going to come up towards P3 in the class. Meanwhile, whilst all this is going on, we come back to the live pictures of racing here for P2 in the elite class overall, and Millward's under impressive pressure from Aidan Neat as they make the way all through out of what is turn number 4 up towards 6. Well, anywhere you look, there's battles aplenty and surprises to be certain. And he's looking up the inside. Millward leaves the door slightly open, but that's almost as if lifting the skirt proverbially saying, for the simple reason here, in the fact he shows us a bit of space, but there's no space to actually be contested, and Neat's not going to go for it. He knows that Millward is just trying to goad him to think about it. And as they make the way on through turn number 7 up towards the banking they go of turn number 8, well, rolling on through here. Well, right now Millward will know that he's not going to be chasing after Armstrong. The gap is 2.1 seconds as they make the way through, and instead it's going to be a fight for P2 here all the way to the line. Meanwhile, whilst all this is playing out, Rob Selby is being passed, I believe, by Alan Lever for P2 in the prime class, albeit we can't quite get a little bit of replay on that at the moment, but what we can tell you is that it's definitely changed. Lever's moved up into P2 in Pro-Am ahead of Selby. They're separated by 1 second. Marvin Cruz 2 seconds behind. And as they come on through, well, right now our race leader of Armstrong, 15 seconds left on the clock. I think this could be the final lap of race, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be very close if we are going to get a 50-second lap in. It's going to be literally on the cards by a fraction of a second, but it is going to be the checker flag, and it's going to be James Armstrong for Arnold Competition, who takes the first win of the season over on the elite class. And then drag race the line, it is going to be Alex Millward ahead of Aiden Neat. Then what will be Orange to Tartar's P4 ahead of surely Jack Taylor who takes P5, David Sabero P6, Ambrose will come through P7 ahead of Daniel Shilcock to complete your top 8. But then Lee King McGee will come on through very shortly to take P9 overall. But for him, it's been a controlled race from the start, and the AKM Racing UK driver will be taking home the first pro win of the season as he roars his way up to the line in a successful run for the Briton as he cross line P9. It will then be Chris Constable just behind, who in an absolutely brilliant drive in the Prime class, he'll take the first ever Prime win of the UKSimRacing GT3 league in its history for Destino Motorsports, with Ryan Davies 2.5 seconds behind your runner-up in what is the Pro class, and then it'll be Krista Houseway completing the Pro podium. We've still got more drives to come, and here comes Peter Cox, ladies and gentlemen, and look at the sportsmanship from Prismatic Motorsports. Rachel Copley to finish behind Peter Cox and sacrifice all those places. Alex Hill and Nett Hisley then behind, and then Gavin Garner, Reece Saunders and Hilda Gonçalves, who comes on through at P19 in the end. We then have Adam Lever takes the runner-up position in the Prime class ahead of Rob Selby in what is a 2-3 for UKSimRacing Stewart. We've still got more drives to come on through, and I do believe very shortly we'll see John Eddowes make his way to the timeline. In P29, the battle with Mark Kotlakot in the fight of the two pros here for P10 in the class, right towards the checker flag. But as they make the way on around here, will they come to that timeline and complete their race? We do have one winner still to crown. It's in the AM class, and it's this man from UKSimRacing Mansell. It's the Briton James Connolly who takes the first AM win of the season and the only AM to finish the race on the lead lap. It'll be John Davies at P2 in the class and Jack Barker in the Ford GT who takes the third and final spot on the AM podium. And well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, all of our drivers have been classified as finishing the race now. But my goodness, what a race today. But we need to give a huge round of applause to James Armstrong in particular, who, whilst we didn't quite get a 53rd lap of the race out of him, well, in fact, a 51st lap of the race out of him, I think he'll be very pleased for it to end after 51 laps. And what a drive from the Arnage competition. Driver nailed it on strategy, nailed it on the defending early on, and making his way past what was the target of Alex Millward. And in the end, when it all went wrong for Aiden Neat in a brief moment in the second stint, it went so very right for James Armstrong. And well, the Arnage competition driver will be absolutely pleased with that as he carries on through there in the Audi R8 Evo 2, the new version of the German mark as well, also taking its first win in its UKSimRacing GT3 league history. And will James Armstrong being the one to do that as he burns the tyres out on the bank in there and trying to defy gravity and go up slope. And I don't think there's much fuel or tyre left in that car, but still, as he gives a bit of a spectacle to the fans, well, getting himself set there and burning the tyres out. What a race we've had, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And congratulations to Armstrong, Alex Millward and Aiden Neat for being our elite podium finishers and overall winners. And as he makes his way to the pits, also here a special mention to Alan Lever, who in the end found his way to P2 in the Prime class for UKSimRacing Stewart ahead of teammate Rob Selby. And was a brilliant team effort between the two of them. And well, you can see Selby there in the Ferrari 296 just ahead of his Lamborghini teammate. They weren't able to take a torch in to Chris Constable, your Pro-Am winner. And what a drive from the Audi drivers, they all come into the pits. James Conley as well making his way on down here. We've already had Lee King McGee make his way into the pits. As we can see there, a little bit of traffic jam on pit entry. I think our driver's blowing off some steam now. And as they come on through, well, James Connolly back in the driving seat and the number 46 driver absolutely delivering it today in definitely what was a tense race. And well, a special mention to John Davis as well, runner-up in the AM class. An incident potentially cost him the chance of the win, but still the wrong stuff driver. Well, no, he's done plenty of stuff right today in the McLaren MP4 12C, and to take a P2 in what is a tremendous car to drive, and well, a very tricky one as well. He'll be pleased with that on reflection, just ahead of Jack Barker, who was 2 seconds behind at the finish. But what a race day, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And as all the drivers make the way in to the pit lane, and the sun has fully set and darkness is enveloping the Daytona circuit, well, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. We start off with the overall standings, with our focus, of course, being on the overall top 10, plus the overall positions of our podium finishers in each of the classes. And as we can see, after 90 minutes of endurance racing here at Daytona in round 1 of season 12 of the UKSimRacing GT3 League, brought to you on iRacing and broadcast on Twitch and YouTube, only at the UKSimRacing official channels, James Armstrong taking the win for Arnage competition by 2 2.3 seconds over Effect Simulation's Alex Millward. Aiden Neat P3 for our large competition in the end. It wasn't quite a 1-2 for the team, with the Effect Simulations drive spoiling the 1-2, but still, what a battle between the trio, no doubt about it. P4 for Aldous Jatatis for Over Limit Racing, 1.6 seconds off of the podium in the end, and I think he's going to be pleased with that performance today, knowing that he really was the next driver in the hunt and making strategy work and working with Alex Millward in the mid-stint. And Jack Taylor, P5 there for Tiki Simsport Tour. At one point battling for P7, but in the end fighting his way through the P5 and showing that strategy sometimes is the most important element to take a top 5. Behind him, our large competition pinks David Sobrero with Eric Rosev P7 from Racelab Esports, and then Daniel Shilcock in a quiet race after what was a bit of an exciting start for him, the Tractix Racing driver, taking a P8 overall and in the elite class. Lee King McGee in the end taking the first pro win of the season for UKSimRacing UK. It was a fantastic drive. We can see him there typing boom P1 into the YouTube chat there, and congratulations to you, Lee. What a great drive, no doubt about it, and taking that win in the end over what was your prime winner of Chris Constable for Destino Motorsports in a solid drive there as well, and a comfortable win for the 61 driver. Ryan Davies, your runner-up and best of the rest overall, but runner-up most importantly in the pro class there for Tiki Simsport Carmate, ahead of Tractix Racing's Krista Halsoy, who in his debut in the UKSimRacing GT3 League, definitely making his voice known in the end. And whilst he may have inherited 2 places from the altercation between Peter Cox and Rachel Conkley, still you've got to be there at the right place sometimes to take a podium, and he was exactly there, and what a drive. Peter Cox, when we should make a special mention to both Peter Cox and Rachel Conkley for their brilliant battle, which saw them finish P4, P5 in the pro class, P13, P14 overall, and again that absolutely brilliant sportsmanship from the Prismatic Motorsports driver to slow down, relinquish all the places, and then let Peter Cox take the position ahead of Rachel Conkley come the end of the race. We then come on to your podium finishers in the Pro-Am and also the Am classes. We continue our Pro-Am theme. And as we can see there, P20 overall for Alan Levy, your runner-up in the Pro-Am class for UKSimRacing Stewart, in the end just ahead of teammate Rob Zelby, and a brilliant 2-3 finish for the 2 teammates. They couldn't quite take the fight to Chris Constable today, but they definitely showed that they worked together and made sure to steer clear of the danger man and Marvin Cruz, Old Dudes in Cars Blue, who was only 2 seconds behind. We then move on to the Am class podium finishers in the overall standings, and James Connolly there, P34 for UKSimRacing Mansell, the only Am driver to get onto a 51st lap and complete it, but what a drive from the 46 driver, P34, and then further behind P39 for John Davis for Destino Motorsports, well not Destino Motorsports, reading it slightly wrong there, but for the wrong stuff we should say, just ahead of Destino Motorsports, Nicholas Rice, a lap down on the overall lead winner, and we can see there Jack Barker, P3 in the Am class, P42, the privateer in the 1634 GT, and definitely showing that the old muscle cars still got a bit of bite. But as we come further on down the finisher positions, we now come to your retirees, or your drivers who finish further laps down. And from 1 lap down of Nuyos Sabas, for what was P52, Neil Jack there 2 laps down, P53, ahead of Andrew Skinner, P54 there for Tiki Simsport Corpa, 5 laps down in the finish. And then we can see Yanis Aubert, 12 laps down at the end for our large competition pink, but will be classified as a finisher for completing over the half race distance, as will Khalid Ramadan there for Sommersport after that unfortunate incident caused him to retire early. And then drivers who will be classified as non-finishers or did not finish, i.e. DNF, for not completing over half the race distance, whereas we can see Daniel Pays there for Old Dudes in Cars Black, UKSimRacing's Casper Tunstead, Frankie Klein, the privateer, after losing out on the lead of the Am class in the early stage of the race in a nightmare incident for the privateer, and then last but not least, not able to make it to the grid due to a technical issue with the car, Symphony Esports' Ollie Pimley there, and what our 60th starter, albeit only 59 starters in the end, and when we got to see the grand total of what was, I do believe, 55 finishers. Now coming on to the individual class finishing positions. And as we can see here, starting with the elite class, this is where all the points are made and won, of course. James Armstrong there taking the win for Arnold's competition, 2.3 seconds clear of Effect Simulation's Alex Millward, and Aiden Neat in the end only a 10th, if you could call it that, at the end. We're almost been a photo finish there between the Effect Simulations and Arnold's competition drivers. Aldous Jatatis P4 for Over Limit Racing, a further 3 seconds clear of Jack Taylor, with the Tiki Simsport Tire driver completing a top 5, and then to round off the top 10, David Sobrero, Eric Rosev, Daniel Shilcock, Gavin Gardner in a challenging race for the next gen racing driver, P9 in the end after a major incident cost him quite dear in the mid stage of the race, and Reece Saunders completing the top 10 there for the team at year 1 driver in what was a bit of a difficult qualifying session, and then in the race as well, finding himself out of position and not really able to get into the elite fight. Helder Goncalves there in P11 for Tractix Racing on his debut, a challenging race, but we look forward to plenty more from the 230 driver, and then 12 laps down the end, Yanis Aubert for our large competition pink, who on lap number 2 had that spin at turn 1, of course, and fell all the way to the back of the field, and then a further pair of incidents later on in the race caused him to finish 12 laps down. And then we come onto the pro class, and here we can see as we saw Lee King McGee in what was AKM Racing at UK number 9, bringing on home P1 there, ahead of what was TC Sport Car Marty's Ryan Davies, and then Krista Halsoy at P3 for Tractics Racing, and we're only a second between the two of them in the end. Very close between them, no doubt about it, but Davies holding on Halsoy P3, and then Peter Cox and Rachel Conkley completing your top 5. Alex Hill P6 ahead of Met Hisley, with Casper Brotner P8 there for Old Dudes in Cars Black in a challenging race, and a bit of a no man's land in the end for him. Not quite able to hunt down P7, but steering clear of Josh Pratt in P9, with the Tiki Sim Sport Corporate driver finishing ahead of the Tiki Sim Sport Toyota kart of John Eddowes. Mark Collicott P11 for DCW Racing ahead of Daz Sharples, with Nicholas Rice in the end taking the finish a lap down. P13 for Destino Motorsports, and then we did have the retirees, of course, of Som Sports Kennedy Ramadan, Daniel Pays for Old Dudes in Cars Black, Peak Sim Racing's Casper Tunstead, and Ollie Pimley, who was not able to make it to the grid for Symphonite. And then come on to the Prime class. And here we can see in the Prime class what was, as we look back to the very top of the standings there, albeit give us a brief moment to get our leader back, I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, albeit they do seem to have gone a little bit camera shy there at the top, but there they are. Chris Constable, your winner in the end for the Primes for Destino Motorsports, 21.6 seconds clear of UK Sim Racing Stewart's Anne Leverett and Rob Selby, and then Marvin Cruz at P4 ahead of Simon Oldfield. A good drive for the Team Vagisil driver ahead of Stefan Albanese by 3 seconds for DRS Esports, and then Ed Frazina P7 for Carfellas in a quiet but strong race ahead of Matt Whitefoot, Jeff Griffiths, and Satinder Dean, so completed your top 10. Now as Racing Lab Esports Steinar Sunny finishing a lap down P11 ahead of Chris Round, while Leroy Jenkins driver keeping Steve Hughes for Red Miss Racing at bay, and the wrong stuffs Joe Dutton and Rob Armstrong for UK Sim Racing Mansfield completing your top 15. Conor Craven P16 in a challenging race day, particularly in that qualifying session. Chris Bates P17 ahead of Simon Andre Livingston, and Noyo Sabas completing your primes at P19. And then lastly, coming on to the AM class. Last but not least, you can see there your AM winner, James Connolly, the only driver to make it onto a lead lap, and therefore everyone else classified as a lap or more down on him for UK Sim Racing Mansell. John Davis P2 for the wrong stuff, and Jack Barker, the privateer, P3. John Doe, Matt Edmondson completing your top 5 there for TU Sim Sport Kimmy and UK Sim Racing Stewart. And in the end, we didn't quite catch the battle all the way to the end between Edmondson and Smith, but you can see Neil Smith finishing P6 and Edmondson finally finding his way through in a brilliant battle between the two of them. Guy Kylie Al P7 for the wrong stuff, fighting his way through from what was a very back of the field start, if you will. I do believe starting P10 in the class, finds his way out to P7 ahead of Cy Hartley, with James Botstock in the end at P9. A couple of unfortunate incidents cost him a potential top 5 finish, but the Patek G at P2 driver will definitely learn from that experience, as will Neil Jack, the privateer, P10. Andy Skinner P11 ahead of Frankie Klein, your sole retiree in the M class, and that concludes our run through of the finishing positions. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, all the racing here at Daytona is complete, but of course our broadcast is not over yet, as very shortly we're going to be getting ready for our post-round interviews with our drivers. But just before we do cut away to no preparation for our post-round interviews, we would like to let you know that if you have enjoyed the broadcast today and you're currently tuning in on Twitch or YouTube, either one of them, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It costs nothing, and therefore you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts, including the full season of Season 12 of the GT3 League hosted by UKSimRacing. But we'd also like to say, if you have been enjoying the racing and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to support a UK Sim Racing via an alternative means as well, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UK Sim Racing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real world motorsport companies, which do include Swello Meadows Sim Racing Coaching, Race On Air and Doing Tweaks. And if you do head to our website, uksimracing.co.uk today, which there it is on screen, you'll notice in the top right corner is a link to our Discord. Now you'll want to join our Discord for 2 reasons. Firstly, and not as quite as relevant to today, is the fact it's an absolutely vibrant and fantastic community where whether you're an esports professional all the way through to an amateur in sim racing, you are welcome at UK Sim Racing. And if you ever want to be on the grid of any of our Series 1 of our events, it's a mandatory requirement, so that way you can attend the pre-race driver briefings, which you saw one of those today in full splendour. But perhaps more relevant to what we're talking about is the fact that a number of discount codes are available from our affiliates, which are only available on the UK Sim Racing Discord. So if you do use one of those codes as part of your purchase, well, it means you're in pole position to receive a discount, and therefore it's a win for you, but it's also a win for the UK Sim Racing community, because we are a non-profit organisation. That means every penny and pound we make from an affiliate purchase, well, that goes back into funding future series, including the GT3 League, the Porsche Cup, the GT4 series that's upcoming as well, and we've got plenty more planned for 2024 and onwards, and let's not forget the MX-5 Endurance League. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief break, and we'll be back in approximately 12 minutes time for our post-round interviews with our drivers. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are set for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And today we're going to be hearing from 4 of our drivers, 1 in the Pro, 1 in the Elite, and 2 in the AM class. And we're going to be starting off with none other than Lee King McGee in the UKSimRacing UK number 9, who delivered on a spectacular win in the Pro class despite the pressure beset on him. Well, we're coming on to James Armstrong in the Elite class, and we do owe a quick apology to all of Orange competition. I do believe that's how you pronounce it. We've been referring to it as our Narge competition. Misread their team name, and I do apologise for that. We normally do butcher 1 or 2 names of the season at the start, and we happen to butcher a team name today. Indeed, that's a first for me. But enough about me. We're going to be hearing from our elite winner afterwards. We're coming on to our 2 M's of Jack Barker, the privateer, who brought the Ford GT home in a P3 after a P2 qualifying position in class. And then coming on to UKSimRacing Stewart's Matt Edmondson, with top 5 finish in the AM class, albeit thwarted to a degree of a brilliant battle of Neil Smith. But I'm joined now, ladies and gentlemen, by the one and only Lee King McGee. Lee, good evening to you, and what a drive for the season opener of the UKSimRacing GT3 League Season 12 from yourself. I mean, it looked tough out there from qualifying all the way through to 90 minutes of racing, but you found a way to steer clear in the end and bring on home a win. P9 start as well overall, P9 in the end. I mean, it's a perfect start to your championship, surely.
Yeah, good evening, Paul. Yeah, it was just basically save. It was like driving to the supermarket, just saving.
Oh, goodness me. Well, hopefully there were some specials available there, or you put on a special performance, there's no doubt about it. And starting of which, let's talk a little bit about qualifying. In the end, taking pole position by a margin that was only a 10th or 2, if that. I mean, it was close in qualifying between yourself and Rachel Conkley, but you found a way to just eke out that pole position. How did qualifying feel for you?
It was pretty good, to be honest. I've been practicing all week. It's been slippy, but that qualifying session was actually quite grippy, and yeah, I managed to nip it. But I got that penalty, didn't I, for towing, and that worried me a bit.
Oh, indeed, a bit of a penalty there with the tow. Not sure how that's going to be applied, but I'm sure that might be accreted after the racing stage. So we'll see about that. But staying on the here and now and what's in your control, taking the pole position and the start of the race, as we look back on some of the pictures here in the replay footage, it looked close early on, but it looks like with the top 8 elite drivers all fighting very hard for the lead. Yourself and Rachel behind just had a time of fuel saving and just doing mostly that for the opening stint.
Yeah, she was pretty patient, to be honest. We both were. We were just sitting behind that BMW in front of me now, and I think that was the strategy for everyone. It's just save fuel and try and get the extra laps in.
Now, on that, of course, we've seen that the BMW has been very strong on the straights today, and it does have that as one of its key themes. But I have to ask, why did you pick the BMW for this season?
I haven't drove anything different. It's my go-to car. It's reliable, stable, apart from when it's zero wing at Daytona going through the bus stop. But yeah, it's a brilliant car.
We definitely showed the brilliance of the German Marks machine, and coming a little bit deeper into the race after an opening stint that saw you lead and in the end working with one of your rivals. Stint number 2 saw a bit of a change at the front of the field, with yourself not leading but close behind the leader, and Peter Cox had jumped into lead. Was that something that's unexpected? If so, how did you react to it?
It was really unexpected. I expected to be clear, but I think he must have underfueled, and I think I had 2 laps on him, but I was coming up to 2 back markers, and me and my spotter decided, don't try and attempt to get past them. Let's pit now. They'll go off, and then we'll see what happens. And we come out, I think it was about 12 seconds ahead.
Well, I see, and the strategy working out for yourself and Peter, but then it looked as though for that second stint, perhaps the temptation was there to make the move, but also the full process of, if I make the move, is it only going to cost me time?
Yeah, well, I think if I had made that move, he'd have got in my slipstream, saved the fuel, and most probably come out in front of us in the last stint. So it was just a case of just staying behind him, and hopefully he didn't make a mistake, and he didn't.
Indeed, taking that approach and no mistakes being made from Peter, definitely drove a solid race of his own. We saw you come into the pits once again and then emerging from the pits the final time, a clear track in front of you at long last, and it looked like it was just time to bring the race home.
Yeah, it was just, I don't think a fuel saved then. It was just full pace all the way to the end, and yeah, it worked out all well. Come home with 0x as well, which I was shocked with.
goodness me, well, you couldn't ask for a more perfect start to the season with also an instant-free race all the way from lights out to checker flag. And of course, Daytona's proven to be quite a circuit today for the power cars, but we've got tons of variety coming up. But for yourself, are there any rounds in this season that you sort of looked at going into it and thinking, you know what, I might have a bit of difficulty there? Alternatively, any other rounds this season where you're thinking, you know what, that's going to be my round to claim?
Suzuka's usually my not to go to track. I always fail there, as my dad will tell you. Every time I go there, I always hit the pit wall. But I'm looking forward to next week, Hockenheim.
Oh yes, and just with regards to Hockenheim, I was going to ask, you're looking forward to it. With regards to the circuit, is there anything particular as a circuit you normally go well at, or just something that you sort of gel with?
The BMW is really good there, and yeah, I really enjoy racing there.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and we look forward to plenty more from yourself in the coming week. I mean, I have to say, Lee, with the race you've put on today plus qualifying, you've definitely given yourself a target on your back to beat, because you've now set the standard very high. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast today?
Yeah, me father's team, UKSimRacing UK, me spotter Michael Goff that was with me tonight, and me dad for setting it all up, to be honest.
Well, Lee, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room, no doubt about it. I think everyone tuning in on Twitch and YouTube will agree, what a drive from yourself today to lead the way at the front of the pro field. Will it be able to continue at the Hockenheim ring? We'll have to wait and see, but you've definitely set the standard high, and we look forward to plenty more. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your evening, and congratulations again on your victory.
Thank you very much, Paul. Good night, mate.
You too. All the best. So hearing it there from Lee King McGee, and definitely a man who delivered today, no doubt about it, with what was a fantastic drive. But talking about that qualifying session, in so close between himself and Conkley, and will making the BMW work. And interesting there to hear his thoughts on why the BMW M4, it's a car which he's always gone to when it comes to GT3s on iRacing, and well, in demonstrating that, and it has been his go-to today, and well, it shows in the fact the first stint, as he said, really just waiting and playing the fuel-saving game. And we thought as much in the early stages that for himself and Rachel behind, it would be about fuel saving as we see those replay pictures here. But then as the racing went on, we went to that second stint, and the surprise to see Peter Cox in the lead of the pro class after the first stint. But then just simply managing the race behind Peter and respecting the fact, okay, different strategies, save the fuel, and then going to stint number 3. And that's where the lead would come. And that was it for Lee King McGee, just simply running away at the end, and nobody was there to try and pull him back in. And well, looking forward to the Hockenheim ring next week. But conversely, saying that Suzuka could be the bogey round, if you will, and mentioning the fact that every time he's been there, he always finds a way to hit the pit wall. And well, a bit of a surprise there, but the UKSimRacing UK driver might be able to avoid the pit wall this season. We'll have to wait and see. But I can tell you one thing, whether he hits a wall or not, he's set a wall for everyone else to break through. Will they be able to do so? Well, we'll have to see, because the UKSimRacing UK outfit started strong, and can Lee find a way to carry the momentum forward in Germany? I definitely think he'll try to, and we'll see in a week's time. And now coming on to our second interview, ladies and gentlemen, and I've also just been recently informed that we were correct with regards to the pronunciation of Arnage competition. It's not Orange, indeed a bit of a typo there with regards to the team name, and we apologise for that and the confusion. But it's going to be my pleasure very shortly to welcome into the interview room James Armstrong, your winner today in the elite class, as he gets ready to join me in the interview room now. And well, we're going to be hearing the thoughts from the man who definitely was right at the front of the field and found himself in the thick of the battling all the way through. And well, as he gets set, we are just waiting for a brief moment, but I think he is just having a debrief with some of the other interviewees. Indeed, they're all in a voice chat right now and talking about their race. But he joins me now. Good evening to you, James, and what a race from yourself and indeed the whole team at Arnage competition today. But you were the man to bring on home that win in the end. I mean, it looked tough out there, and it set the standard for the season, surely.
Yeah, it was a really fun race. I mean, I'm sad that the team couldn't get a 1-2-3 or even a 1-2-3-4, but it was really good, really fun racing at the start with Alex, and then it was all about just saving the fuel, building the gap. We had a bit of a different strategy to everybody else, just so we could build that gap up, but we got quite unlucky. We had a few lap down cars spinning in front of us, which ultimately cost David and Aiden P2 and 3.
Now we'll come on to the strategy and the breakdown of the race very shortly as we look back at some of the replay race pictures and the battling immediately in yourself and what was, I do believe at the time, Jack Taylor or one of the Tiki Sim Sport machines definitely starting to fight. But let's talk a little bit about qualifying. P5 overall and in class. Qualifying looked as though it was very nip and tuck inside the top 10. But I have to ask, do you feel there was perhaps a little bit more out there for yourself?
I think if I had a slipstream, then definitely, for sure, I would have had pole position because my lap was whilst I was slipstreaming my teammate. But yeah, maybe not much without the slipstream.
I see, so just needing a little bit of a toe, but otherwise a very strong lap. Well, definitely we saw your abilities in the toe start to show when we went racing, and just take us through from your perspective, that opening 15 minutes, I mean, there was the constant back and forth between Alex, then Aiden, so that's Alex Millward and Aiden Lee, and then yourself getting involved, also David Sobrero getting involved in the McLaren. I mean, it was non-stop. We thought you guys were in a sprint race that was only 15 minutes long, let alone a 90-minute endurance.
Yeah, I mean, the plan was just to get 1, 2, 3 and then just get away, so we were doing everything we could do to get that 1, 2, 3, but Alex certainly didn't make it easy.
Oh, without a doubt, and just with that batting as well, because fuel saving is so important here at Daytona, many call it the slipstream train race. Did that change the way that you guys looked at the fuel saving going forward?
I mean, yeah, we came at the race knowing that fuel saving was going to be a big thing, and as soon as we got 1, 2, 3 in front, we were just, the guy at the front saves a bit, the guy in second saves a bit more, and then because I was third in the train, I got to save the most. We were going to swap around in the second stint, but just the traffic meant that it would never really got, like, I was never close enough to Aiden to make us not lose too much time, and then by the time I was close enough, it was like 4 laps until he was pitting. So it was a shame that he couldn't save any fuel.
I see, and of course the compromises to the strategy and therefore some fuel saving being left off the table. It definitely looked as though as we went deep into the race and particularly into that second stint, the plan to get that 1, 2, 3, it may have been disrupted a bit, and then traffic starts to become a big factor as well.
Yeah, traffic was huge. We had a Ferrari spinning on the hairpin. That cost us a few seconds, and then that cost David the slipstream from me and Aiden. And as soon as David was out the slipstream, he started dropping like half a second every lap, and there was nothing much we could do because we couldn't really afford to drop back the 2, 3 seconds to get him back up to us.
And then add into that as well, of course, yourself and Aiden working quite closely, but always the risk of Alex Millward and also Geraldus Jatatis working together. And they seem to be on a slightly off strategy compared to yourselves, pitting initially 1 lap later, and then Alex 2 laps later come the end of the second stint. Were you concerned about the fact that perhaps they'd done an excessive amount of fuel saving and it could enable them to leapfrog you guys to the lead on the final stint?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I was a bit more calm because I'd saved quite a lot more, because obviously I was like 3 seconds or something in front of Aiden. But David was going, nah, I am going to be so far behind. And then Aiden was starting to go, you know, I think they're going to come out in front of me. You know, it's going to be close. And then they came out right behind Aiden, and then, yeah, they had their little battle.
Oh, indeed, and it was a fantastic battle all the way to the end, and it looked as though in the early stages of the final stint battle, we saw you trying to provide a bit of support to Aiden, but in the end, with the 3 of you closing up and Alex and Aiden battling hard, you were just left to gradually break away. Just taking us through the dynamic there.
Yeah, so Aiden was like, might need a bit of a slipstream here, so I dropped back a little bit, but then as soon as Alex got past Aiden, I was like, it's too risky, I got to get out of here. I didn't want to lose the win. So yeah, as soon as I saw that Alex got past Aiden and then the slipstream wasn't really working, I just made sure to get out of the slipstream.
Well, that's an absolutely sensible approach. And again, bringing home the win and what was a 1-3 for yourself and Aiden, and David in the end taking P6. Not quite up there compared to where he started the race, but still big points on the board. And coming to focus briefly on yourself, of course, you've gone with the newcomer, the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2 for this season. Would you be mind to explain why you've gone with that car compared to the other 7 available?
I think it's just quickest, or yeah, most comfortable in, except maybe the BMW, but I didn't really fancy the BMW, and since Aiden was going in the Audi, it's, you know, good to go in the same car as your teammates.
Well, that's Absolutely fair and sensible reasoning. And looking ahead now, of course, we've got another 7 rounds of racing to come, and we continue the story next week at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg Grand Prix circuit. How are you feeling to a trip to Germany?
I think it'll be fun. It'll certainly be a very different race to this one. A lot less slipstream, a lot less fuel saving, and more just raw pace and qualifying, because it's quite hard to overtake at that track.
Well, James, just before we do let you go, and we look forward to seeing more from you, of course, in a week's time, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I'll give a shout out to my parents and everything for buying all my rig and stuff, and then the new team Arnage competition seems to be going pretty good with this, and shout out to Aiden and David for doing good in qualifying and giving me the slipstream and allowing me to save so much fuel.
Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview, and loving the team dynamic at Arnage competition and how you guys are trying to work together. It definitely worked out for yourself today, taking the first elite and oval win of the season in the Audi R8, and we look forward to seeing plenty more from yourself in Germany in a week's time. But until then, congratulations on your win, and we'll have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you.
So hearing there from James Armstrong, our elite and overall winner today for Arnage competition, having qualified P5, and interesting to hear there that he wasn't quite able to get the slipstream he wanted in qualifying that could have potentially put him on pole. He had a lot of confidence to say he would be on pole with the slipstream, but in the end, giving slipstream to his teammates. And again, Arnage competition very strong out the gate, demonstrating how important that team's championship is and working together as dynamic just as much as it is about individual performances. And we'll see that play out then in the race itself. And we got to see the thrilling, and you're seeing it on the pictures right now, ladies and gentlemen, the thrilling back and forth between the 3 Arnage competition drivers of James Armstrong, Aidan Nee, and also what was David Sobrero, and then Alex Milward, the Effect Simulations Porsche that continued to be an ever obstinate thorn in their side. But in the end, when all was said and done, well, with that plus also the spins of back markers midway through the race on the second and also the third stint to a lesser extent, it did mean that James found himself in the position of being the leader of the pack, and despite trying to work with Aidan to try and break him clear of Alex in the end, we had to make the conscious decision that if he was to stay back any further, well, then he would be at risk of losing the win, and indeed the big haul of points for the team starting to potentially fade away. And could they have gone the way of Alex Milward? Well, that's a big what if question, but in the what if question not coming to materialise, and James Armstrong bringing home the win. But great to see such close racing, and already looking forward to next week. And well, could we see that 1, 2, 3 that Arnage competition are chasing potentially come to light in a week's time? Well, you have to be there to see whether it happens. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, we come on to our third interviewee, and we're going to come from the elite class down to the AM class in terms of the pace of our drivers, but by no means the scale of the result. And very shortly joining me in the interview room is going to be none other than Jack Barker as he gets ready to join me. And well, I do believe he's just currently in the pre-interview room at the moment, having a conversation with some of the other drivers. But in a very short order, he's going to join me, and we're going to hear the story of the man behind the Ford GT and how he's able to put it through to P3. Well, as he joins me very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, and in fact, I do believe he joins me now. Good evening to you, Jack. And just for context for ladies and gentlemen, Jack and I caught up a couple of days before the race started. He mentioned to me about the fact the Ford GT was going to be on the grid. There was a devilish grin on his face, and also a lot of enthusiasm for bringing a car that definitely was going to be the order pick for this season. And Jack, a P3 today after a P2 in qualifying. I mean, a great achievement from yourself.
V8 motor, baby! Was not expecting that, to be honest. I think I spent most of the week practicing on a different setup, which was quite a bit different to the setup I'm on now. I didn't have this pace at all, to be honest. And P2 qualifying, somehow got to P3 in the race. I am ecstatic.
Well, indeed, I can hear it in your voice there. And well, as we look back on qualifying in particular, firstly, qualifying in the AM class, very close from start to finish, but focusing in particular on the fight for P2. And indeed, it was a close fight between yourself and what was, I do believe, as we just double check our statistics here, none other than Matt Edmondson, who we're going to be talking to very shortly. In fact, the two of you separating the end down to the nearest 10,000th in qualifying, with you just pipping him to the post, and then Frank Klein taking pole by 2.5 tenths. I mean, I have to ask, how did qualifying feel for you?
Well, qualifying was very much a roller coaster because I started off and I was out pretty soon, which is very different on numbers. I normally stay in the pits until everyone's gone out and then have some free track. But I decided to go out at the start because I knew the car would have straight line speed, so I didn't want to get caught behind anyone. And then on the first lap, yeah, kind of span it at the kink. Was incredibly lucky to not hit any walls. Sort of kept where I was way, and then just went back to the pits, did a reset on pits, and yeah, just went again. Yeah, had the car filled up for 4 laps of fuel. Then what was actually going to be my in lap, I was actually up on the time by about 2 tenths, so I had to make a very tough call as to whether to complete the lap and call that an end to my qualifying, as I wouldn't have enough fuel to get around back to the pits, or to go into the pits and risk it for another lap. And yeah, something was just feeling different about the car on that night, tonight even. And yeah, I decided to take the risk, and it paid off. I got a whole 4 tenths on my previous bests, and set a PB in the 44s, which yeah, I said in the YouTube chat, I'd never done a 44 before at Daytona. Yeah.
Well, definitely a late achievement in qualifying and a risk versus reward, where the reward was worth taking the risk for. But let's now come on to the race. And in the early stage of the race, looked as though you were doing well to hold position, albeit yourself and Matt battling very hard for P2. But then coming into turn number 7 on the opening lap, it looked as though the concertina effect was in full play, and you just happened to find yourself at the wrong place at the right time to be pushed down the order.
Yeah, and I mean, I always find myself being overly cautious on lap 1. I just think, yeah, just massive packs, a lot of potential to go wrong, and it did go wrong. You know, we had the big concertina at turn 7. I mean, we had to cause for car left, but I don't think I wasn't able to predict, you know, the massive slowing down of everyone else in front. I just thought we'd all get through fine. I could see the car was off to the left, so I knew the track was going to be clear. But yeah, everyone's hit the brakes. I gave a tap to the Audi in front, and then I got an even bigger tap from the Audi behind, and that gave me a lap 1 meatball.
Oh, goodness me, an absolute nightmare start to your race, but still, you didn't go up, you're in it to win it, and after that, pushing back and charging your way back through the field, and I have to imagine that the heart of it wasn't just your determination, but also a Ford GT that was just eating up the speed on the straights.
Yeah, the car was on absolute fire tonight. I think as previous interviews have mentioned, yeah, the track was quite grippy, which helped a lot for me because, you know, the car was set up for the straights, which really helped us in the corner, and especially helped me on traction because, yeah, I'm winning some quite low TC because I really don't like the new TC how it works. So yeah, good grip helps me with that, and yeah, I mean. I was already gonna just bomb it from the start, but yeah, having that lap 1 pit stop really just made me just go flat out the entire race, and yeah, it ended up working out perfectly.
Oh, without a doubt. And as the race went on, and of course having to do the 1 extra pit stop by default, it meant that you had to bring yourself back in sync with your rivals. And we did see in the early stages some very early pit stops being done by other drivers, and well, in particular we saw quite an early pit stop from the wrong stuff's John Davis, who in the end took P2 just ahead of yourself. Did that potentially make you consider, okay, when do I need to take the pit stops that I now need to put in sequence to the rest of the drivers? Just how did you work your strategy to get you back into the hunt for the podium?
I didn't. I just kept driving as if it didn't happen, if I'm honest. Yeah, I just did what I was always going to do. I tried to work out the first stop. As I found out in the sort of VRS in the weeks up, the Ford does not like old tyres. So I was always going to be sort of jigging my pit stops around to sort of under fuel at like the second one. So instead of taking a full tank at the first pit stop, I only took 60 litres instead of 70, and that was so that at the second stop, I would, in theory, be taking on enough fuel to cover off a second full set of tyre change. So yeah, I used 12 tyres in that race, which I think really helped me, especially towards the end.
Oh, definitely. Quite the interesting call there and strategy, but it worked out in your favour. And in the closing stages of the race, after taking P3 on the pit stop, we did see you trying to chase down John Davis for P2, but it looked as though the gap started to become a little bit too great, plus also the intervention of Nicholas Rice and Rob Armstrong as well between the two of you. Did you settle on P3 at that point, or were you still thinking, no, what, I can bring that P2 if I just give it a little bit more?
I think after a while, so I mean, what was like 20-25 minutes left to go, I came out the pits, P3, 6 seconds, 5-6 seconds behind John. You know, I was giving it a good go. Don't get me wrong, I was definitely trying, but then yeah, I mean, I think even regardless of Rice or Armstrong, I don't think I would have got second. The only thing that could have got me second was so when I came to the pits for the meatball. Obviously it's the first lap, and we're still in the massive pack, so I didn't bother to change any of my pit strategy whilst on the track. And then when I came to the pit lane, I decided to do all that, but I had a really early pit box, and so I ended up having to change one tyre in that first pit stop. So that cost me 5 seconds, which 5 seconds from that's 5 seconds behind John. It was quite annoying, but yeah, no, before was giving it all it had, but the gap just wasn't moving, and then I had an incident. I had a minor incident with a couple of laps to go, and yeah, that point was like 9 out of 10, and it was done from there. Just get it home safely in third.
We need a smart and sensible end to the race from yourself, and of course the big what-if question if it weren't for that extra tyre being rolled onto the car, but I'm sure you'll speak to the pit crew about that after the race today. But looking ahead to the wider calendar now, of course, 8 rounds of racing. This has just been round number 1. And I have to ask, with regards to the Ford GT, we know that you like to pick a bit of the oddball picks, but why the Ford for this season?
Since joining the service, I have always loved the Ford and wanted to run the Ford. And I think with this current season's BOP and the change they made at the start of the season, the Ford is A, now drivable, and B, not a mile off pace. And so, also with the with sort of rumours of the Mustang, you know, of course the Mustang's going to come at some point. So it's like, whilst I can still race a GT like I've always wanted to do, I wanted to do it.
Well, that's absolutely fair. And well, looking ahead now to round number 2 in a week's time, we head to the Hockenheimring Grand Prix circuit. How are you feeling for the highly technical Tilke circuit?
I mean, that's the beauty of having a very rarely used car. I literally have no idea. I will find out when I start doing VRS races from Tuesday onwards, and the practice session tomorrow night. I really have no idea.
Oh goodness me, we're taking a huge step into the unknown. I can already see in the Twitch chat a number of individuals giving you praise for going all in, including UKSimRacing's Chris Edisford there. And well, Jack, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to say thank you or give a shout out to on the broadcast tonight?
Well, I mean, I'd obviously like to give a massive shout out to the UKSR team for setting up this season. It's 60 cars on the grid. It's not easy to get everything organised and set up. So yeah, massive shout out to them to be able to accomplish this, and then massive shout out to yourself. For I'm sure I'm going to be watching back at either just after this or tomorrow morning, and grinning, seeing everything going off.
Well, Jack, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me in the interview room. As always, congratulations once again on a 3rd place on the podium in the AM class. It was a challenging race, but you made the Ford sing and roar out loud, and long may it continue. And we look forward to plenty more of that from yourself in the weeks ahead. But until then, well done once again, and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So hearing there from Jack Barker, the Ford GT driver, the privateer, who really just going into the unknown from round to round, as we asked him about Hockenheimring in a week's time, but still giving it all today. And after the opening instant, which we didn't quite catch the second instant of which the meatball flag, but deciding, right, I've got to make an extra pit stop now, just put the hammer down and not let go. Indeed, it may be like a scene out of Ford versus Ferrari or Le Mans 66, depending on your national region. But either way, as the man charged over 7,000 RPM today, well, pushing onwards and upwards and not thinking about strategy in the end other than doing the 2 pit stops as per the schedule plus the extra one, and well, bringing on home a surprise, perhaps 3rd place in the end, but still absolutely committed, and a 2nd place in qualifying as well. Could this be the season where the Ford GT goes on the charge in the AM class? Well, Jack Barker, I think, will feel so. I think some of his rivals right now will be raising an eyebrow going, okay, so it went well at Daytona, but surely when the corners matter in Germany, it's not going to be as strong. Well, Jack's going to try and prove them otherwise, and we look forward to seeing whether he can continue that tale in a week's time. We're now coming to our final interview of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and it's going to be none other than what was 5th place finisher Matt Edmondson, and we're very shortly going to hear from the driver from UKSimRacing, who definitely had a challenging race today, but also I think one we definitely got to enjoy being right in the thick of it. And as he joins me now in the interview room, good evening to you, Matt. A 3rd place in qualifying in the AM class, a 5th place in the race overall in the end after a brilliant battle with Neil Smith. I mean, it's good to see you back on form firstly, and it looked as though Daytona really made you work hard for the results.
Yeah, I think I made myself work hard to begin with, to be fair, though. But I've always really liked this track. It just seems to suit me really quite well. So I was looking forward to coming here and trying to put something in. It's another case of what if, but I can take a lot of the positives from the opening round.
Oh, without a doubt. And we'll come on to those some potential what-ifs very shortly, but let's talk about one of the big parts of your day. Qualifying firstly, 3rd place in class, missing out on 2nd place in the end by 10 thousandths of a second versus Jack Barker, who we heard from only moments ago, and 2.5 tenths to Frankie Klein, who took pole position. It looks like qualifying was close, and with 3 different machines in the top 3, it looks like it was a qualifying session you enjoyed.
Yeah, I did a really weird strat for it where I just put 30 litres into the car and just decided to just drive. And I was right at the start of the pit lane, so I thought, right, I'll try and get out first. And then I had a mistake on my first lap, which, as it turned out, put me behind Alan, my teammate, which proved really useful for that final personal best, because Alan was right there giving me slipstream all the way around. So big kudos to Alan for that, because I wouldn't probably have been as fast if I could have if I didn't have his slipstream.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and a big thank you to Alan, of course, as a result of that, and slipstream being ever critical in qualifying, as we heard from yourself now, plus also James Armstrong earlier on this evening. But then coming from qualifying into the race, it was always going to be a challenging race from the start. 90 minutes of Daytona always pushes drivers to the limit. And at the start of the race, it looked as though you were very eager to try and make the charge for P2 versus Jack Barker. And for a time, you were looking to make it work around the outside into turn 1.
Yeah, the start seemed to catch me out a bit, because things were going slow, and then there was a bit of a slowness on the inside, and the outside just opened up completely. So I thought, well, I'll try and hang it around the outside and just try and stay as safe as possible. And it seemed to work quite well there, and I managed to get past Jack, get up into 2nd, and just try and plod along away from there.
And with regards to taking that 2nd place and then pushing onwards, we saw the lead of the AM class change hands multiple times. At first it was Frankie Klein, who fell quite short due to a major incident of what turns 1 in to do. And then for yourself, it looked as though the lead that was coming very quickly slipped out of your grasp.
Yeah, I've apologised to Frank, because well, I've put it in the main chat. I was behind him coming into that corner, into T1, and he had a slow run. In fact, it's showing up on the stream now, and his I didn't expect it, tapped him slightly, and then in a somewhat, I can't, with like some karma. It took me out, and I got a meatball from that. And how I managed to get that back to the pits without towing, I think that may have saved my race a bit, because I was able, because of the time that it was in the race, I was still able to fill up with fuel and not have to do an extra pit stop and just do the fast repair. So from that point, it was just try and get the hammer down and see what I could recover from that mistake of mine.
Oh, goodness me, and like you say, we're just seeing it on the replay footage there, and it was a difficult moment for yourself, and appreciate you've already put your hand up to it and also addressed it with Frank. And bringing the car back to the pits and getting it back out there, of course, now having to get your head down and go on the attack. Did it change the way you planned your strategy for the rest of the race, given the fact you had to essentially, in a way, bring forward a pit stop and then have to try and push on? And also, we do have, of course, that changed fuel limit for this season of 70%.
Luckily, it didn't affect me too much. I think I may have had a shorter. If I'd have done what I wanted to do, I would have had a shorter second stop. But I think it just didn't really change how I was going to do it. I wasn't. Well, I know that the Arnage boys were all helping each other fuel save. I was finding that every time I was trying to kind of fuel save early on in the race, I ended up being caught by packs of pro and pro-am drivers who just wanted to get past, and I just lost a lot of time. So I was like, right, no fuel saving. I'm just going to push on as hard as possible. I know I've got pace in the car, so if I can get some more decent lap times out, I can potentially try and jump a few up the guys in pit stops and try and catch up to somewhere in the pack.
Indeed, makes sense. And as we do see the fast repair going on, you successfully bring it into the pits. Looking forward then in terms of the remainder of the race, we did see in that second stint you make a lot of ground as some of your rivals didn't quite have your pace or ended up in instance of their own. But then coming out the pits for the final time, going into that final stint, one slight hiccup. One Neil Smith deciding he wasn't just going to let you go.
Yeah, he's we've had a chat with that because it was a good battle. He apologised for the dive bomb into there, but it was a good battle. I have to admit I was frustrated behind there because that BMW was so wide, and as it turned out, Neil was fuel saving because he was trying to, I think, he'd had an earlier incident which I'd seen. So he was trying to not do another pit stop, but that meant he had to save about 6 laps of fuel or something like that. And unfortunately, the Ferrari is it's decent at everything, but it's not like, say, the Porsche or anything like that. It's better than the BMW on the infield, but just not quite fast enough to catch up. And then it's just the BMW just has the legs on it, so many times I'd just catch him up into T1 and then I'd have no way to get through. It was it was such an interesting battle that I had to try and do some mind games to try and get a decent run out of that corner into International Horseshoe, and eventually I managed to get past. I think that if I'd have managed to get past Neil a bit earlier, looking at the pace, I could have potentially caught John Doble for 4th, but considering what happened, I'll take a 5th place. And it was a really good battle with Neil for multiple laps, with many many cars trying to lap us and dodging in and out of that. So it was overall quite a fun battle.
Oh, without a doubt. And as we look back at some of the batting and the replay pictures here, coming from the car choice then, and particularly seeing Neil's BMW being able to outdrag the Ferrari, we know that you've had a lot of faith in the Ferrari, previously with the 488 Evo and now with the 296 that's arrived on iRacing in 2023. May I ask why you've stuck with the Ferrari for this season?
I think, well, I did some testing of other things. I tried the Audi and it just didn't sit well with me. The Porsche, I did have was able to match my pace in the Ferrari quite quick, but I struggled with a lot of the high speed instability that it can have, so it just felt natural to go back to what has been a stable platform for me. And it doesn't feel to me, I mean, again, I'm just an AM driver, but the changes to the traction control haven't affected my ability to drive the car. So I thought we'll keep with something that is proven for me, and I know what I can do.
Well, that's an absolutely fair and I think a sensible approach, no doubt about it. Going with what you know and what you feel confident in, and when the car hasn't experienced too much of a change with the traction control update at the start of this year, then all the better for it. Now, of course, Daytona has been a lot about power today, but in a week's time, we make our way to Germany for the highly technical and corner-focused Hockenheimring. How are you feeling for round number 2?
That's going to be an interesting one. It's 50-50 whether I'm going to make it, depending on work. But that track is a lot more difficult to overtake on. And I've usually struggled with the latter part of the lap, so I know I need to do a bit of work on that. In fact, my very first race in UKSR, way back in, what was it, season 3, back when there was 120 drivers and you had to qualify for the main race. I was in the sort of the second, what we could call it, the consolation race, as it were. And I did have a battle all the way to the win there. So I do like the track. It's just going to be interesting with this many cars going round, especially that hairpin on lap 1. And there's kind of like the bus stop here. There's so many potentials for off tracks at the first corner. So it's going to be interesting with 17x in an hour to play with.
Oh, without a doubt. We really do appreciate the insight from your perspective regarding the Hockenheimring and what is to potentially come in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, Matt, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on air tonight?
As usual, all the guys who were behind the scenes to get the leagues running, yourself for the broadcast, all the stewards, all my UKSR teammates, big shout out especially to Alan and Rob for having a great P2, P3 in that, and of course to James for his maiden win in the class. It's been a long time coming for him. Those guys are all been great, seeing as I've taken over from Peter this season organising the teams, so it's just they've been really helpful with everything.
Well, Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview, and we need to say a big thank you to you for the absolutely incredible intro for this season of the GT3 League. I mean, give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. If that intro doesn't get your spine tingling before we go racing, I don't know what we're on. I don't know how you do it, Matt, but one thing I can tell you is we know how you managed to pick up a P5 today in that Ferrari, and it was a fantastic drive. Thank you very much for joining me in the interview. Congratulations on bringing the result on home, and we look forward to plenty more from yourself in a week's time at the Hockenheimring.
Cheers, Paul.
So hearing it there from Matt Edmondson in the AM class, and the UKSimRacing Stuart driver absolutely going all in today when it all went wrong in the early stages. And we got to see the replay of the moment where there was contact between himself and Frankie Klein. It was one of those instances which could have been avoided, potentially, but you know what, it's happened. And like Matt said, moved on from it, apologised about it, and got his head down and carried on with the race. And even before that, going into qualifying, what a qualifying session as well. Just missing out on second place by a fractional margin. And in at the end, having to start P3 but fighting hard and chasing the lead. But in the end, he'd end up chasing P5, and we got to see a brilliant battle between himself and Neil Smith to the line. We got to see that in the replay cameras as well. And just in the background, whilst we're interviewing Matt, and we've got to see some fantastic racing, and well, with the Ferrari, going with a car he's confident with and feels in control of, and he'll be looking to try and take himself a step further and not have the discomfort of what was round number 1 today with those difficulties, and perhaps bring on home at least a podium, if not the win in round number 2. But can Matt do it? Well, you have to be there and tune in a week's time to find out, but I get the feeling he may just go all in for it, and he may just be feeling confident he can pull it off. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And you've just heard from the UKSimRacing Stewart driver in the AM class of Matt Edmondson in the 176. Before him, we heard from fellow AM driver Jack Barker, the privateer, in the 163. And we also got to hear from drivers from the other classes today. In the elite class, James Armstrong for Arnage Competition in the number 47 Audi. And our first interview was our pro driver of UKSimRacing UK's Lee King-McGee, the number 9, bringing home that win in the pro class. Congratulations to all 4 of our drivers, and thank you to them all for joining me for a post-race interview. And we look forward to seeing how they get on in a week's time. And hopefully next week we might get an interview or two with one of our Pro-Am class drivers, for the simple reason we didn't get any of them today, and we'd love to hear their thoughts on the racing in a week's time. But until then, well done to all of our drivers today for an absolutely splendid season opener. There's no doubt about it. But we're not quite done yet, ladies and gentlemen, because now we need to give you an update on the provisional standings after what is our first round of racing. And as we can see, we start off with the elite class, and in the Elite Drivers' Championship, James Armstrong has taken an early lead of 2 points for what is Arnage Competition over Effect Simulation's Alex Millwood. Behind Aidan Neat in P3, currently right now bringing on home was a key third place, but the team wants to make it a 1-2-3 if possible, and he has a 2-point advantage over Geraldo Stratatas with Jack Taylor fighting to that P5. David Sobrero in a difficult day today, P6 ahead of Eric Rosev, with Daniel Shilcock, Gavin Garner and Reece Saunders completing a top 10, and then Helder Goncalves and what is Yanis Ulber completing your top 12, indeed all of your elite class. And keep your eyes out for Yanis Ulber, for the simple reason I get the feeling he's going to be on the attack next week and looking to try and fight his way back through to the lead. But then coming on to the pro class, and here we can see at the very top it's Lee King-McGee bringing on home 41 out of 42 available points, not quite picking up in the end what was, I do believe, the fastest lap, that going the way of Rachel Concoli. But as we can see, what is there, a win of the UKSimRacing UK driver and 3 points clear of Ryan Davies, with the Tiki Simsport Carl Marte driver fight his way through to P2 ahead of Krista Housesoy for Tractix Racing. Pete Cox and Rachel Conkley completing a top 5 there in their brilliant duel in the end, and great sportsmanship between the two of them when it did go wrong. Alex Hill, P6 header, Met Hisley at P7, then Casper Brotner, Josh Pratt and John Ellows completing a top 10. And outside the top 10, looking to break into it next week, Mark Collicott, Daz Sharples, Nicholas Rice, Khalid Ramadan, Ollie Pimley, Casper Tunstead and Daniel Pays, with Pimley not able to make it to the grid due to a technical issue, and Casper Tunstead with that premature retirement, and Daniel Pays as well. A difficult day for the trio, and we look forward to seeing more from them in a week's time in Germany. We then come to the Pro-Am class, and on its debut on the season, it's Chris Constable who took the first ever Pro-Am win for Destino Motorsports ahead of UKSimRacing Stewart's Anne Lever and Rob Selby. Teamwork between the two teammates has given them a good chance inside the top 3 already, and Marvin Cruz has been given pursuit a further 3 points behind. Simon Oldfield completes the top 5 in a solid day today ahead of Stefan Albanese, with Ed Frazina, Matt Whitefoot, Jeff Griffiths and Satinder Deensa completing a top 10. Stana Sunny P11 ahead of Chris Round, where Leroy Jenkins driver fending off Steve Hughes to the very end for Red Miss Racing, and then it's Joel Douton and Rob Armstrong completing the top 15. And to wrap up the stands there, Connor Craven ahead of Chris Bates, with Stephen Andre Livingston and Noyo Sabas completing at the 19 drivers. And then lastly, coming on to the AM class, here we can see James Conley leads the way by a single point over John Davis, with Conley not picking up pole position or the fastest lap. Fastest lap going to John Davis, and that's why he's only a point away from the race winner. And it's close between the UKSimRacing Manson and the wrong stuff driver, and I think Davis would be thinking that he was the one to win the race today if it weren't for that instant, but still that's the way things went. Jack Barker a further 3 points behind ahead of John Doble, with Matt Edmondson completing the top 5. Neil Smith P6 ahead of Guy Kyliao, with Cy Hartley, James Bostock and Neil Jack completing a top 10. And then Andy Skinner P11 ahead of Frankie Klein, who despite his early retirement brings home a bonus point for the pole position. And Shaminda Deansett and Dave Robson not picking up any points as they weren't on the grid today, and they complete your AM Drivers' Championship standings. And then we have the Teams Championship to consider, and here we can see the top 20, and the story is that Arnage Competition lead the way, 2 points clear of UKSimRacing Stewart after what is a round of racing, and Destino Motorsports only behind based on result countback in P3. The wrong stuff in P4 on 67 points. We have a small gap between the top 3 and the rest of the field, but then again, it's early days to say it's a top 3 horse race, and need the wrong stuff right now. 3 points clear of both Tiki Simsport Kimi and Carl Marte, with the latter team being behind their sister team based on result countback, and then it's Tractrix Racing P7 ahead of Tiki Simsport Tower, with UKSimRacing Mansell and Racing Lab Esports completing a top 10. Arnage Competition Pink in a difficult day today, outside the top 10 based on result countback, but equal to Racing Lab Esports and 2 ahead of Tiki Simsport Corpa, and then it's AKM Racing UK in P13 ahead of Effect simulations with Over Limit Race in P15, and then to wrap up the top 20, Prismatic Motorsports, Team Vagisil, DRS Esports, Sloshy Motorsports, and Carfellas. And Carfellas have 4 points over P21 team, Petec GP2, and Next Gen Racing as well, both on 24 points. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's broadcast and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to be on the grid or at least know more about UKSimRacing and what leagues we have upcoming and ongoing, well, for all that information and more, the best recommendation we can make is to go to our official website. You saw it earlier on in today's broadcast, and to repeat the URL again, it's uksimracing.co.uk, where you can find out all the latest details about our ongoing and upcoming series and how to become a member of the community. Alternatively, if you're more of a social media person, the best place to go to is our official Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, but the URL is twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, and there you can stay up to date with all the latest announcements regarding our upcoming and ongoing series, including the broadcast, but also on top of that, you can find out a little bit more behind the scenes as to the performances of the official UKSimRacing esports teams. We'd also like to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include, of course, firstly, Swello Meda Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swello Meda Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing drive to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swello Meda has a coaching course to meet your needs. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, and to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. Amazon, the company trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include but are not limited to Amazon Prime, Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Alexa. And then lastly, we have SRC Driver Academy. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? Affordable quality coaching. They have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights on the competitive edge. They make high-quality coaching accessible to all and affordable costs tailored to your needs and goals. Whether you want to learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more, they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to round number 2, and save the date in the diary. If you thought today's racing at Daytona was absolutely intense, well, the sprint race at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg in Germany in a week's time is only going to up the tempo. 60 minutes of racing await our drives in our first sprint race round of the season, and at a circuit where overtaking is very challenging at the best of the times, track position is going to be key from the outset, but that's not to say there's not going to be battling into the circuit's wide open corners, particularly the turn 6 hairpin. But who is going to carry on the momentum and who is going to lead the way in Germany? We'll find out on Sunday the 14th of January 2024. But until then, we've been UKSimRacing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay well, stay safe, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.